Chapter 1. Rejected by the chosen one of fortune. Jiang Chen, unexpectedly transported to a foreign realm, resolves to complete the system's tasks to reunite with his family on Blue Star. The system instructs, please locate the chosen ones of fortune from 9 worlds and assist them in ascending to the pinnacle of their respective planes to earn the reward of returning to Blue Star. Jiang Chen muses, at last, it is the 9th incarnation. My dear disciple, strive to grow stronger for my sake. In the Tianling sect's trial square, during the master recruitment ceremony, he reflects on the system's 2.5-year wait for his chosen one, musing, you are not toying with me, are you? Seated, resting his chin on one hand, his penetrating gaze sweeps over the assembly of cultivators, while his mind converses with the system. Rest assured, host. This realm has merely encountered unforeseen discrepancies. Although the chosen one of fortune has appeared later than anticipated, she will undoubtedly arrive. Are you certain that if I successfully fulfill the tasks of this lifetime, I can return to Blue Star, where my family still resides? Host, please have unwavering faith in the capabilities of this system. Upon successful completion of the tasks, not only will you receive 10 billion of any currency from Blue Star, but also a universal elixir. Reassured by the system's promise, Jiang Chen regains his confidence. With the universal elixir, he can awaken his sister, and with the 100 billion, they can escape their life of wandering and instability. Understood. You may withdraw now. Originally a pure-hearted 180-degree male university student on Blue Star, Jiang Chen accidentally traverses to this otherworldly continent and awakens the 9-Lives Reincarnation System. His task is to find the nascent chosen ones of fortune across 9 different planes and assist them in reaching their respective peaks. Having successfully completed the first 8 lives, he must not falter in this 9th. The realm he inhabits is known as the Tianling Continent, primarily focused on cultivating spiritual power. The realms are categorized as follows: Qi refinement, spiritualist, spiritual king, spiritual sea, spiritual ruins, spiritual sovereign, harmonizing spirit, transforming spirit, breaking spirit, holy spirit, quasi-emperor, and emperor. It is said that the supreme power of this world resides within the quasi-emperor realm, while the legendary emperor has not been seen for millennia. Thus, the final task in this life should be to assist the chosen one of fortune in attaining the emperor's realm. As Jiang Chen's thoughts wander, the cultivators in the square begin to gaze at him, whispering among themselves. Look, that is Jiang Chen, the master of the listening snow peak. Once hailed as the foremost of his generation in Tianling sect. Preposterous. I heard 3 years ago his foundation was shattered. He is now a mere waste incapable of even condensing spiritual power. How can such a wastrel remain the peak master? Only a fool would choose him as a mentor. The cultivators speak without restraint, and Jiang Chen hears their words clearly, yet he remains unfazed. His current identity, indeed as they say, was once a celebrated genius of the Tianling sect, the first among peers, and was early designated as the young master of listening snow peak. However, 3 years prior, the sect faced a crisis. The previous master of listening snow peak perished in battle, and though Jiang Chen survived, he was ambushed and had his foundation destroyed, becoming the subject of scorn. In the aftermath, the sect leader, in an effort to rejuvenate the spirit of the sect and to express gratitude towards those who have contributed, made an exception and appointed the uninitiated Jiang Chen as the master of the listening snow peak. It seems that this year's endeavor was in vain. Just as Jiang Chen was about to articulate his thoughts, an unexpected notification resonated in his mind. Ding! The presence of the daughter of fortune has been detected. The host is advised to seek an opportunity to establish a connection. At last it has arrived. Jiang Chen felt a surge of energy. Straightening his posture and casting a keen gaze over the crowd in the square, swiftly locking his eyes onto a young maiden. At that moment, the voice of the elder in charge of the assessment echoed throughout the square, imbued with spiritual power. The heavenly steps consist of 108 tiers. Those who ascend to the 36th tier are deemed to have passed, with a time limit of a single incense stick burn. The trials of the Tianling sect are straightforward and unrefined, lacking in complexity. As a premier sect in the northern region, each initiation ceremony of Tianling sect draws countless talented youths eager to participate. The higher one ascends the heavenly steps, the greater the spiritual pressure they must endure. The intensity of this pressure varies according to the realm of the individual being assessed, which is quite profound. Jiang Chen paid no heed to anyone else. His gaze remained steadfastly fixed. The subject of his attention was a girl, seemingly around 16 or 17 years of age, slender in form, with exquisitely delicate features. Yet her skin bore an unsettling pallor, and her hair hung limply like dried grass. Curiously, her eyes held a depth that belied her youth. Thud, thud. The maiden's delicate feet struck heavily upon the second tier, yet her body trembled uncontrollably. The surrounding spiritual pressure made it difficult for her to stand upright. and a hint of pain shadowed her brow. How audacious for someone at merely the 6th level of chi refinement to attempt to ascend the heavenly steps. Such folly. A man of the spirit realm sauntered past her, his gaze rife with disdain. Upon hearing his words, the girl bit down on her delicate lips, disregarding the mockery. She silently continued her ascent. The 21st tier. The 22nd tier. Upon reaching the 35th tier, her complexion had turned as pale as parchment. Fine beads of sweat matting her hair against her forehead. Crack, crack, crack. The overwhelming spiritual pressure bore down on her, making her feel as though her very bones were being crushed. Just one step more, merely one final step. Her vision began to blur, and her youthful face was etched with anguish. What should have been a simple lifting of her foot felt as heavy as a mountain. Yet, regardless of the struggle, she was determined to step onto the 36th tier and then join the Tianling sect. Thud. As one foot landed upon the 36th tier, the maiden suddenly let out a muffled groan. The intensified spiritual pressure forced a mouthful of crimson blood from her lips, and she was sent hurtling backwards, landing in a state of disarray. After a grueling struggle to rise, the young girl wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, her murky eyes reflecting an unusual calm as she ascended the stone steps once more. Time and again, she was thrust back, yet she persevered, rising repeatedly. Ultimately, after being thrown back for the 7th time, she found herself devoid of the strength to rise again. Time's up. The trial has concluded. Those who have passed may freely choose to join a spiritual peak. As the elder's words echoed in the air, all who had succeeded surged towards the center of the plaza. I wish to join the body refinement peak. I wish to join the Jade Miao peak. I've heard it is filled with beautiful senior sisters. Fool. Jade Miao peak does not accept male disciples. If you must go, then to the strongest main peak. The Jade Sword peak. Indeed, besides the listening snow peak, the other 9 peaks are led by formidable beings of the harmonious spirit realm. It matters not where one goes. True enough, my father warned me that if I dared to seek out Jiang Chen as my master at Listening Snow Peak, he would break my legs. Around the 9 peak masters, many cultivators gathered. Yet, the Listening Snow Peak, where Jiang Chen resided, remained neglected. At that moment, Shen Xiaodian, the master of Jade Sword Peak, jested, Jiang Chen, what do you think of my disciple? Though merely at the 5th level of the spirit realm, he has ascended to the 86th tier of the heavenly steps, only 4 tiers shy of your achievement in your prime. Oh, just average. Jiang Chen replied nonchalantly without even glancing. When the Listening Snow Peak flourished in its glory, Jade Sword Peak had always been overshadowed, leaving Shen Xiaodian with a lingering resentment. Ever since the decline of Listening Snow Peak, he had advocated for Jiang Chen's removal as Peak Master, seeking to merge it into Jade Sword Peak. Witnessing Jiang Chen's current state of desolation, he could not help but snort in derision. Humph, were it not for the sect master's regard for Luo Ting Snow, you would not have the privilege to sit here. The once illustrious Listening Snow Peak has fallen to the point of failing to attract disciples for 3 consecutive years, becoming a laughingstock among the sects of the northern region. This statement elicited agreement from several peak masters. Indeed, given that Listening Snow Peak has languished for so long without disciples, its existence is certainly questionable. After the ceremony concludes, we shall petition the Elder Council. At that time, even the sect master would be hard-pressed to favor Listening Snow Peak without merit. Upon hearing this, Jiang Chen leisurely stretched, observing the assembly of ancient beings, each several thousand years old, still behaving childishly. Impudence. As Shen Xiaoyan's anger flared, Jiang Chen languidly rose to his feet. Moreover, who says that Listening Snow Peak has no disciples? With that, he began to walk slowly towards the crowd, under the watchful gaze of the other peak masters and a multitude of cultivators. In the rear of the throng, a girl with bare feet sat cross-legged, her complexion as pale as paper, with traces of blood at the corner of her mouth. After a moment, she slowly opened her eyes, a flicker of desolation passing through her beautiful gaze. Unsteadily rising to her feet, she wavered, about to depart, when a surge of qi and blood churned within her, threatening to topple her. The delicate girl fell straight to the ground, but was caught by a long, outstretched hand. Gazing at the young girl before him, Jiang Chen stood with his hands clasped behind his back, exuding an air of an eminent figure. What is your name? He inquired. Nan Xinyue, she replied. Upon noticing Jiang Chen adorned in the attire of the peak master, a glimmer of hope flickered in her eyes. I perceive your remarkable bone structure. A divine aura radiates from the crown of your head. Nan Xinyue, would you be willing to join the Listening Snow Peak and take me, Jiang Chen, as your master? I refuse, Nan Xinyue coldly rejected, then turned to leave. Jiang Chen, however, felt a twitch in his eyelids, momentarily taken aback. Chapter 2. The harsh mockery. Nan Xinyue's reason for refusal was straightforward. As one of the top 10 spiritual peaks, Both Listening Snow Peak and its master, Jiang Chen, were lamentably weak. After a brief moment of astonishment, Jiang Chen felt a wave of frustration. Yet, he quickly regained his composure. Are you certain you wish to decline? This is your sole opportunity to join the Tianling sect. You speak the truth, Nan Xinyue replied nonchalantly. She had indeed harbored a flicker of hope. But upon learning of Jiang Chen's identity, she dismissed the notion entirely. I came to the Tianling sect solely to grow stronger. You were once formidable, but now, you are far too weak to aid me. Her candid response elicited a sharp twitch at the corner of Jiang Chen's mouth. It was indeed the fault of that foolish system. Knowing this was his final life, it insisted on presenting him with such a challenging beginning. Nevertheless, it mattered little. Despite his current lack of power, he possessed a certain charisma. Jiang Chen stood tall, still embodying the demeanor of a sage. Their essay saying, when wolves abound, the meat is scarce. Even if you manage to join another spiritual peak in the future, how much cultivation resources can you expect to receive? At his words, Nan Xinyue furrowed her brows. She was acutely aware of the fierce competition within the Tianling sect. However, Listening Snow Peak is different, should you choose to come. You would be my sole disciple. Spirit stones, elixirs, secret techniques, all would be yours. Although the once mighty Listening Snow Peak had diminished, it still held a prestigious legacy. And she was among the elite of her generation. In any case, after all this persuasion, coming to Listening Snow Peak would be your wisest choice. While outsiders remained oblivious, the disciples of the Tianling sect were well aware of the reality. What cultivation resources did Listening Snow Peak possess? Jiang Chen was clearly attempting to deceive Nan Xinyue. The other cultivators in the square, witnessing Jiang Chen's audacious antics, cast scornful glances his way. It was laughable, despite being one of the top 10 spiritual peaks. He was now reduced to trying to coax someone into becoming his disciple, only to be rejected. What a pity that the once great reputation of Listening Snow Peak now lay in ruins under Jiang Chen's inept stewardship. To beg someone to be his disciple was one thing, but to seek out a girl at the 6th level of chi refinement was another. A feeble master paired with a feeble disciple. How fitting. Amidst the piercing derision, Jiang Chen remained unfazed. Having traversed 8 lifetimes, such trivialities were mere commonplace occurrences for him. As for Nan Xinyue, despite her tender age, her disposition is remarkably mature, and she has long grown accustomed to the biting sarcasm directed her way. Noticing her continued silence, Jiang Chen leaned in closer and murmured, "How about this? You come to listen at Tingshu Peak first. In the future, as your cultivation advances, the choice to stay or leave will be entirely yours. If you miss this opportunity, you will have to wait another year for the next master apprenticeship ceremony." At this moment, Nan Xinyue was evidently swayed. She understood the current circumstances of Jiang Chen and Tingshu Peak. The conditions he proposed were merely a means to secure his position as the peak master. Yet, could she not also leverage Jiang Chen and the cultivation resources of Tingshu Peak to her advantage? As long as she became stronger, she could depart from Tingshu Peak at any time to seek another spiritual peak. After all, her purpose in coming to the Tianling sect was to obtain the sect's treasured Daoqi Dan. Although the authenticity of this information remained debatable, she was determined to seize any opportunity, however slight, as it represented her sole chance for survival. After weighing the pros and cons, Nan Xinyue finally steeled her resolve and looked towards Jiang Chen. "Is what you just said truly sincere? Do you see the sincerity in my eyes?" "I would never deceive you," Jiang Chen replied earnestly. Upon hearing this, Nan Xinyue took a deep breath and raised her hand in salute. Disciple Nan Xinyue pays respects to the master. Ding. Congratulations, host, on forming a master-disciple bond with the daughter of fate, Nan Xinyue, unawakened. System matching within the current realm. Novice Mentor gift pack being dispatched. As the system's notification chimed, Jiang Chen's eyes brightened, and he grinned widely. "Yes, excellent, my dear disciple." However, before he could finish, a cold snort came from behind him. The voice of Shin Xiaotian, the master of Yujin Peak. "Humph. This is utterly absurd. To maintain your position as master, you stoop so low as to accept a girl who cannot even pass the assessment. Jiang Chen, you have brought disgrace upon our Tianling sect." Master Shun was right. Our Tianling sect is not a place where just anyone can be accepted. If those from the northern domain learn that a girl of inferior talent in the chi refining stage can join the Tianling sect, we risk becoming the subject of ridicule once more. Faced with the disdainful remarks from several elders who had always looked down upon him, Jiang Chen merely shrugged. "The rules of Tingshu Peak are dictated by me. If you are dissatisfied, take it up with the sect master." In the past, Jiang Chen would have been disinclined to argue with these elders, allowing them to voice their opinions without concern. However, the situation was different now. Having finally persuaded Nan Xinyue to join Tingshu Peak, he would be distraught if these old codgers managed to drive her away. Little did he know, his assertive stance surprised Nan Xinyue. Ding. Master-disciple intimacy value 05. The sudden system notification caught Jiang Chen off guard. The 9 Lives Reincarnation System possessed different functionalities in each life, and thus, in this incarnation, Jiang Chen was not entirely familiar with its capabilities. He immediately began to communicate privately with the system. System, what is this intimacy value? The host can gain intimacy points with Nan Xinyue by performing actions that increase her affection, and upon accumulating 20 points, the system mall will be activated. Intimacy points can be spent in the mall. Actions to gain affection? A spark of inspiration ignited in Jiang Chen's mind, followed by a grand gesture. You may perceive my disciple as an insignificant being, but in my eyes, those so-called proud geniuses you speak of are merely lowly creatures. With a single utterance, Jiang Chen cast a shadow over the leaders of several spiritual peaks and their disciples. Outrageous! Who do you dare refer to as lowly creatures? Upon hearing this, Jiang Chen hastily waved his hand, responding with a cheerful smile. Do not misunderstand. I am not targeting any particular spiritual peak. I am merely stating that all disciples present are indeed lowly creatures. How preposterous! Jiang Chen, you are exceedingly audacious. Peak Master, this scoundrel dares to call us lowly creatures. How can we tolerate this? As Jiang Chen's words offended the disciples of the other spiritual peaks, the onlookers in the square began to murmur, deeming Jiang Chen excessively arrogant, attempting to inflate his own image despite lacking true strength. Yet, amidst this chaos, Nan Xinyue appeared unexpectedly astonished, her somewhat murky eyes shimmering with a hint of rippling emotion. He is actually defending me. Ding. Intimacy points with Master and Disciple. 1. Ding. Intimacy points with Master and Disciple. 1. Hearing the system's notification once more, Jiang Chen's smile broadened, observing the growing unrest. Xin Shaotian raised his hand to signal for silence, then coldly glanced at Jiang Chen. It seems you have great confidence in this little girl. However, I wonder if, during the sect trial in 6 months, your disciple will be able to make a name for you at the Tsing Peak. At this, Jiang Chen's robust form quivered. My disciple Nan Xinyue possesses the bearing of an emperor. In 6 months, she will be the foremost among her peers in the Tianling sect. As soon as he finished speaking, the vast square fell into an abrupt silence. All eyes turned to Jiang Chen as if he were a madman. The foremost among her peers? With a mere girl at the 6th level of chi refinement? How ludicrous! That girl hasn't even passed the assessment of the Celestial Stone Steps. Her talent is so poor that even dogs would shake their heads in dismay. With a master as useless as Jiang Chen, coupled with a disciple of equal ineptitude, no matter how many resources are poured in, she is unlikely to break through to the spiritual realm in 6 months. Unsurprisingly, the leaders of several peaks could hardly contain their laughter. Xin Shaotian chuckled repeatedly. Very well, the foremost among her peers it is. In that case, let us add a wager before all disciples and peak masters. If this girl cannot claim the championship in the sect trial in 6 months, she shall lose her status as a disciple of the Tianling sect, and you will have no disciples left at Tingsnow Peak. I shall report to the Elder Council, merging Tingsnow Peak into my Yujin Peak. Jiang Chen, do you dare? A question that has plagued Jiang Chen for 9 lifetimes. Why do these supporting characters in the mystical continent so relish betting with others? As he was about to respond, he felt a delicate hand tugging at his sleeve. Turning around, he beheld Nan Xinyue, her brow furrowed in a graceful frown, gently shaking her head. In response, Jiang Chen merely smiled, effortlessly withdrawing his sleeve and turning his gaze to Xin Shaotian. What is there to fear? Since you are so preoccupied with my Tingshui Peak, let us make a wager. If my disciple succeeds, I shall begrudgingly accept your precious jade sword edge into my Tingshui Peak. The audacity of Jiang Chen's ambition to annex the jade sword edge elicited hearty laughter from Xin Shaotian and the other peak masters. Very well, as you wish. Xin Shaotian replied nonchalantly, yet his eyes sparkled with amusement as he waved his sleeve lightly, enveloping the disciples behind him in a surge of formidable spiritual energy. Since the master-disciple ceremony has concluded, you may all disperse. With that, he began to ascend into the air, accompanied by his disciples, vanishing into the horizon. The other peak masters also departed with their respective disciples, while the onlooking cultivators in the square gradually dispersed. Come, my dear disciple, let us return to Tingshui Peak. Chapter 3. An unreliable master at Tingshui Peak. Without the aid of spiritual energy, Jiang Chen trudged up to the summit, feeling thoroughly exhausted. Good heavens! I must find a way to install an elevator in the future. Beside him, Nan Xinyue simply raised her hand to wipe the sweat from her forehead. Does Tingshui Peak not have any flying spiritual beasts? Oh, we do, but it cannot fly. Jiang Chen pointed to a peculiar creature not far away. Resembling a spiritual dog but shaped like a cylinder, lying on its back in the shade, sound asleep. Nan Xinyue asked, is this a flying spiritual beast? Jiang Chen replied, I have few hobbies, mostly fishing and caring for pets. Although it may be somewhat rotund, it is indeed a genuine flying spiritual beast. I have named it Little Flying Hero. Nan Xinyue noted that the other spiritual peaks were vibrant with abundant spiritual energy, bustling with activity, and filled with training platforms or medicinal fields. In comparison, Tingxue Peak appeared rather desolate, bleak, and rudimentary. My dear disciple, let me take you to see your living quarters. However, upon hearing this, Nan Xinyue did not move. Although she understood that her relationship with Jiang Chen was mutually beneficial, she was nonetheless grateful to him for providing her the opportunity to enter the Tianxian sect. Yet, Jiang Chen's impulsive actions in the square earlier left her feeling somewhat displeased. Why did you agree to the wager with Peak Master Shen? What? Are you worried about the sect's trial in 6 months? Upon hearing this, Nan Xinyue raised an eyebrow and replied, shouldn't I be concerned? With me as your master, you need not fret. The strongest disciples from the other spiritual peaks are merely at the 9th level of the Spirit King realm. Merely at the 9th level of the Spirit King realm? Seeing her delicate brow furrow, Jiang Chen continued with a playful smile. My dear disciple, you are not lacking in confidence, are you? At this, Nan Xinyue let out a soft huff. With her stubborn and competitive nature, how could she accept such a challenge to her resolve? Though I possess confidence in myself, it does not extend to the realm of arrogance. If it were not for my physical condition, at this point, Nan Xinyue's fist at her side tightened slightly, and her previously calm eyes began to glimmer with a hint of malice. Seeing her unusual expression, Jiang Chen was not particularly surprised. In this day and age, one must carry a profound tale of suffering to be deemed worthy of being the protagonist, wouldn't you agree? After calming her emotions, Nan Xinyue took a gentle breath and replied indifferently, if granted sufficient time, I am confident I would not fall short of anyone. Yet, you have thrust me into the limelight merely for the sake of a fleeting verbal victory. Does Master not find his actions somewhat inappropriate? Upon hearing this, the smile on Jiang Chen's face diminished slightly. Currently, everyone in the Tianxian sect is waiting to revel in my misfortune, and my willingness to stake the entirety of Tingxue Peak is not an act of bravado, but rather a testament to my trust in you. Hearing such words of trust, Nan Xinyue could not help but furrow her delicate brows. She had only just met Jiang Chen, and this somewhat blind trust left her perplexed. Why such faith in me? If I must provide a reason, Jiang Chen resumed his beaming demeanor and produced a token from Tingxue Peak, handing it to her. Once you enter my Tingxue Peak, you are forever family. Noticing her lack of a substantial reaction, Jiang Chen felt a twinge of confusion. What is happening? I have poured out such heartfelt sentiments. Yet this girl displays no response. After a moment of silence, Nan Xinyue's expression remained cool. I am weary. With that, she seemingly nonchalantly took the identity token from Jiang Chen's hand and strode forward. This girl is far more intriguing than those from previous lifetimes, Jiang Chen mused, shaking his head with a smile as he hurried after her. Hey, my dear disciple, wait for me. After arranging her accommodations, Jiang Chen observed the encroaching dusk and offered a few parting words before returning to his quarters. The following day, atop the somewhat desolate peak, a delicate figure was fervently wielding a rusted iron sword. The morning training had become a routine for Nan Xinyue. Moments later, she exhaled deeply, wiped the sweat from her brow, and turned to glance at Jiang Chen's still-closed door, furrowing her brow slightly. In front of the wooden cabin, Nan Xinyue hesitated for a moment before raising her hand to knock. As a new disciple, she required Jiang Chen to escort her to the sect's great hall for registration and to collect her cultivation resources. However, after several knocks, all she could hear was the resounding snores of someone within. With a soft sigh, she regarded the closed door and, feeling resigned, turned to leave, making her way alone to the Great Hall. In the Great Hall of the Tianxian sect, after completing her identity registration, Nan Xinyue received her token. Elder, why is there no body refining liquid for me? According to sect rules, all new disciples are entitled to receive 3 bottles of body refining liquid upon presenting their Spirit Peak token, laying the groundwork for their advancement to the spirit realm. However, due to the fact that Tingxue Peak had not participated in the sect's trials for 3 consecutive years, the distribution of body refining liquid has been suspended. The elder lazily responded. Upon hearing this, Nan Xinyue was momentarily taken aback. What about the promised cultivation resources? She suddenly felt that the assurances given by Jiang Chen in the square yesterday were merely a ruse. However, after a moment's reflection, she suppressed her anger. After all, her purpose in coming to Listening Snow Peak was merely to secure an opportunity to remain within the heavenly profound sect. She had not anticipated anything beyond that. If she were to obtain cultivation resources, it would be splendid, but if not, it mattered little. In this world, the only person she could truly rely upon was herself, a truth she had understood since childhood. Fortunately, prior to her arrival at the heavenly profound sect, She had a modest reserve of spirit stones, which should suffice for her breakthrough to the spirit realm. After leaving the Grand Hall, she returned to Listening Snow Peak. Meanwhile, at a pond on Listening Snow Peak, Jiang Chen was fishing alongside an elderly man with a white beard. This old man, named Wang Daolin, was an elder of the law enforcement pavilion and shared a close relationship with the former peak master, Luo Tingsnell. He was one of the few within the sect who treated Jiang Chen favorably. "Ah, another catch," Wang Daolin exclaimed, delight radiating from his wrinkled face as he beheld another plump fish in the basket. In contrast, Jiang Chen appeared sullen. "Something's off with you today. I used to toy with you easily. You must be using spiritual power. You little rascal, losing and then playing tricks, huh? At my age, do I still need to indulge in such antics? A bet's a bet. Hand it over." Wang Daolin chuckled, stroking his white beard, while his other hand discreetly dispersed the spiritual energy hidden in his palm. Reluctantly, Jiang Chen extracted his last 6 spirit stones, just as he was wallowing in despair. The system's notification chimed in his mind. System dimension matching completed. Lazy mentor system activated. Ability acquired. Shameless plunder technique. For every opponent defeated by disciple Nan Xinyue, the host can gain their cultivation and insights. What the hell is this shameless plunder technique? Jiang Chen felt a bit speechless and hurriedly continued conversing with the system. "Is that all? System, do you have any other mechanisms? Anything that can instantly elevate my obedient disciple to the Emperor realm? Host, you should get some rest. This system focuses on development, not instant success. However, tasks will be randomly assigned, and completing them will yield rewards. Additionally, when the host's disciple reaches certain realms, random rewards will also be given." The system's words prompted a sheepish smile from Jiang Chen. Apprentice Mentor Gift Pack dispatched. Acquired 1 9-grade Returning Essence Pill. Returning Essence Pill can repair damage to the soul foundation, refine bone marrow, and enhance spiritual roots. Acquired 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. Feeling the spirit stones piled like a small mountain in his spatial ring and the fragrant 9-grade Returning Essence Pill, Jiang Chen found joy in the situation. Meanwhile, Wang Daolin, observing Jiang Chen's silly grin, was puzzled. "What are you so happy about? Are we still competing?" "Indeed. Today I shall win your very undergarments," Jiang Chen declared, invigorated as he raised his hand, cast his line, and casually crossed his legs, executing the motions with flair. At this moment, Nan Xinyue returned to Listening Snow Peak and, from a short distance, spotted Jiang Chen happily fishing with an elderly man, his joy akin to that of a blooming flower. She cast a fleeting glance before retreating to her quarters. Yet, it wasn't long before she dashed out again. Upon noticing that the old man had departed, she hurried to Jiang Chen's side. "Oh, my dear disciple has returned," Jiang Chen exclaimed, just as he was about to rise, but suddenly felt a tug on his line. "Look, Master has hooked a big one today. We'll feast on a whole fish banquet at noon." Observing Jiang Chen's cheerful demeanor, Nan Xinyue's gaze darkened slightly. "Where are my spiritual stones from my room?" Jiang Chen, blissfully tossing a plump fish into a basket, casually grabbed another fish from the basket left by Wang Daolin and cast his line again. "Oh, Elder Wang insisted on competing with me in fishing, wagering spiritual stones. He is an elder of the law enforcement pavilion. After all, and of considerable age, one must show some deference, right? Thus, I borrowed some of your spiritual stones to tide me over. Don't worry, I can win them back." Nan Xinyue clenched her fists tightly. While she was indeed grateful to Jiang Chen for granting her the opportunity to remain in the heavenly mystic sect, she was acutely aware that he could not assist her in becoming stronger. Thus, from the outset, she had intended to cultivate alone on Listening Snow Peak, doing her utmost to prepare for the sect's trials in 6 months. The cultivation resources Jiang Chen had previously promised were no longer a concern for her. She did not wish to press the matter. Yet now, her master had audaciously set his sights on her spiritual stones. "Do you know, Master, that when I arrived at the sect's main hall, the elders stated that disciples of Listening Snow Peak are not permitted to receive body refining liquid?" "Yes, I have known about this rule for 3 years." Nan Xinyue's fists tightened again as she replied, "If you knew, why did you not inform me sooner? You never asked me." Chapter 4. The Master's Wealth, the Disciple's Freedom to Create Now. Nan Xinyue was nearly certain that all talk of spiritual stones, elixirs, and secret techniques were mere fabrications from Jiang Chen. She struggled to suppress the rising flames of anger within her. Nevertheless, she reminded herself that she owed Jiang Chen a debt of gratitude. With this thought, she cast a glance at Jiang Chen before turning to leave. "My dear disciple, wait." Jiang Chen's voice suddenly called out from behind. Turning around, Nan Xinyue saw him toss a box her way. She instinctively caught it and examined it, feeling puzzled yet reluctant to engage in conversation with Jiang Chen. Indeed, women, regardless of the dimensional realm, exhibit the same behavior when angered. Jiang Chen mused silently. As he fiddled with his fishing rod, He continued, the body refining liquids distributed to new disciples are primarily refined from low-grade spiritual stones. They are utterly worthless. How could my disciple, Jiang Chen, use such trash? After casting his line once more, he added, this grade 9 returning yuan pill is a token of my welcome gift to you. Grade 9 elixir? Nan Xinyue was momentarily taken aback, feeling it was quite absurd. In the northern region, and indeed across the entire Tianling Continent, grade 9 elixirs were exceedingly rare and precious. Should the legendary 9-tiered elixir truly come into existence, it is likely that even the most formidable beings of the Holy Spirit realm, who have remained hidden for centuries, would vie for it with fervor and bloodshed. However, upon opening the box, a rich fragrance of the elixir enveloped the air, causing Nan Xinyue's delicate form to quiver. The elixir was a masterpiece, radiating with 9 distinct auras. Although her current strength was meager, it did not imply a lack of discernment. At that moment, a flicker of extraordinary excitement danced in her beautiful eyes, her fingertips trembling with anticipation. Could this be the will of the heavens? Nan Xinyue murmured to herself, her enchanting gaze rippling with emotion. After a brief silence, she inhaled deeply, closed the box, and returned it with both hands to Jiang Chen. Initially, she was astounded, questioning how Jiang Chen could possibly possess such a precious elixir. Yet, upon reflection, she realized that despite the current lack of cultivation resources at Singsu Peak, the former peak master had been a paragon of strength in the northern domain. As Jiang Chen had once been the pride of Singsu Peak, it was inconceivable that such a powerful figure would not have left some resources for him. This gift is too extravagant, I cannot accept it. In response, Jiang Chen casually waved his hand, stating, isn't an elixir meant to be consumed? Keeping it serves no purpose. Besides, it's merely a 9-tiered elixir. If you cultivate diligently, I shall treat it as candy for you in the future. Merely a 9-tiered elixir? As candy? Her master certainly had a penchant for exaggeration, though she thought this inwardly. Nan Xinyue's feelings were undeniably complex. She understood that Jiang Chen had once been a prodigy of the Tianxian sect and could not possibly be ignorant of the elixir's significance. If Jiang Chen were to consume it himself, he might have a chance to restore his foundation. Suddenly, a system notification chimed, announcing, ding. Master Disciple Affinity Value 10 ding. Master Disciple Affinity Value 10. Cumulative Affinity Value 225. System Mall activated. Please check it at your convenience. Hearing the unexpected prompt, Jiang Chen felt a surge of delight, eagerly anticipating the treasures within the mall, and thought to send Nan Xinyue on her way. My dear disciple, do not be so polite with me. If you truly feel indebted, then strive harder. The sect trial in 6 months will be the best way to repay me. At his words, Nan Xinyue tightly clutched the wooden box. After a moment of hesitation, she slowly tucked it away. Thank you. Now go. Focus on your cultivation. There is a cave at the thought-reflecting cliff in the back mountain, which your ancestor used for training, sealed with a barrier that isolates spiritual energy. You can enter with a token. Off you go. Nan Xinyue nodded and turned to leave. Oh, and my dear disciple, take these spirit stones. Jiang Chen tossed a bag towards her. Observing the 10 or so high-grade spirit stones within, Nan Xinyue was taken aback. While many claimed that Singsu Peak had completely fallen, it now appeared that her ancestor had indeed left a considerable inheritance for her master. Use them as needed. Don't hold back. I have tens of thousands more at my disposal, so go ahead and make the most of it. Nan Xinyue thought to herself. My master's tendency to boast is truly beyond remedy. Thus, she made her way to the thought-reflecting cliff. Upon discovering the cave mentioned by Jiang Chen, Nan Xinyue used her identity token to activate the grand formation. After locating a vacant space, she settled into a meditative posture, centering her mind and adjusting her state to its utmost potential. With a wooden box in hand, she gazed upon the fragrant Guyuan Dan, her beautiful eyes reflecting a complex array of emotions. In truth, you need it more than I do, she murmured softly. She was somewhat familiar with Jiang Chen's past experiences, how he had fallen from genius to being regarded as worthless, subjected to cold stares and ridicule. While outsiders might not comprehend, she felt a deep resonance with his plight. Like Jiang Chen, she too had once been a radiant prodigy, possessing the sacred body of profound ice. Beginning her cultivation at the tender age of 10 and achieving the pinnacle of the spirit realm by 14. Such extraordinary talent, even when compared to the Jiang Chen of yore, surpassed considerably, marking her as a remarkable figure throughout the northern domain. Yet, at the peak of her brilliance, a sinister plot had robbed her of her fortune, damaging her foundation and causing her realm to plummet to its current state. Her pallid skin, hair resembling withered grass, and her frail constitution were all results of her sacred body's deterioration, her life force rapidly waning. All of this had been orchestrated by those she held closest. It was hatred that propelled her to this point, and it was that very hatred that fueled her fervent desire to grow stronger. Remembering the past, she clenched her slender hand into a fist, her beautiful eyes suffused with intense resentment. After a brief moment, she inhaled deeply, her expression regaining tranquility. Jiang Chen, if I truly can defy fate and alter my destiny, I, Nan Xinyue, shall forever acknowledge you as my master. Upon concluding her words, she pinched the Guiyuan Dan between her delicate fingers, parting her soft lips to swallow it whole. By the pond, Jiang Chen wore a grim expression, muttering to himself with irritation. Damn system, playing tricks on me, are you? After Nan Xinyue had departed, he eagerly inspected the newly activated system shop. He had anticipated an array of miraculous elixirs, unparalleled techniques, and exquisite sacred weapons awaiting him. He had envisioned a scenario where he would lavishly pamper his obedient disciple, rapidly accumulating intimacy points and exchanging them for elixirs and extraordinary techniques, thereby propelling Nan Xinyue to the status of an empress. Once the task was complete, he would return to Blue Star with universal elixirs, reunite with his family, heal his sister, and indulge in a life of luxury and revelry, a perfect narrative. However, the virtual shop interface in his mind was utterly barren. Redemption list, none. Intimacy points, acquaintanceship 225. Lucky spin, consuming a certain number of intimacy points allows for a lottery draw. The higher the intimacy level, the greater the consumption and rewards. In simpler terms, the shop currently had nothing to offer, the sole function being this ridiculous lottery. Is this a setup for me to become a gambling fool? Jiang Chen felt utterly defeated. Damn system, if only you had a form, I would certainly smack you with a fishing rod. After scolding himself without receiving any response from the system, he reluctantly took a plump fish from Wang Daolin's basket nearby and tossed it into his own frame, which momentarily lifted his spirits. Perhaps it was time to check on that girl. Moments later, Jiang Chen set down his fishing rod, contemplating a visit to the Cliff of Reflection to see Nan Xinyue. Just as he stood up, he felt a surge of spiritual energy emanating from the distant horizon. Accompanying this was a sharp, yet somewhat familiar voice. Jiang Chen, come out at once. Chapter 5. Who dares to bully my master? Upon hearing the reprimand from not far away, Jiang Chen raised an eyebrow. Turning around, he saw a flying spirit crane gently descending not far off. A woman with a graceful figure and exquisite features lightly leaped down from the crane. The newcomer was none other than Shen Jingbing, the daughter of Shen Xiaotian, the master of Jade Sword Peak. To be honest, when Jiang Chen first embarked on this reincarnation, he found great amusement in her name. Shen Jingbing. What a splendidly absurd name. Stretching lazily, he remarked, ah, if it isn't the esteemed young Miss Shen. What wind has blown you to my humble abode? Hearing this, Shen Jing raised an eyebrow, crossing her arms and adopting a haughty demeanor. Less idle chatter. Surely you know why I have come. With a sigh, Jiang Chen continued, back in the day, you were merely enamored with my looks and talents. Yet, after all these years, knowing full well my cultivation prospects are bleak, you remain undeterred in your pursuit of me? His words left Shen Jingbing blushing with indignation, and she spat in annoyance. How shameless. With a cold snort, she continued, I heard that at yesterday's grand ceremony, you spoke disrespectfully to my father and boasted that the disciples of all the major spirit peaks are nothing more than mere chickens and dogs. Oh, that matter? Yes, I did utter such words, Jiang Chen replied nonchalantly, nodding. Seeing him offer not even a hint of contrition, Shen Jingbing's fury surged. How dare you, Jiang Chen? Who gave you the audacity to be so arrogant? You will accompany me to my father and apologize, or else. As she spoke, her expression turned stern, and she brandished a long whip. Instantly, spiritual energy surged within her. I shall teach you a lesson on behalf of my father and several peak masters. In response, Jiang Chen merely waved his hand dismissively. If you're so bored, find someone else to play with. I'm busy and have no time for your nonsense. With that, he turned to leave. Observing Jiang Chen's blatant disregard for her authority only fueled Shen Jingbing's anger, and she raised her whip high. Crack! With a sharp sound, the basket at Jiang Chen's feet shattered, and the plump fish within met a dire fate. Seeing Shen Jingbing's unreasonable antics, Jiang Chen swiftly turned, ready to unleash his fury, but upon closer inspection, he found it amusing. Fortunately, it wasn't his fish. The situation was not dire. Jiang Chen, I have little patience to spare. Do not underestimate my resolve. Will you accompany me or not? Just as Jiang Chen was about to respond, the system's notification sound suddenly echoed. Ding. Disciple Nan Xinyue has successfully broken through to the spirit realm. Ding. Reward. 9th grade spirit artifact. Reward has been dispatched. Ding. Master Disciple Intimacy Value. 20. Has the breakthrough occurred so swiftly? A broad smile spread across Jiang Chen's face, causing him to forget about Shen Jingbing entirely. I truly lack the time for your antics. With that, He turned and walked away, leaving Shun Jingbing seething with anger, stamping her foot in frustration. This is outrageous. With a flick of her wrist, her long whip transformed into a blur, slicing through the air towards Jiang Chen. Although she refrained from using her spiritual power, should the strike land, given Jiang Chen's current strength, he would undoubtedly suffer severe injuries. Jiang Chen was taken aback. This woman truly dared to make a move in the presence of the Listening Snow Peak. After all, he was currently the Lord of Listening Snow Peak, ostensibly on equal footing with the other peak lords. Just as he prepared to evade, a sudden flash caught his eye, and he noticed a petite figure materializing before him, swiftly grasping the whip in her hand. Gazing at the unfamiliar girl who had appeared so suddenly, Shun Jingbing coldly demanded, "Who are you to interfere in my affairs?" In response, Nan Xinyue merely cast a frigid glance at Shun Jingbing before effortlessly flinging the whip aside. "Ah, my diligent disciple, you have achieved the spirit realm so quickly. Splendid indeed." Having just concluded her retreat, Nan Xinyue intended to express her gratitude to Jiang Chen, but was astounded to find someone attacking him upon her arrival, prompting her timely intervention. Observing Jiang Chen before her, Nan Xinyue felt an intricate mix of emotions, reflecting on the whims of fate. Initially, she had not harbored high hopes for the rumored Tao Foundation pill from the Tianxian sect, nor did she know if she would survive. Yet, unexpectedly, through a twist of fate, she became Jiang Chen's disciple and received the 9th grade Gu Yuan pill, altering her destiny. It was Jiang Chen who granted her a new lease on life. The kindness of her master is forever etched in her heart. Nan Xinyue raised her hand and respectfully bowed to Jiang Chen. This gesture transcended mere power, as it was a genuine expression of her gratitude. Ding. Master-disciple intimacy value, 10. Ding. Master-disciple intimacy value, 10. The incessant system notifications made Jiang Chen's smile widen, prompting him to hurriedly open the system panel. Disciple, Nan Xinyue, realm, first level of spirit realm, physique, Xianbing sacred body, awakening not yet achieved, 70 restored, cultivation method, Wanhuai's decision. Mid-tier heavenly grade, only 70 of the sacred body has been restored? Jiang Chen was momentarily taken aback. It seemed that a 9th grade Gu Yuan pill was insufficient. Furthermore, the fact that this sacred body remains unawakened warrants further investigation into how he could assist his diligent disciple in awakening it. My dear disciple, there is no need for such formality with me. Later, I shall prepare a meal, and we shall celebrate. Nan Xinyue replied calmly, "I will follow your arrangements, master. But let us first resolve the current predicament." Observing that the master and disciple duo regarded her as though she were invisible, Shun Jingbing's anger flared. "Hey, did you not hear my words? Who exactly are you?" Upon hearing this, Nan Xinyue turned around, her petite figure standing defiantly before Jiang Chen. "I am Nan Xinyue, a disciple of the Listening Snow Peak." Perhaps due to the restoration of her sacred body, Nan Xinyue's appearance had undergone some changes. Her skin had become increasingly fair, and her long, silky hair flowed gracefully. Her inherently cool demeanor had grown even more striking, her exquisite features exuding an air of aloofness that seemed to look down upon the world. For a fleeting moment, Shun Jingbing felt a pang of inadequacy in the presence of Nan Xinyue's remarkable beauty and captivating aura. Realizing her fleeting thought, she tightened her grip on the long whip and coldly remarked, "So you are the worthless disciple Jiang Chen recently took in. This matter is between him and me. You have no right to interfere. Get lost, or I shall deal with you as well." "You may attempt it," replied Nan Xinyue, her tone as composed as ever, as she effortlessly revealed a rusted iron sword in her hand. Jiang Chen, observing her assertiveness, couldn't help but click his tongue in admiration. In his previous 8 lifetimes, he had always been endowed with unparalleled prowess by the system, consistently protecting others. However, in this lifetime, despite starting as a waste, he was savoring the experience of being defended. As Nan Xinyue's unyielding demeanor persisted, Shun Jingbing's expression gradually turned cold. "You dare to boast with your barely advanced spirit realm? I am at the pinnacle of the spirit realm." Upon hearing her claim, Nan Xinyue's expression remained unchanged. By the age of 14, she had already reached the pinnacle of the spirit realm. Although her cultivation had temporarily regressed, with her sacred body now mostly restored, she felt confident in her ability to fight. "If it is a battle you seek, then let us engage." Her nonchalant words made Shun Jingbing's fists clench with rage. "Jiang Chen, is this the disciple you have taken in? Humph. She is utterly ignorant of her limitations. Today, I shall teach her a lesson in manners." With that, she flicked her long whip, unleashing a surge of formidable spiritual energy that lashed toward Nan Xinyue. Chapter 6. Master bestows the name Steel 0.01 Bang. 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 The sounds of combat echoed throughout Listening Snow Peak. In the desolate clearing, Nan Xinyue and Shun Jingbing were locked in a fierce struggle. Shun Jingbing, confident in her higher cultivation, initially believed that using merely 50% of her strength would suffice to easily subdue Nan Xinyue. To her surprise, Nan Xinyue, utilizing her agile movements, managed to evade and counter for dozens of exchanges without showing any signs of weakness. Meanwhile, Jiang Chen appeared unfazed, leisurely seated by the pond, observing the duel between the two women with keen interest. Logically, with the Xianbing's sacred body combined with a mid-tier celestial technique, one would expect a greater level of combat prowess. Jiang Chen rested his chin on his hand, deep in thought. Although each reincarnation presented a different realm and cultivation system, the practical combat experience he had accumulated was vast. With just a glance, he discerned the shortcomings in Nan Xinyue's abilities. Her practical experience was sorely lacking, and her mastery of spiritual power was insufficient. As Nan Xinyue and Shun Jingbing engaged in a fierce battle, a streak of light appeared in the distance. Swiftly materializing beside Jiang Chen, it was Wang Daolin, who had departed earlier. "Xiao Chen, what is happening?" Wang Daolin inquired, observing the clash between the two combatants with a puzzled expression. In response, Jiang Chen provided a brief overview of the situation. Upon learning the details, Wang Daolin looked glumly at the shattered basket beneath his feet. "What are we to make of this? We haven't finished our contest yet." "What contest?" "My basket is nearly overflowing. While yours is empty, it is clear you have lost. At your age, don't be so tricksy. A wager is a wager. Hand it over." "You little rascal. Why does the fish in your basket bear my spiritual mark?" At that moment, Shun Jingbing grew increasingly alarmed as the battle wore on. Despite Nan Xinyue clearly being at the first level of the spirit realm, her internal reservoir of spiritual energy showed no signs of depletion. It was then that she caught a glimpse of Jiang Chen and Wang Daolin by the pond. Wang Daolin's reputation for being loquacious was well known in the Tianling sect. If she failed to subdue even a mere new disciple at the first level of the spirit realm, the entire sect would undoubtedly learn of her failure by the next day, and her reputation would be irreparably tarnished. "Humph, this is all you're doing." Shun Jingbing suddenly unleashed her power, no longer holding back her spiritual energy. With a fierce shout, the whip in her hand shimmered with a faint crimson glow. By the pond, Wang Daolin, who had been leisurely fishing, cast a glance at the unfolding battle. The Ice Girl's fire whip was a 5th-grade spiritual artifact gifted to her by Shin Xiaotian. "Your disciple wields merely an ordinary sword. This does not bode well." Sure enough, as Wang Daolin spoke, Nan Xinyue's iron sword shattered completely. Gazing at the broken blade in her hand, Nan Xinyue furrowed her brow. Observing this, Jiang Chen lazily set down his fishing rod and brushed his fingers over his storage ring. When Wang Daolin beheld the long sword in Jiang Chen's palm, his eyes sparkled with intrigue. "A 9th-grade spiritual artifact? Good lad. I knew Luo Tingshu must have left you with some valuable possessions." In response, Jiang Chen merely curled his lips, inwardly cursing the stingy system. "Not even rewarding me with an imperial weapon, at least a quasi-imperial one would have sufficed. Dear disciple, catch." Jiang Chen raised his hand and flung the long sword into the air. As it soared towards her, Nan Xinyue leaped to catch it, examining it closely. The sword measured 3 feet in length, its body pure white, exuding an aura as cold as frost, with a glimmer of spiritual light dancing at its tip. With a mere glance, she recognized that this sword was of high caliber, certainly above a 5th-grade spiritual artifact, having already received a 9th-grade returning essence pill. And now a high-tier spiritual artifact. Nan Xinyue realized that her master's resources appeared to be quite substantial. Armed with the 9th-grade artifact, she re-engaged Shun Jingbing in combat once more. In terms of overall strength, she was already on par with Shun Jingbing, and with the enhancement of the 9th-grade spiritual artifact, she gained a distinct advantage. Whoosh! A glimmer of cold light brushed past, and Shun Jingbing retreated, only to discover that a portion of her sleeve had been severed, revealing her snow-white arm. Initially, she had merely intended to teach Nan Xinyue a lesson in front of Jiang Chen, but now she found herself slightly overwhelmed. Due to her father, Shun Xiaotian's influence, even some elders in the sect treated her with great respect. Yet, at this moment, she had suffered such a significant loss at the hands of a new disciple. Taking a deep breath, Shun Jingbing raised her hand to remove her hairpin, allowing her silken tresses to cascade down, rising without wind, accompanied by an immensely powerful surge of spiritual energy. Vaguely, it seemed as if her aura was on the verge of breaking through to the Spirit King realm. Simultaneously, upon sensing Shun Jingbing's escalating aura, Jiang Chen exchanged a glance with Wang Daolin. "She's becoming desperate," Jiang Chen remarked with a shrug. "Ah, Ice Girl has gone a bit too far. How can one utilize such a move in a friendly spar among peers?" As if understanding the implications of Shun Jingbing removing her hairpin, Wang Daolin sighed softly, vanishing in an instant. "Ice Girl, this is where it ends." Upon reappearing, Wang Daolin stood before Shun Jingbing, raising his hand to suppress all the surrounding spiritual energy. Senior Wang, this does not concern you, Shun Jingbing retorted furiously. If I were present today and did not intervene, your father would surely seek revenge on me. With the sect's trial looming in 6 months, if a victor must be determined, there is no rush. After a moment of hesitation, Shun Jingbing calmed herself and huffed, readying her hair. Humph, considering Senior Wang's face, I shall let you off this time. In 6 months, during the sect's trials, I will teach you a proper lesson. In response to Shun Jingbing's provocation, Nan Xinyue merely cast a light glance in her direction before turning to stand beside Jiang Chen. You. Shun Jingbing felt a sense of futility, akin to punching a pillow, and could only glare at Jiang Chen in frustration. Hey, Jiang Chen, you wait for me. This matter is far from over. In 6 months, when you are expelled from the sect, I will relish seeing how you cope. I understand your urgency. But do not be hasty. There are still 6 months left. Perhaps my disciple will truly excel and bring home the first place. And then the Jade Sword Peak will rightfully be mine. Alas, if only you were at Jade Sword Peak. It would be delightful to have you serve as a maid for my disciple then. Jiang Chen's words turned Shun Jingbing's face crimson with anger. All right. I shall see how she claims the first place in the sect's assessment in 6 months. Observing the verbal sparring between the two, Wang Daolin could not help but feel a headache coming on and quickly interjected, Ice girl, I happen to be on my way to see your father. Let us go together. Without waiting for Shun Jingbing's response, he waved his sleeve, lifting the former into the air as they soared towards the sky. Seeing Shun Jingbing leave in defeat, along with some spirit stones he had just acquired from Wang Daolin, Jiang Chen was in good spirits. Good disciple. You performed quite well just now. This 9th grade spiritual artifact is now yours. Its quality may be somewhat lacking, but it will suffice for the time being. 9th grade spiritual artifact? Nan Xinyue was slightly taken aback. Although she had suspected the sword to be of considerable quality, she did not anticipate it to be a 9th grade spiritual weapon. Such a grade of spiritual weapon would be exceedingly precious even within the Heavenly Shin sect. Master, I have already received immense kindness from you. I cannot accept this sword. How could a teacher reclaim a small gift given to their disciple? Since you currently lack a suitable weapon, you may use it for now. I shall procure an imperial weapon for you later. As my disciple, Jiang Chen's student must possess a certain stature. Though aware of Jiang Chen's penchant for boasting, Nan Xinyue understood that his words were intended to alleviate her psychological burden. Ding. Master-disciple intimacy value 10. The sudden system notification left Jiang Chen momentarily stunned. What was going on? His obedient disciple, appearing so cold, had such a soft heart underneath? It was merely a broken sword, after all. In that case, I thank you. Master. Nan Xinyue raised her hand, no longer refusing. Master, does this sword have a name? A name? No, it doesn't. Since it's yours now, feel free to name it. Jiang Chen replied casually. At this, Nan Xinyue shook her head, gazing at Jiang Chen. No, I would prefer you to bestow a name. Naming was something Jiang Chen found particularly tedious. This wretched system, not only gifting a broken sword but failing to provide a name as well. Jiang Chen examined Nan Xinyue from head to toe before glancing at the long sword she held. This sword appears to be exceptionally sharp and quite lightweight. Let us call it Steel 0.01. Master, why does that name sound somewhat peculiar? My dear disciple, you wouldn't understand. In my homeland, it is the name of the most formidable artifact. Chapter 7. I plunder myself. 3 days had passed since Shun Jingbing's outburst at the Listening Snow Peak. Aside from her training, Nan Xinyue devoted herself entirely to her cultivation, resembling a veritable cultivation fanatic. The only exchanges with Jiang Chen occurred when she sought spiritual stones, during which they exchanged only a few words. The matter of my cultivation need not trouble Master. As for the sect examination in half a year, I shall do my utmost to help Master win the bet. Over the past few days, this had been the longest sentence Nan Xinyue had spoken to Jiang Chen. On this day, Jiang Chen reclined in the shade of a tree, idly petting a small creature that lay on its back nearby. Not far off, in an open space, Nan Xinyue sat cross-legged, her delicate fingers forming profound seals. She was practicing a technique known as the 10,000 Flowers Ice Method, a mid-level celestial skill that matched perfectly with her Ice Saint body. Though there existed higher-tier techniques beyond celestial, such as Saint-level and Quasi-Emperor-level methods, they were exceedingly rare in the present day on the celestial spirit continent. For most cultivators, celestial techniques were already considered the pinnacle of achievement. After a deep inhalation and exhalation, she expelled a breath of turbid air, her slender wrist turning gracefully, causing a pale blue spiritual energy to float in her palm. Observing the ephemeral blue essence, Nan Xinyue raised an eyebrow. Was even a celestial technique insufficient to support the cultivation of this ice spiritual energy? After murmuring to herself, she gracefully waved her delicate hand, drawing the spiritual energy back into her body before turning her gaze to the distance. Observing a person and a beast lazily resting beneath the shade of a tree, she sighed softly, took up her sword, and resumed her cultivation. Unbeknownst to her, although Jiang Chen appeared leisurely at that moment, he was, in fact, somewhat vexed. Through their interactions over the past few days, he sensed that while Nan Xinyue held him in respect, it was primarily out of gratitude. Whenever matters of cultivation arose, she would never allow him to intervene. Though she had never explicitly expressed it, his experience made the truth evident. The title of master did not carry much weight in Nan Xinyue's heart. It was not her fault, after all. Who would permit someone devoid of cultivation to guide them in their practice? Yet Jiang Chen understood that in this final life, his task was to hasten Nan Xinyue's ascent to become the strongest in this world, rather than simply basking in the title of master while idly passing the days. It seemed he needed to devise a strategy to motivate her. Drawing from his experiences in the previous 8 lives, he knew that these fated daughters were all quite prideful. However, it was not an insurmountable challenge. He had subdued countless gifted women, saints, and enchantresses in past lives. A mere developing fated daughter was nothing he could not handle. After nudging aside the small companion resting on his leg, he strode purposefully towards Nan Xinyue. "My dear disciple, still at it?" he inquired. Nan Xinyue halted and turned to him. "Does master have any instructions?" How many times must I say it? At Xiefeng, we do not adhere to notions of status. There is no need for such formalities. Your Xianbing's sacred body is not yet fully restored. I merely wish to prevent you from overexerting yourself. Surprised that Jiang Chen could discern her physical condition at a glance, Nan Xinyue's beautiful eyes widened. Just days prior, during her confrontation with Shen Jingbing, Jiang Chen had also immediately recognized her level of cultivation. How could a master who was unable to cultivate possess such insight? How does master know I am a Xianbing's sacred body? Noticing her change in expression, Jiang Chen merely smiled and remained silent, hands clasped behind his back. In this otherworldly realm, the unspoken rule was to maintain an air of mystery and appear as a master. Yet, clearly, Nan Xinyue was not swayed by such tactics. To her, regardless of any secrets her master held, if he could not guide her cultivation or help her grow stronger, she had no choice but to rely on herself. "Master, I shall continue my cultivation," she softly declared, resuming her practice. Seeing this, Jiang Chen's eyelids twitched, and he decided against beating around the bush any longer. It was time to lay his cards on the table. "My dear disciple, the reason you are diligently cultivating alone is that you believe I lack the qualifications to guide your training, is it not?" Nan Xinyue froze momentarily, falling into silence. Unsure of how to respond, Jiang Chen stood with his hands behind his back, exuding the demeanor of one who saw through everything. "Though I may currently be unable to cultivate due to my depleted foundation, I can still discern your thoughts. However, let us not forget that I once stood as the foremost among my peers in the heavenly profound sect. Though my cultivation may have waned, the wealth of experience and insights remain intact. Your duel with Shen Jingbing yesterday, along with your swordsmanship displayed just now, appears utterly disarrayed in my eyes. Do you believe that, without the use of spiritual power, I could best you within 10 exchanges solely based on swordplay? It is evident that Nan Xinyue has been somewhat provoked. In terms of innate talent, she has never considered herself inferior to anyone, including Jiang Chen. Even without employing spiritual energy, she doubts Jiang Chen's ability to defeat her within 10 moves. She has long heard tales of her master's prodigious talent and unparalleled swordsmanship, rivaling even that of the Jade Sword Peak. With audacity, the disciple requests her master's guidance. This girl is indeed still too naive. A mere provocation is enough to rouse her. Jiang Chen finds amusement in this and replies, "Very well. Should you lose, you shall obediently accept my guidance. If by some stroke of luck you win, I ask that you refrain from questioning my cultivation in the future. It is settled." With a thump of his thigh, Jiang Chen picks up 2 twigs from the ground, tossing one to her. "Let us wield these as swords. Come forth, my dear disciple." Seeing Jiang Chen poised with his makeshift sword, exuding an air of effortless confidence, Nan Xinyue is taken aback and resolves not to underestimate him. "Master, be careful." With a sharp command, she swiftly advances, her wrist deftly twisting. Nan Xinyue, astute as she is, understands that her ultimate goal is to endure 10 exchanges. Thus she adopts a defensive stance. Sensing her intent, Jiang Chen unleashes a relentless assault. Without the aid of spiritual power, within merely 3 exchanges, Nan Xinyue finds herself in a precarious situation, her responses growing increasingly frantic. She is utterly astonished, never having anticipated that her master, often disparaged as useless, harbors such profound expertise in swordsmanship. Unbeknownst to her, Jiang Chen is internally vexed. In his previous life, he was the unrivaled sword immortal across the 9 realms. Yet, The frustrating nature of this system resets all prior cultivation and insights with each transition to a new realm. Currently, he is merely relying on muscle memory and some fundamental sword techniques to suppress Nan Xinyue. By the 9th exchange, her responses have become quite taxing. Final move. Jiang Chen grins, keenly observing her opening, and launches a cunning offensive aimed directly at her heart. Driven by instinctive urgency, Nan Xinyue unconsciously channels her spiritual energy, unleashing the icy breath of Xianbing. Bang! Jiang Chen grunts, the twig slipping from his grasp as he stumbles back, landing with a thud on the ground. The 10 exchanges conclude. Jiang Chen has lost, yet it feels as though he has not truly been defeated. An unexpected silence envelopes the air as master and disciple exchange glances. Suddenly, Jiang Chen leaps to his feet. You, are you unable to play fair? We agreed to forego spiritual energy. Just as he is about to unleash his frustration, a system notification chimes in. Ding. Disciple Nan Xinyue has defeated Jiang Chen. Ding. The shameless plunder technique is now activating. Target, Jiang Chen. This revelation leaves Jiang Chen utterly flabbergasted. Has the system encountered a glitch? Am I plundering myself? Chapter 8. Witness the sword of my master. Ding. Detection indicates that the target of plunder possesses multi-lifetime cultivation insights. Shall all be plundered? After a brief moment of distraction, the system's notification filled Jiang Chen with exhilaration. Indeed, the shameless plundering technique allows him to usurp the cultivation and insights of anyone defeated by Nan Xinyue. Having lost in the recent competition, the system activated to plunder himself. Quite reasonable, wouldn't you agree? Without hesitation, he chose to plunder everything, with the complete cultivation and insights from the previous 8 lifetimes. How could he possibly not manage Nan Xinyue? A casual infusion of spiritual energy could likely propel her directly to the threshold of the quasi-emperor realm. To his astonishment, this final lifetime's task could be accomplished so effortlessly. Meanwhile, Nan Xinyue gazed at Jiang Chen, who appeared as foolishly joyful as a simpleton, perplexed and assuming her master had lost his wits. I'm sorry, master. I didn't mean to. A hint of awkwardness graced her delicate, cool features. Unfortunately, Jiang Chen was entirely oblivious to her words. Finally, the system's notification resounded once more. Ding. Unknown influence detected. Ding. The plane cannot synchronize match. Cultivation plunder failed. Jiang Chen was taken aback, veins throbbing on his forehead. Damn system. Are you toying with me? What does plunder failure mean? Please remain calm, host. Due to differing planes, each plane has its own cultivation system, making synchronization impossible. However, the comprehension of techniques can be converted. Shall I proceed with the plunder? Jiang Chen had been prepared to explode in rage, but upon hearing the system's final statement, he retracted his invectives. Well, something is better than nothing. Let us proceed with the plunder. Ding. Plunder successful. Ding. Congratulations, host, for plundering Jiang Chen's insights into the 8 lifetimes of techniques. Due to the large number, this system will randomly select 8 types for the host. Please note, due to the host's current weakness, only 1 skill insight has been unlocked, while the remaining 7 remain sealed. The host's strength must reach a certain level to unlock them. This system is pleased to offer a benefit. The plundered skill insights can exert their maximum power, disregarding the host's current cultivation level, with a cooldown period of 10 days, which will decrease as the host's strength increases. As the system's notification concluded, Jiang Chen felt a profound enlightenment flood his mind. 10,000 swords returning to 1, created by the foremost sword immortal of the 9 heavens and 10 earths, capable of slashing through all things. In that moment, Jiang Chen was unsure whether to laugh or cry. After executing a sword strike, he remained an unremarkable weakling. Yet, upon reflection, it hardly mattered. His primary task was to aid Nan Xinyue in becoming stronger. As for himself, possessing this sword would suffice for self-preservation in critical moments. Master? Observing Jiang Chen's expressions shift like a theatrical performance, Nan Xinyue called out to him once more. Hearing her, Jiang Chen returned to his senses, waved his hand dismissively, and replied, "It's nothing. I'm fine, my dear master." "Dear disciple," Jiang Chen said with a smile, "let's disregard the earlier encounter and try once more. If you can withstand a single strike from me, I shall concede defeat." He was determined to instill a sense of control over Nan Xinyue, even if it meant being regarded as weak for another 10 days. However, to his surprise, Nan Xinyue shook her head earnestly and replied, "Master, I have lost." She reflected inwardly, acknowledging that if their powers were equal, she would not stand a chance against Jiang Chen. Accepting her defeat, she vowed to heed his guidance in the future. Upon witnessing her concession, Jiang Chen felt a weight lift from his heart. Although uncertain of her sincerity, he was confident that it would not be long before Nan Xinyue realized that choosing him as her mentor was her wisest decision. "Splendid. Starting tomorrow, I shall officially commence your training," Jiang Chen declared, waving his hand grandly before turning to leave with a leisurely gait. The following day at noon, Jiang Chen was blissfully asleep when a sudden knock at the door roused him from his slumber. Groggily, he donned his robe and approached the door. To his astonishment, he was met by the sight of Nan Xinyue's delicate and cool visage. "Dear disciple, have you come to seek me this early in the day?" he inquired, noting her weary appearance. "Master, it is already noon. When shall we begin our training?" She replied. "Oh, yes, training, indeed. Please wait a moment. I shall be right there," he responded. Nan Xinyue had envisioned numerous methods through which Jiang Chen might instruct her, yet she was unprepared for his unique approach to training. "Dear disciple, for our first lesson, I will teach you about spiritual energy." As she gazed at the pond and the fishing rod Jiang Chen handed her, an imperceptible brow raised in surprise. She had anticipated insights into swordsmanship, considering that Jiang Chen, in his present state, possessed no spiritual power, relying solely on his mastery of the sword. However, she was taken aback by the thought of her master, who could not cultivate, attempting to teach her about spiritual energy. Being a practitioner of the Xianbing sacred body, her grasp of spiritual energy far surpassed that of ordinary practitioners. Thus, she questioned the necessity of Jiang Chen's instruction. Yet, having promised to accept his guidance, she resigned herself to the situation. After all, her master had saved her life, and she had lost the competition. It was only fitting to comply with his wishes and not to squander his goodwill. To her surprise, Jiang Chen seemed to perceive her thoughts. Sitting down casually, he cast the fishing rod with ease. "Dear disciple, are you pondering how I, who cannot cultivate, can possibly teach you about spiritual energy?" Nan Xinyue fell silent, confirming Jiang Chen's suspicions. In the battle against Shun Jingbing a few days ago, had it continued, what were your chances of victory against an opponent of the same realm? "I would not be her match," Nan Xinyue admitted. "Of the same realm?" Jiang Chen chuckled, continuing, "If you merely seek to be invincible among your peers, then your journey ends here. What does it mean to be a prodigy? It is to be invincible among your contemporaries and to surpass those beyond your level. Had that battle continued, you would not have triumphed over Shun Jingbing. This matter pertains not to the realm of attainment, but rather to the adept application of spiritual energy. Although you possess the sacred body of profound ice, allowing you to absorb spiritual energy at a rate far surpassing that of ordinary individuals, you are yet unable to wield it with the utmost finesse. Consider this analogy. In a duel between two opponents, one endowed with immense strength and the other merely an ordinary person, the former may possess great power but strikes chaotically. Conversely, the latter, though lacking in physical prowess, exhibits remarkable control over their strength. With just a singular opening, they can direct their force precisely to deliver a decisive blow to the former. After expounding at length, Jiang Chen turned to glance at Nan Xinyue, only to find her somewhat distracted. Observing this, he could not help but let out a soft sigh. "It seems I must instill some awe in this girl." To rephrase, the master lacks spiritual energy. However, if one were to masterfully apply the essence of swordsmanship to its pinnacle, do you comprehend the result? As Jiang Chen rose, Nan Xinyue finally regained her focus. Shaking her head, "Dear disciple, allow me to demonstrate to you what the pinnacle truly entails." Casually retrieving the steel sword 001 from beside Nan Xinyue, Jiang Chen grasped it with one hand, and an extraordinary transformation enveloped his entire demeanor. In that moment, Nan Xinyue's delicate form trembled violently, inexplicably sensing an aura of unfathomable terror emanating from Jiang Chen. This was not spiritual energy, but rather an ineffable essence of supreme intent. "Behold this strike." Jiang Chen moved slowly, raising his hand with an ethereal grace to unleash a single stroke. Buzz. In Chapter 9, Master, you truly are too low-key. As one person wielded one sword, to Nan Xinyue, Jiang Chen appeared akin to an unparalleled imperial weapon. At the moment he swung his sword, she could even feel the tremors in the surrounding air. The sheer intensity of the sword's essence made her skin prickle with sensation. The invisible sword intent sliced through the air, landing not far away. Boom. A tremendous sound erupted, sending clouds of dust soaring into the air. As the dust settled, Nan Xinyue's gaze shifted sharply, her pupils constricting violently. The usually frosty and exquisite face of hers flashed with astonishment, and her crimson lips parted involuntarily. In the very clearing where she often practiced, a narrow chasm stretched for several dozen meters, unfathomably deep, from which a faint aura of intent pressure subtly emanated. "What is this?" She gazed at Jiang Chen in disbelief, utterly unable to fathom that such a terrifying display of power could indeed be conjured by her master. Reflecting on Jiang Chen's usual playful demeanor and his tendency to boast frivolously, she found it hard to reconcile that with the imposing figure before her, exuding an overwhelming pressure akin to that of an imperial weapon. As for Jiang Chen, Although his earlier casual strike had employed less than 30% of his strength, he felt a wave of weakness due to system constraints. Yet, upon witnessing the look of sheer astonishment on his dear disciple's face, he steeled himself against the feeling of fatigue and sheathed his sword, placing his hands behind his back to effect an air of mastery. My dear disciple, this is the pinnacle. To witness such an exquisite expression on Nan Xinyue's eternally icy countenance made Jiang Chen feel that enduring weakness for 10 days would be worth it. Once she regained her senses, Nan Xinyue gazed at Jiang Chen, her expression growing increasingly intricate. Is this truly the extent of my master's power? Master, do you genuinely believe your foundational essence has been forsaken, rendering you incapable of cultivating? To Nan Xinyue, the sword strike Jiang Chen had just unleashed, even if it was merely an embodiment of pure swordsmanship, exuded a force that surely reached the realm of spirit ruins, if not beyond. The legends of the Tianling sect traditionally portray Jiang Chen, the master of the Xiefeng Peak, as a discarded talent, devoid of the ability to cultivate spiritual energy. Yet now, she finds herself doubting the veracity of such tales. Her master is not only far from being a failure, but possesses strength that is at least on par with the spirit ruins realm. After all, no matter how formidable a concept may be, without sufficient spiritual energy to support it, one could never manifest such terrifying might. Observing that his previous strike had indeed left Nan Xinyue in awe, Jiang Chen feigned a mysterious smile. Now, do I possess the qualifications to guide your cultivation? His words prompted Nan Xinyue to reflect on her recent actions, leaving her feeling genuinely ashamed. Here stands a powerful figure beside her, and yet she had been oblivious, even believing her master unworthy of mentoring her. One could only conclude that her master was truly too modest. With this realization, Nan Xinyue inhaled gently and inclined her body slightly. Previously, it was the disciple who lacked understanding. I beseech you, master, do not hold it against me. Ding. The sudden system notification of a 20-point intimacy value between master and disciple brought a satisfied smile to Jiang Chen's face. Indeed, when it comes to dealing with his proud and willful disciple, only absolute strength could earn her respect. Very well, let us commence our training. A moment later, by the pond, the master and disciple sat on the ground, each holding a fishing rod. Can fishing also serve as a means of cultivation? This was the question in Nan Xinyue's mind. Had it been earlier, she would have deemed such an approach utterly ludicrous. However, with a clearer understanding of Jiang Chen's prowess, she became convinced that her master had a deeper purpose in this practice. Noticing the subtle shift in her expression, Jiang Chen smiled and said, Dear disciple, fishing is indeed a profound art. It shares a remarkable resemblance to cultivation. Pay close attention. You may perceive something of significance. Upon hearing this, Nan Xinyue gently closed her eyes, her fan-like lashes quivering, and then slowly opened them again, shaking her head. This is normal, for your heart is not yet tranquil enough. All things possess spirit. To truly feel, whether it be spiritual energy or the essence of various techniques, one must cultivate a heart as still as water. Nan Xinyue nodded, half comprehending, and once more closed her beautiful eyes, casting aside her distracting thoughts. In a moment of clarity, she found herself unwittingly immersed in a deep state of meditation, suddenly experiencing an enigmatic sensation. Although her eyes were shut, she could clearly perceive everything within several meters around her, the breeze brushing past her ears, the ripples on the water's surface. An unprecedented lightness enveloped her entire being, and the icy spiritual energy within her began to circulate of its own accord. In this extraordinary state, Jiang Chen's astonishing sword strike unexpectedly surfaced in her mind. Raising her hand, she drew her sword. Every motion of Jiang Chen appeared to her in excruciating slowness. In the depths of her consciousness, she seemed to have grasped something elusive. The profound ice energy within her became suddenly agitated. Moments later, she slowly opened her eyes, a glimmer of subtle excitement flickering in her beautiful gaze. Truly, her master had imparted wisdom that felt akin to an enlightening revelation. Master, I have indeed followed your guidance, and it has proven effective. I was on the verge of comprehending that last sword strike you demonstrated, yet I sensed something was amiss. I humbly asked for your guidance. Just as Nan Xinyue was about to seek further instruction, she turned to find Jiang Chen lying on the ground, his hands resting behind his head, his chest rising and falling rhythmically. Master? She called softly, and upon receiving no response, she pondered, could it be that Master has fallen asleep? Indeed, Jiang Chen had succumbed to slumber. During the moment Nan Xinyue had entered her meditative state, he had been overwhelmed by fatigue and inadvertently dozed off. In his drowsy state, he absent-mindedly scratched his chest and turned over to continue sleeping. Little did he know, this seemingly trivial gesture held profound significance in Nan Xinyue's eyes. Reflecting on Jiang Chen's earlier motion of his left index finger pressing against his chest, Nan Xinyue suddenly realized. Her master was not asleep, but was subtly guiding her practice. Understanding dawned upon her. Her master urged her to perceive with her heart. Once more closing her eyes, she calmed her mind like still water. No longer pondering the intricacies of Jiang Chen's sword strike, but instead, she focused intently on the swordsmanship aura emanating from the ravine nearby. As the sun dipped below the horizon, after what seemed countless shifts in Jiang Chen's sleeping posture, Nan Xinyue gradually opened her eyes. So it is, she whispered softly. Rising slowly, with a graceful flick of her wrist, the steel blade 001 materialized in her palm. As the profound ice energy circulated within her, her presence began to ascend steadily. She raised her hand and drew her sword. Her movements were deliberate, echoing the essence of Jiang Chen's earlier strike. A low hum resonated in the air as visible blue sword energy surged forth, crashing onto the water's surface. The impact sent towering waves into the sky, propelling several plump fish into the air. Startled from his slumber, Jiang Chen shot upright, thoroughly alarmed. Wasn't she supposed to be training? Why is she exploding fish now? Nan Xinyue, sheathing her sword, bore a hint of excitement in her beautiful eyes. Although her execution paled in comparison to Jiang Chen's previous strike, she had grasped a fragment of its profound essence. I am but a dull student, only able to comprehend a mere fraction of my master's intent. Rest assured, master, I shall strive diligently in my practice and will not squander your earnest efforts. Jiang Chen scratched his head, utterly bewildered. What is happening? In the brief moment I dozed off, my obedient disciple has already gained insight. Clearing his throat, he remarked, not bad, the child is teachable. Continue your training. I am feeling somewhat weary and shall take a brief rest. With an air of feigned profundity, he turned to pick up several plump fish that had been blasted ashore and departed. Yet, just a few steps away, he spotted a flying spirit crane swiftly approaching from the horizon. Not that eccentric again. Jiang Chen raised an eyebrow, initially suspecting it was Shun Jingbing seeking trouble once more. However, upon the arrival of the spirit crane, he discerned that the individual upon it was a youthful and somewhat naive male disciple. Elder brother Jiang, my grandfather has entrusted me with a message for you. It was Wang Yao, who had grown significantly taller. Jiang Chen chuckled, recognizing Wang Yao as the sole grandson of Wang Daolin. Due to Wang Daolin's influence, Wang Yao was one of the few young disciples within the sect who did not regard Jiang Chen with disdain. Wang Yao, feeling a bit bashful, scratched his head, his gaze inadvertently drifting towards Nan Xinyue beside him. Their eyes met, but Nan Xinyue merely cast a frosty glance before averting her gaze. Wang Yao's face flushed crimson, prompting him to hastily turn his attention back to Jiang Chen. Elder brother Jiang, grandfather said that in the coming days, you should keep junior sister Xinyue at Tingshu Peak and refrain from descending the mountain unnecessarily. Upon hearing Wang Yao's words, Nan Xinyue raised her eyebrows, instinctively glancing at Jiang Chen, who, with a mere tap of his heel, surmised the reason behind this precaution. Is it because of Shun Jingbing? Wang Yao sighed softly, responding, not entirely, but you know how my grandfather is. He inadvertently revealed the sparring match between senior sister Shun and junior sister Xinyue. The disciples from Kongming Peak felt that senior sister Shun had been wronged and clamored to defend her honor. After a brief pause, he furtively glanced at Nan Xinyue before continuing. Grandfather believes that as long as junior sister Xinyue remains at Tingshu Peak, those disciples will not dare to act recklessly. However, if she descends the mountain, he fears they might intentionally create trouble for her. But don't worry, elder brother Jiang and junior sister Xinyue. Grandfather assured me that he would speak on her behalf, and after some time, this matter will pass. Understood, Jiang Chen replied nonchalantly, appearing entirely unconcerned. Observing his calm demeanor, Wang Yao felt compelled to elaborate further, yet upon glimpsing Nan Xinyue's frigidly exquisite visage, he swallowed his words and mounted the spirit crane, soaring into the sky. Once Wang Yao departed, Jiang Chen stretched his limbs. My dear disciple, continue your practice. As Jiang Chen turned to leave, Nan Xinyue hesitated for a moment before speaking up. Master, do you not blame your disciple? Why would I blame you? Jiang Chen inquired. If it were not for your impulsive actions that day, I would not have attracted trouble for myself and Tingshu Peak. Upon hearing this, Jiang Chen shrugged dismissively. In the past, I might have needed to tread carefully due to my weakness, but now, I fear nothing. In 10 days, not only the feeble disciples of Kongming Peak, but even the Peak Master and Shun Xiaodian seeking confrontation would pose no threat to me. This is not your fault. I have my personal grievances with Shun Jingbing. Moreover, you acted to defend me that day. The mention of defend made Nan Xinyue feel slightly embarrassed. Master, you overstate the matter. With your strength, there is no need for me to defend you. Remember this, Tingshu Peak does not seek trouble, yet we are never afraid of it. However, within a span of merely 10 days, you shall remain at the listening Snow Peak for training and descend the mountain thereafter. Upon hearing Jiang Chen's peculiar request, Nan Xinyue inquired with curiosity, 10 days? What is the reason for this? Jiang Chen cleared his throat strategically. My foolish disciple. It is simply because my ultimate technique has a cooldown period of 10 days. While this thought lingered in his mind, Jiang Chen maintained an air of profundity as he replied, Your realm has only recently ascended, and considering your recent insights, you require time for reflection. Indeed, I shall abide by my master's arrangement. Following Jiang Chen's directive, Nan Xinyue devoted the next few days to her training at Listening Snow Peak. Aside from cultivating the profound ice spirit energy at the thoughtful cliff, she immersed herself in comprehending the essence of Jiang Chen's teachings by the pond. On the 11th day, at the thoughtful cliff, within the cave dwelling, Nan Xinyue sat cross-legged, her body enveloped in a swirling blue ice spirit energy, its hue markedly richer than before. As she formed several seals with her fingers, the ice spirit energy within her surged violently. Feeling the chilling force within her, a flicker of pain crossed her brow, and a fine sheen of sweat adorned her forehead. Once the energy dissipated, she gradually opened her eyes and spread her palms. To achieve mastery, the profound ice spirit energy must undergo 9 transformations of refinement. Yet, even with the aid of a celestial-level technique, merely reaching the 2nd transformation has begun to strain my meridians against the terrifying chill. Gazing at the crystalline frost in her palm, Nan Xinyue clenched her delicate fist. Despite having such a formidable master guiding her, if she cannot advance her profound ice spirit energy further, her hopes of vengeance may remain forever unfulfilled. Perhaps it would be prudent to seek my master's counsel. Ever since witnessing Jiang Chen's astonishing sword strike and receiving his guidance, she had unwittingly come to regard him as a beacon on her path of cultivation. Upon unlocking the cave's restrictions, she departed from the thoughtful cliff. Upon finding Jiang Chen, she candidly shared her concerns regarding her cultivation of the profound ice spirit energy. To her, Jiang Chen's immense strength and his immediate recognition of her profound ice sacred body left little room for concealment. After all, were it not for Jiang Chen's return essence pill, she would still be teetering on the precipice of life and death. Upon learning of Nan Xinyue's predicament, Jiang Chen devised a solution. As you have indicated, with each transformation of your profound ice spirit energy, the chilling force increases exponentially. Therefore, the immediate priority is to refine your meridians, and I shall devise a plan for the future. Jiang Chen then retrieved some high-quality spirit stones from his storage ring. The 10-day period has elapsed. It is an opportune moment for you to exchange these for some cold essence liquid within the sect's main hall. Currently, your profound ice spirit energy is only at the 2nd transformation, and the cold essence liquid will suffice for refining your meridians. Nan Xinyue nodded, accepting the spirit stones and preparing to leave. As she was about to depart, Jiang Chen imparted a final reminder. My dear disciple, remember that we at Listening Snow Peak do not instigate trouble, yet we do not shy away from it. Should we encounter any unwise individuals, do not hesitate to strike. I shall bear the consequences for you. The 10-day cooling-off period has elapsed, and Jiang Chen naturally possesses ample confidence. Practical experience is the swiftest path to strength. One cannot remain ensconced in the tranquil confines of Listening Snow Peak for eternity. Jiang Chen's words elicited a subtle tremor from Nan Xinyue. Due to the betrayal of her kin and years of tumultuous wandering, she had long since sealed her heart, resulting in the frigid exterior and demeanor she now bore. She had always believed that in this world, the only entity one could rely upon and trust unconditionally was oneself. Yet, Jiang Chen's presence and their interactions during this period had begun to create a slight fissure in the fortress she had built within her heart. She merely nodded faintly, her cold nature rendering her unable to articulate her feelings, before turning to depart. Just as Nan Xinyue exited, the system notification chimed in Jiang Chen's ear. Ding. Master Disciple Affinity Value, 20. In the Heavenly Mystery Sect, Nan Xinyue donned a simple white robe, her exquisite features captivating, with her flowing hair dancing in the breeze. Each step she took seemed to blossom like a lotus, yet her every gesture exuded an air of desolation. Her presence drew the attention of several disciples within the sect, each of them awestruck by her beauty. As she ascended the stone steps towards the main hall, she encountered a few disciples coming down. Nan Xinyue brushed past them without pausing her gaze, but theirs lingered longingly on her retreating figure. Is that her? It must be. She stood right beside me during the sect's entrance examination, as cold as ice. There's no mistake. One disciple with a pockmarked face remarked. You all keep watch here. I'm going to find Senior Brotherly. Inside the main hall, Nan Xinyue exchanged spirit stones for the frost spirit liquid and casually scanned for any other herbs she might require before exiting the hall. Meanwhile, outside the main hall, several disciples clad in the attire of the void mist peak lingered, their eyes fixed intently on the entrance. Jiegu, do we really not need to call senior brotherly? Asked the earlier pockmarked disciple, observing the attire of his companions, who were evidently disciples of the Void Mist Peak. The man known as Jiegu possessed striking features and wielded a folding fan with an air of elegance. She is merely a girl who couldn't even pass the Celestial Stone Steps examination. There's no need to trouble senior brotherly. I, Song Shiji, am sufficient. However, I've heard she managed to outwit senior sister Shun, another disciple interjected. How absurd. How much credence can one give to Elder Wang's words? Have you considered that if senior sister Shin truly suffered a loss, she would have caused a commotion at Listening Snow Peak long ago? Jiegu. The girl has come out. Chapter 11. Those who insult my master shall die outside the main hall, as Nan Xinyue stepped forth. She could sense the gaze of numerous onlookers fixated upon her. Yet, she remained indifferent. Upon descending the final step, she encountered several disciples dressed in the attire of the Void Mist Peak. The leading man, holding a folding fan and exuding an extraordinary demeanor, could not help but be momentarily taken aback by Nan Xinyue's striking presence. On the day of the sect assessment, Nan Xinyue appeared as frail and haggard as ever, hardly deserving of his attention. Yet now, gazing upon the enchanting figure before him, reminiscent of a celestial maiden from the heavens, his gaze betrayed a flicker of desire. However, recalling Nan Xinyue's identity and the rift between her and Shin Jingbing, he subdued his impassioned thoughts. Initially, he had intended to employ a forceful approach to compel Nan Xinyue to apologize to Shin Jingbing, thereby earning her favor and solidifying his standing at the Kongming Peak. Nevertheless, he resolved to adopt a strategy of courtesy before aggression. Miss Xinyue, I am Song Shiji, he said, lightly cupping his fist in salute, a confident smile gracing his lips. Yet, before he could finish his sentence, he watched as Nan Xinyue walked past him without even a fleeting glance. Song Shiji's expression darkened instantly, and he pivoted, hastening to block her path once more. Miss Xinyue, do you not recall our encounter? We met briefly on the Tongtian Stone Steps. At last, Nan Xinyue turned her beautiful eyes towards him, recognizing Song Shiji, the very man who had once ridiculed her on the Tongtian Stone Steps. Leave, she uttered coldly, her tone devoid of warmth, before striding past him again. The single word left Song Shiji momentarily stunned, unable to comprehend her audacity. Meanwhile, several disciples of Kongming Peak seethed with indignation. This arrogant girl, how dare she tell Brother Jie to leave? Brother Jie, can you endure this? Your patience is astounding. Brother Jie, we all know you are gentle, but this girl has offended Sister Shun. Do not be so polite with her. Incited by their words, Song Shiji felt a surge of frustration. Among his peers, he was not the most distinguished, yet he held a modicum of renown. How could he tolerate being dismissed by a girl who had not even passed the Tongtian Stone Steps assessment? Nan Xinyue, stop right there. When a soft approach failed, Song Shiji resorted to force. Seeing she continued onward, he swiftly advanced, placing his hand upon her delicate shoulder. Be sensible now, before he could finish. Nan Xinyue's expression shifted dramatically. A chilling aura of spiritual energy erupted from her, forcing him to stagger backward. The icy energy enveloped her form before gradually retracting within her. If you dare lay a hand on me again, I shall sever it, she warned, her voice steady and unwavering. Regaining his composure, Song Shiji glanced at his palm, which bore a thin layer of frost, and he murmured to himself about the peculiarities of her power. Indeed, she was a practitioner of the spirit realm. It was no wonder she could be so audacious. With a flick of his wrist, he dissipated the frost and looked back at her. I expected you to remain a timid turtle hidden within the Tianling Peak, yet you possess some boldness. Nan Xinyue, come with me to apologize to Sister Shun. Before descending the mountain, Nan Xinyue had anticipated that the disciples of Kongming Peak would seek to provoke her, although Jiang Chen had advised her to act decisively when necessary. She was well aware of the sect's regulations against personal combat among disciples. Thus, she paid no heed to Song Shiji's provocation. After taking a few steps, however, his voice resonated behind her once more. Is this the virtue of a disciple from the Listening Snow Peak? Indeed, a disciple nurtured by your mediocre, inept master is merely a waste. Upon noticing Nan Xinyue standing still, Song Shiji toyed with his folding fan and continued to mock. What's the matter? Have I struck a nerve? Everyone in the sect knows your master is a talentless failure, surviving only on the favors of the former peak master. To accept such a worthless teacher, Nan Xinyue, you truly are desperate to remain in the Tianxin sect. Nan Xinyue was aware of the current plight of Listening Snow Peak and had no intention of stirring up trouble before the sect's trial. Yet, Song Shiji's derogatory remarks about Jiang Chen ignited a flicker of murderous intent within her. It was Jiang Chen who had bestowed upon her a new lease on life. With her current feeble strength, she was at a loss as to how to repay his kindness. Nonetheless, within the confines of the Tianxin sect, she would not allow anyone to insult Jiang Chen. Buzz. The sound of a sword echoed. Those who insult my master shall die. Nan Xinyue's tone was indifferent as she unleashed her profound ice spiritual energy, her figure flickering as she swung her sword toward Song Shiji. The chilling power rushing toward him startled Song Shiji, causing his complexion to shift dramatically. Nan Xinyue, have you lost your mind? He had not anticipated that she would dare to strike within the sect. This mad girl. Did she not realize that the enforcement team was nearby? Flustered, Song Shiji hastily mobilized his spiritual energy in preparation for a counterattack. Stop! A furious shout pierced the air, followed by a formidable surge of spiritual energy that forcefully struck the tip of Nan Xinyue's sword. The overwhelming force compelled her to stagger back several steps. It was the enforcement team. Hee, this time the girl from Listening Snow Peak is in for it. With the appearance of the enforcement team, the onlooking disciples eagerly anticipated the unfolding spectacle. The arrival of the enforcement team relieved Song Shiji. He was not concerned about being unable to match Nan Xinyue, but rather that if forced to retaliate, he too would face punishment. Disciples are strictly forbidden from engaging in private disputes. Where do you place the sect's regulations? The leader of the enforcement team cast a cold gaze upon both Song Shiji and Nan Xinyue. Lord, please see clearly. She struck first. And this disciple was merely acting in self-defense, Song Shiji quickly replied, clasping his hands in respect. Do you have anything to refute? The enforcement team leader glared at Nan Xinyue with a menacing look. At a loss for words, the taciturn Nan Xinyue merely fixed her icy, penetrating gaze on Song Shiji. With no rebuttal forthcoming, according to sect rules, those who engage in unauthorized combat shall be punished with 100 strikes and a month of wall confinement in the abyss of despair. The enforcement team leader waved his hand, preparing to seal Nan Xinyue's spiritual power, when he heard a companion's voice nearby. Captain, this girl appears to be the disciple from Listening Snow Peak that Elder Wang mentioned. Upon hearing this, the enforcement team leader paused, turned to Nan Xinyue, and frowned slightly. Which spirit peak are you from? Listening Snow Peak, Nan Xinyue replied coldly. Upon confirming the identity of Nan Xinyue, the captain of the enforcement team exchanged glances with his companions, a hint of awkwardness evident in their expressions. Clearing his throat, he turned his attention towards Song Shiji. Are you injured? The sudden inquiry caught Song Shiji off guard, prompting him to respond with a cheerful grin. Fortunately, my lord intervened in time. I have sustained no injuries. Since you are unscathed, and considering you are both new disciples, I shall issue merely a verbal warning this time. My lord, Song Shiji was taken aback. He had heard that the enforcers of the Tianling sect were notoriously stringent and domineering in their conduct. What was happening this time? A private dispute within the sect. And yet it concluded with nothing more than a verbal reprimand? The captain of the enforcement team retracted his spiritual energy and addressed Nan Xinyue, saying, Little girl, if there are grievances, they should be resolved on the sect's arena. Should this occur again, the punishment will be severe. After delivering his verbal warning, the captain led his companions away, soaring into the sky without lingering. Witnessing the matter come to an end, Song Shiji felt a surge of frustration, yet found himself without recourse. Nan Xinyue, just you wait. Just as he turned away, he noticed Nan Xinyue striding towards the nearby arena, her delicate figure flickering before gracefully leaping onto the platform, her sword tip aimed directly at Song Shiji. You come up. Chapter 12. Do you wish to kill me? Faced with Nan Xinyue's audacious challenge, Song Shiji was utterly bewildered. He had assumed that after evading the enforcer's punishment, Nan Xinyue would discreetly withdraw. To his astonishment, she boldly proclaimed her challenge on the arena. Did she truly perceive him as a defenseless soft target? Jiegu, this audacious girl dares to challenge you? This is an excellent opportunity. On the arena, even if you nearly beat her to death, the enforcers will not intervene. Once senior sister Shin finds out, she will undoubtedly regard you with newfound respect. In truth, even without the encouragement of his companions, Song Shiji would seize this opportunity. He considered his talents commendable. Though he could not compare to the genuine prodigies, with ample cultivation resources, he was confident in establishing a foothold at Kongming Peak, and even within the Tianling sect. The presence of Nan Xinyue before him served as an excellent stepping stone. Due to Shun Xiaoyan's influence, Shen Jingbing was highly regarded by the Peak Master even at Kongming Peak. As more disciples gathered to watch, Song Shiji smiled, stowed away his folding fan, and with a graceful movement, transformed into a fleeting shadow, leaping onto the arena. As he landed, holding his fan, a calm smile graced his lips. With the crowd of gathered disciples increasing, many recognized both Nan Xinyue and Song Shiji. Nan Xinyue truly knows no fear. To offend senior sister Shun and still appear here? Wait, during the sect's trial, wasn't she only at the 6th level of qi refinement? How has she reached the spirit realm? Although the Xiefeng was impoverished, it was possible that the former Peak Master had left behind a substantial number of elixirs for Jiang Chen. Given that Jiang Chen was inept and unable to provide guidance. It was likely that he had forcibly elevated Nan Xinyue to the spirit realm through elixirs. Song Shiji from Kongming Peak? I know him. He is at the 7th level of the spirit realm, and among this cohort of disciples, his strength ranks within the top 50. In this battle, Nan Xinyue is destined to lose. Her innate talent is already feeble, and with a similarly weak master, her shortcomings are magnified. Among the onlooking disciples, most are waiting to witness the farce involving Nan Xinyue and the listening Snow Peak, except for Wang Yao, whose gaze towards her is filled with concern. Upon learning that Nan Xinyue intended to engage in a duel with Song Shiji, he hurried over without delay. His junior sister is far too impulsive. Song Shiji's strength is formidable. Anxiously scratching his head, Wang Yao found himself unable to intervene. After much contemplation, he decided to inform his grandfather, Wang Daolin, through a sound transmission talisman, and then hastened towards listening Snow Peak. On the arena, the Tianxian sect has always encouraged its disciples to engage in sparring and exchanges, establishing numerous platforms for this purpose. Some significant matches are overseen by elders, while lesser duels are monitored by junior disciples. In the arena, victory and defeat depend solely on skill. Stepping down from the platform or verbally conceding ends the duel. It is imperative to remember that one must not take a life among peers, cautioned a Tianxian sect disciple overseeing the match. Rest assured, senior brother, I will show mercy. Song Shiji replied with a smile. As the overseeing disciple withdrew, a faint chill permeated the air, emanating from the Xianbing's spiritual energy surrounding Nan Xinyue. 4th level of the Spirit Master Realm? Quite impressive, Song Shiji mused with a grin, retracting his folding fan as his spiritual energy surged forth. However, it is regrettable that we are 3 minor realms apart. Nan Xinyue, while I still harbor some sympathy, you should obediently seek out Sister Shun. Nan Xinyue coldly interrupted Song Shiji, causing his expression to darken as he snorted in disdain. You are truly ungrateful. With that, he lunged directly at her. In response, Nan Xinyue stood her ground without flinching. Aside from Shun Jingbing, she had yet to spar with any other disciples of the Tianxian sect, and she was eager to discern her strength relative to them. Thuds resounded on the arena as they exchanged blows rapidly, their confrontation escalating into a flurry of strikes. Nan Xinyue remained defensive, entirely suppressed, yet upon closer inspection, her delicate features maintained a cool composure, devoid of any signs of panic. Too weak, was her assessment. She felt the opponent lacked even the merit to warrant her drawing her sword. In contrast, Shin Jingbing was significantly stronger. After repelling Nan Xinyue with a single strike, Song Shiji stood with his hands clasped behind his back. You are far too weak. Did your useless master teach you only how to flee? Perhaps you should go plead with your master to apologize to Sister Shun on your behalf. After all, he has been ridiculed for years. What does it matter if he suffers one more embarrassment? As his words fell, a glint of determination flashed in Nan Xinyue's beautiful eyes, and the Xianbing's spiritual energy emanating from her intensified. Observing the situation, Song Shiji calmly opened his folding fan and continued, I find myself quite curious. The reputation of Jiang Chen as a worthless individual is well known among the disciples of the heavenly profound sect, and everyone avoids him. Yet here you are, fervently defending him. Could it be that beyond your master-disciple relationship, there exists some clandestine connection between you? Although there are rules in the arena that prohibit taking lives, Nan Xinyue could not suppress her murderous intent. Buzz, the steel blade in her hand, seemingly sensing something, emitted a resonating hum. Nan Xinyue slowly raised her hand, gently closed her beautiful eyes, and enveloped the sword's body with the essence of Xianbing. A vision of the breathtaking sword strike that Jiang Chen had once unleashed surfaced in her mind. After a brief moment, she gradually opened her eyes, lifted her hand, and swung the sword. Buzz! A brilliant blue sword light surged forth, its intense coldness dropping the surrounding temperature several degrees. Upon sensing the terrifying power of this strike, Song Shiji's expression changed drastically. Without a moment's hesitation, he summoned all his spiritual energy to envelop himself in a protective barrier. Boom! The sword light struck fiercely against the barrier. Crack, crack! To his horror, Song Shiji discovered that his fully powered barrier was fracturing inch by inch. In the blink of an eye, the barrier shattered into countless fragments. With a pained scream, he spat blood and was sent flying. One strike, and victory was claimed. The once raucous arena fell into an eerie silence, soon followed by gasps of astonishment. This 7th-tier spiritual practitioner, Song Shiji, could not withstand even a single strike from Nan Xinyue. What a terrifying sword! Nan Xinyue possesses such formidable strength. Sword intent. I sensed a hint of sword intent within that strike. This is impossible. How could Nan Xinyue, a mere spiritual practitioner, comprehend such profundity? No, something is amiss. That sword is extraordinary. My heavens! It is indeed a high-grade spiritual weapon, at least 5th tier or above. Many keen observers in the audience discerned the exceptional quality of the sword in Nan Xinyue's grasp. So that's how it is. Nan Xinyue is utilizing the power of a spiritual weapon. How could she possibly possess such a high-grade weapon? Could it be a gift from Jiang Chen? Wasn't it said that the Shueshue peak is impoverished? How could they possess such a high-tier spiritual weapon? In the arena, Song Shiji laboriously rose to his feet. His clothes tattered, blood gushing from his chest, his face pale and utterly disheveled. You wish to kill me? Song Shiji's countenance was somewhat ghastly. He had felt Nan Xinyue's murderous intent in that last strike. Had it not been for the spiritual armor beneath his garments absorbing much of the force, that blow could have very well claimed his life. Seeing that Song Shiji was merely gravely injured, Nan Xinyue's expression remained cold and unyielding. With graceful yet swift steps, she advanced, pointing her sword directly at Song Shiji's heart. Feeling the unabashed murderous intent from Nan Xinyue and the swiftness of her approach, Song Shiji panicked. You madwoman! I concede. In a desperate bid for survival, he readily admitted defeat, only to realize with terror that Nan Xinyue showed no signs of slowing down. Instead, she became even more relentless. The outcome was clear. Stop! The disciples guarding the arena, upon witnessing the unfolding scene, hurriedly attempted to intervene, sprinting towards the stage. Yet, the decisive strike from Nan Xinyue was executed with such resolve that the guard could not reach her in time to prevent it. Upon the arena, Nan Xinyue's lethal sword came to a halt mere inches from Song Shiji's throat. It was not out of mercy that she hesitated, but rather due to a clandestine force that had ensnared her movements with overwhelming spiritual power. Despite her best efforts, she found herself utterly immobilized. Alas! You possess a fierce temperament, my child, echoed a familiar voice in her mind, bringing a twinge of recognition. Song Shiji, his complexion ashen and disregarding all semblance of dignity, swiftly rolled off the stage, propelled by the fear instilled by the blade poised against him. Jiegu! Several disciples from Kongming Peak rushed forward to assist him. As he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, he cast a venomous glance at Nan Xinyue before gritting his teeth and declaring, "Let us depart." Shamed by his defeat and narrowly escaping death, he had no desire to linger further, being helped away by his companions in a state of distress. On the stage, Nan Xinyue sensed the binding force dissipate, sheathed her sword, and descended gracefully from the platform. Hovering above was Wang Daolin, still enveloped in the remnants of spiritual energy. The memory of Nan Xinyue's recent strike sent a shiver down his spine, a moment of apprehension overtaking him. After receiving a transmission from Wang Yao, he had rushed to the scene, intending to discreetly assess Nan Xinyue's prowess. It was only at a critical juncture that he intervened, preventing her from committing an irrevocable error. That strike was undeniably imbued with a trace of swordsmanship, Wang Daolin mused to himself. As Nan Xinyue walked past, the crowd parted respectfully, the weight of her earlier display having left them in awe. Once she had distanced herself, hushed whispers began to circulate among the onlookers. This young lady is quite formidable. Why is her demeanor so cold? Her methods are exceedingly ruthless. No wonder she seeks to join Tingshu Peak. With such a peculiar temperament, which spiritual peak could possibly accommodate her? Nonetheless, she is indeed impressive, to have grasped a hint of the sword's essence at such a young age. Nonsense. She merely relies on the power of her advanced spiritual weapon. I could do the same. Then why not challenge her to a duel? Tingshu Peak. Oh dear. Brother Jiang. If we don't hurry, it will truly be too late. Sister Xinyue is in grave danger. Wang Yao exclaimed, anxiously watching Jiang Chen, who remained leisurely fishing by the pond. After hastily contacting his grandfather via a transmission talisman, he had rushed to Tingshu Peak. Although his grandfather was a senior elder within the law enforcement pavilion, he was reluctant to interfere in the disciples' duels. Wang Yao deemed it necessary for Jiang Chen to intervene, given that Nan Xinyue was a disciple of Tingshu Peak. However, upon learning of the situation, Jiang Chen unhurriedly replied that he would catch one last fish before heading over. Though he spoke of fishing, he was, in truth, awaiting a system notification. Ding! Disciple Nan Xinyue has defeated Song Shiji. The unscrupulous plunder technique is now activated, with the target being Song Shiji. The system's voice chimed, revealing the plundered cultivation level, 7th realm of the Spirit Master, with an understanding of the wind force, beginner level. As expected, just after Nan Xinyue had defeated a disciple, the system's voice resonated. A long-lost surge of spiritual energy instantaneously flooded into Jiang Chen's limbs, sending a delightful shiver through him. This shameless plunder technique is indeed quite a bug, capable of disregarding a discarded foundation of cultivation. Speaking of bugs, an absurd yet rational thought suddenly struck Jiang Chen, prompting him to consider an experiment. Noticing Jiang Chen's distraction, Wang Yao grew increasingly anxious. Brother Jiang, are you even listening to me? He implored. As your master, I am not in a hurry. Why are you? Little Wang Yao, you seem particularly concerned about my disciple. Let me guess, Jiang Chen teased, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Ah, I see you like Xinyue. What? I do not. Wang Yao stammered, his face flushing a deep crimson as he struggled to articulate his response. Seeing his awkward demeanor, Jiang Chen burst into laughter, waving his hand reassuringly. All right. Do not fret. The sect encourages disciples to engage in sparring. It's merely a competition and one T lead to fatalities. Humph. Who told you there wouldn't be fatalities? An irritable voice resonated from the heavens, followed by the sudden appearance of Wang Daolin. Grandfather, Wang Yao exclaimed, rushing forward, visibly tense. Why are you here? How is Sister Xinyue? Is she unharmed? Witnessing his grandson's barrage of questions, Wang Daolin shook his head with a wry smile, gently tapping Wang Yao on the forehead. You foolish boy, you're practically advertising your infatuation. Do not worry, that girl is perfectly fine. Wang Yao exhaled a sigh of relief upon hearing this. Understood, grandfather, he nodded, turning to depart. Come, Elder Wang, I am feeling particularly lucky today. Shall we have a couple of rounds? Jiang Chen chimed in cheerfully. You rascal. You still have the mind to fish? Your disciple nearly caused a grave mistake. In a duel, only victory or defeat is to be determined. Yet she almost killed that disciple from Kongming Peak. Is that so? Did that Kongming Peak disciple perish? Jiang Chen inquired. Wang Daolin stroked his beard, a hint of pride in his demeanor as he replied, Of course not. Fortunately, I intervened just in time. Seeing Jiang Chen maintain his nonchalant expression, Wang Daolin could not help but sigh deeply. Though she is young, that girl possesses an excessively cold temperament and a somewhat ruthless approach. Given your current circumstances, you cannot effectively discipline her, and she may not even regard you as an authority. If left unchecked, she could potentially cause you significant trouble in the future. Hey, who says I cannot discipline her? Jiang Chen retorted. At that moment, Nan Xinyue returned, approaching Jiang Chen and Wang Daolin with measured steps. Master, she addressed him. After a moment of hesitation, Nan Xinyue turned to Wang Daolin beside her and spoke in a crisp tone. Disciple Nan Xinyue pays her respects to Elder Wang. My dear disciple, you should hasten your cultivation. This matter does not concern you, Wang Daolin urged, a hint of irritation in his voice. Jiang Chen wished to dismiss Nan Xinyue, yet Wang Daolin continued, somewhat displeased, little girl. Do you know it was I who secretly obstructed you earlier? I am aware. She replied, having recognized Wang Daolin's voice during the earlier competition. Then do you understand why I intervened? I do not. Observing Nan Xinyue's indifferent demeanor, Elder Wang felt both exasperated and helpless, his tone growing firmer. Regardless of any disputes you may have with that disciple, harboring murderous intent is unacceptable. As a disciple of Xingshu Peak, you should be cognizant of the current situation regarding Xingshu Peak and your master. Kongming Peak and Yujian Peak have always maintained a close relationship and have been at odds with Xingshu Peak. If you were to kill that disciple today, Kongming Peak and Yujian Peak would undoubtedly seize the opportunity to retaliate. Infighting among brethren is a grave taboo within the Tianxian sect. Have you considered the ramifications for your master? Or do you believe that since your master is currently incapacitated, you may act as you please? Despite Wang Daolin's reprimand, Nan Xinyue's emotions remained unchanged, her beautiful eyes cast downwards. She felt no need to defend herself. She simply acted according to her beliefs. As Wang Daolin's tone intensified, Jiang Chen, though close to Wang, interjected lazily. Elder Wang, I believe my dear disciple acted rightly. Perhaps her actions were somewhat excessive, but she was provoked by that person who insulted both me and Xingshu Peak. Her actions were in defense of her master and Xingshu Peak, and as her master, I ought to feel pleased. He then glanced at Nan Xinyue and gave her a thumbs up. Well done, my dear disciple. Wang Daolin was taken aback. Even Nan Xinyue was surprised. She had anticipated her master would offer some token reprimand, merely to appease Wang Daolin, but instead, her master had firmly defended her. The sect encouraged disciples to spar, and anything could happen on the arena. Swords are blind. It could only be said that the disciple from Kongming Peak was simply too weak to contend with my dear disciple. Furthermore, perhaps my disciple was merely trying to intimidate him. Even without Elder Wang's intervention, she would not truly resort to lethal measures. After all, no one was harmed. There's always next time. If there were indeed a fatal incident, I would certainly impose severe punishment on her. Next time? Jiang Chen's peculiar remarks nearly short-circuited Wang Daolin's mind. What nonsense. She had a sword at his throat, and you expect me to believe there was no intent to kill? And you speak of a next time? You actually wish for another opportunity. Let us not be hasty. Let us discuss the matter at hand. Standing beside Jiang Chen, Nan Xinyue maintained her cool demeanor, yet the corners of her mouth involuntarily curled into a slight smile. As the two individuals engaged in a heated dispute over Nan Xinyue, Wang Yao, who had previously departed, returned breathlessly. Not good, Grandpa. Brother Jiang. Observing Wang Yao's frantic demeanor, Wang Daolin shot a fierce glare at Jiang Chen before turning his attention to Wang Yao. What on earth is happening? Why are you in such a fluster? At the foot of the mountain, a multitude of disciples from the Kongming Peak had gathered, clamoring for Brother Jiang to provide an explanation. Upon hearing that the disciples from Kongming Peak had blocked the entrance to Tingshu Peak, Wang Daolin's anger flared, his beard nearly standing on end. Look at what trouble your precious disciple has stirred up. Although Jiang Chen had been embroiled in a fervent debate with Wang Daolin moments before, he understood that the latter's intentions were rooted in concern for his well-being. They are merely a rabble, my dear disciple. Come, let us go and disperse them. Stretching languidly, Jiang Chen set aside his fishing rod and beckoned to Nan Xinyue, preparing to descend the mountain. I have no desire to involve myself in this. Wang Daolin, incensed, flung his sleeves and began to float away, but not before sending a mental message to Wang Yao. Yaoer, go and observe the situation. If any conflict arises, use a communication talisman to inform your grandfather. At Tingshu Peak's entrance, over a dozen disciples from Kongming Peak had assembled, their expressions grim. Among them was Song Shiji, appearing particularly disheveled, with thick bandages wrapped around his chest and a pallid complexion, supported by two fellow disciples. Brotherly, that Jiang Chen is nothing but a coward. He surely won't show himself. How long must we wait? Indeed. Brotherly, let us storm up there and capture Jiang Chen and that foul girl. They had offended Sister Shun and injured Brother Song. If they did not retaliate, would not Kongming Peak become a laughingstock among the other spiritual peaks? Listening to the clamoring of his fellow disciples eager to rush up to Tingshu Peak, the leader, Brotherly, furrowed his brow. Silence. Although Tingshu Peak may be in decline, that useless Jiang Chen is still the nominal peak master. If we recklessly charge up the mountain, we might find ourselves at a disadvantage. Brotherly, clearly holding some esteem among the crowd, managed to quiet them with his words. Ah, such a lively gathering, came a teasing voice from nearby, drawing everyone's attention. They turned to see Jiang Chen leisurely descending the stone steps, with Nan Xinyue and Wang Yao closely trailing behind. As Jiang Chen and Nan Xinyue appeared, the crowd's agitation surged once more, especially in Song Shiji's eyes, which were filled with resentment as he gazed at Nan Xinyue. He had not only suffered humiliation in the earlier arena, but had also sustained severe injuries that would require at least 6 months to heal, jeopardizing his participation in the upcoming sect trials. Jiang Chen halted before the crowd, his gaze directed at the leader, Brotherly, Li Zhe of Kongming Peak. I have the honor of meeting the Peak Master Jiang. According to protocol, the disciples of Kongming Peak were obliged to pay their respects to Jiang Chen. However, Li Zhe merely uttered a token statement while standing upright, clearly dismissive of Jiang Chen's status as the Peak Master. What do you all mean by blocking my listening, Snow Peak? Jiang Chen said languidly. Upon hearing this, Li Zhe cast a glance at Nan Xinyue before retracting his gaze. Is Peak Master Jiang aware of the matter regarding the arena? Yes, I am, Jiang Chen replied. I have come to listening Snow Peak on the orders of the Peak Master to demand an explanation. Infighting among fellow disciples is strictly forbidden within the sect. Have your disciple apologize to Brother Song, and then go to the law enforcement pavilion to accept punishment. Li Zhe's words were delivered lightly, almost in a commanding tone. Oh, is that your Peak Master's intention? Jiang Chen inquired. Noticing a change in Jiang Chen's demeanor, a flicker of disdain crossed Li Zhe's eyes. This was certainly not their Peak Master's intention. The trivial matter among disciples did not warrant his attention. He merely invoked the Peak Master's name to impose psychological pressure on Jiang Chen. Indeed, it is our Peak Master's intention. Then let Duan Mingyuan come and speak to me himself. You all may leave. Seeing Jiang Chen directly refer to their Peak Master by name, the disciples of Kongming Peak were incensed. How outrageous! Daring to call my Peak Master's name directly? Jiang Chen, do you think yourself of any worth? Merely a useless one. Do you truly believe you can stand on equal footing with my Peak Master? Senior Brotherly, enough of this nonsense, just capture him. To Jiang Chen, this scene resembled a group of children playing house, even rendering him somewhat bored. However, beside him, Nan Xinyue's already frosty countenance grew even colder, her delicate hand instinctively gripping the hilt of her sword. My dear disciple, it's of no consequence, merely a trifling matter, Jiang Chen reassured, sensing her shift in mood. In contrast to the mindless chatter of the other disciples, Li Zhe was far more composed. Silence. After sternly reprimanding his fellow disciples, he turned his dark expression towards Jiang Chen. He understood all too well that no matter how inept Jiang Chen might be, he was still the master of Lingfeng and not someone ordinary disciples could easily provoke. I address you as Peak Master out of respect for sect regulations, but that does not imply you possess corresponding strength. Nan Xinyue has severely injured a disciple of Kongming Peak and even attempted to take her life. Surrender her, and this matter will be considered resolved. Alas, the youth of today are so hot-headed. Jiang Chen, already disinterested in engaging with these disciples, found the incessant buzzing of these bothersome flies at listening Snow Peak tiresome. Rather than waste time bickering with these petty individuals, he would prefer to return home, catch a few fish, make a fine soup, and then appease Wang Daolin. My dear disciple, Jiang Chen said, I am here. Jiang Chen stretched his waist, lazily stating, I am weary. I shall return to take a nap. Remain here and, without my permission, should anyone dare to step forward, do you know what to do? I understand. Nan Xinyue stepped forward, her delicate wrist flicking as the steel blade, 0.01, appeared in her palm. With her icy, beautiful gaze surveying the crowd below, she seemed unfazed by Jiang Chen's unexpectedly assertive demeanor, while Li Zai's expression darkened. Jiang Chen, are you truly intent on severing ties with Kongming Peak? Regardless of Li Zai's incessant barking behind him, Jiang Chen chose to ignore him. Brother Jiang, are we truly leaving like this? Is it wise to leave Sister Xinyue alone? Wang Yao glanced back at the slightly fragile figure standing among the crowd, worry etched across his face. Perhaps you should stay and accompany her? Huh. I'm not skilled in combat. Should I call my grandfather instead? Wang Yao suggested. Rest assured, there won't be any conflict. Those disciples are merely all bark and no bite. They wouldn't dare cause a scene here. Wang Yao replied, reluctantly following Jiang Chen up the mountain. Glancing back 3 times, witnessing Jiang Chen's apparent disregard for her, Li Zai's face darkened to an extreme, his fellow disciples behind him gritting their teeth in anger. How outrageous! How dare that useless Jiang Chen act so brazenly? Does he think that the people of Kongming Peak are mere pushover? Let us head up the mountain now. I want to see what he can do. Suddenly, a piercing sound of a sword echoed, accompanied by a chilling aura. Standing at the mountain gate, Nan Xinyue, with sword in hand, looked down upon the crowd with her frosty gaze. Those who trespass on Xingshu Peak shall be slain. Her voice, as cold as ice, momentarily silenced the previously restless crowd. Chapter 15. Can I exploit a system bug? The unintentional chill that emanated from Nan Xinyue resembled that of an unparalleled empress, evoking an instinctual desire for reverence. However, the disciples of Kongming Peak quickly regained their composure. In terms of seniority, they were all her seniors. You little brat. Who are you trying to scare? What nonsense about Xingshu Peak? I shall trespass today, and what will you do about it? A burly disciple stepped forward from the crowd, swaggering confidently. Just as he lifted his foot to step onto the platform, Nan Xinyue showed no hesitation and swung her sword. A dazzling beam of sword light rushed towards the disciple, whose face changed drastically as he clumsily dodged. Bang! A dull thud echoed as he stared at the crater left in the ground, cold sweat drenching him, before he glared fiercely at Nan Xinyue. You little brat. Are you serious? Nan Xinyue, sword held in one hand, a glimmer of cold light swirling at the tip, exuded an intent to strike at any moment. How dare you bully me? I will not let this go unchallenged. The disciple, clearly hot-tempered, rolled up his sleeves, ready to fight. Stand down. Li Zai suddenly admonished in a deep voice. The disciple, however, remained defiant, saying, Brotherly, you see how arrogant this girl is. I said stand down. Seeing Li Zai's tone grow heavier, the disciple clenched his fists, shot a glare at Nan Xinyue, and turned to retreat into the crowd. Li Zai felt just as aggrieved as the other disciples. His intention in bringing people here was to leverage a show of force to compel Jiang Chen and the disciples of Tsing-E Peak to acquiesce. He had assumed that the long-dwindling Tsing-E Peak and the ineffectual Jiang Chen would not dare to confront them, yet unexpectedly, Jiang Chen's stance was resolute. Moreover, the presence of Nan Xinyue, a headstrong girl quick to resort to violence, added to his frustration. Fortunately, he managed to retain a semblance of composure. Gathering a group at the gates of Tsing-E Peak was, by all standards, against sect rules, and should a brawl ensue, the situation would only escalate. Unlike Shen Jingbing, who had the backing of a peak master father, he lacked the audacity to openly defy sect regulations. What was intended as a means of venting frustration had devolved into a muddle of indignation, leaving him utterly powerless. This feeling was deeply stifling for Li Zai, and his countenance darkened ominously. Brotherly, at that moment, Song Shiji spoke up, wobbling toward Li Zai with the assistance of 2 disciples. We must not act impulsively. Jiang Chen is exceedingly cunning. This is undoubtedly his tactic to provoke us. If we engage in a fight here or force our way into the mountain, he will surely turn the tables on us within the sect. Do you think I am unaware of such reasoning? Li Zai retorted with displeasure. Had Song Shiji informed him promptly about Nan Xinyue's descent, he could have resolved the matter himself, thus avoiding the current predicament. For a time, both sides stood in a tense standoff. Nan Xinyue remained poised with her sword, resembling a statue, her icy gaze fixed on the crowd below. Ultimately, feeling powerless, Lize had no choice but to leave, his heart burdened with unexpressed frustration. At Xinyue Peak, Jiang Chen surveyed his culinary creation with satisfaction. Indeed, this fish soup is exquisite. Your grandfather would surely relish it. However, behind him, Wang Yao was rendered speechless. Brother Jiang, is it truly appropriate for you to be here making soup, while Sister Xinyue confronts the disciples of Kongming Peak alone? Just then, Nan Xinyue entered the room. Observing her, Wang Yao hurriedly stepped forward, his face flushed, stammering, Sister Xinyue, are you all right? In response to Wang Yao's concern, Nan Xinyue did not spare him a glance. Striding directly toward Jiang Chen. Master, has the situation been resolved? Jiang Chen inquired. They have departed. Jiang Chen was not surprised by this outcome, continuing his culinary endeavors. My dear disciple, I must step out for a while. You should continue your cultivation. He called out to the despondent Wang Yao and exited Xinyue Peak. Before long, the two arrived at a secluded courtyard within the sect, the abode of Wang Daolin. Brother Jiang, I shall return to Pill Peak now, Wang Yao stated. All right, go ahead. Once Wang Yao had departed, Jiang Chen leisurely made his way toward a nearby house. In this journey, aside from pacifying Wang Daolin, it was also to validate a notion that lingered in his mind. System, I have a bold idea. Jiang Chen licked his lips, excitement coursing through him as he continued. As long as I defeat those whom my obedient disciple has vanquished, I can plunder their cultivation and the essence of their enlightenment. If I were to have Wang Daolin, or other formidable entities from the harmonization realm, transformation realm, or even the sacred spirit realm, deliberately lose to my devoted disciple, could I not also seize their power? He chuckled with a sinister glee. The system interjected, are you attempting to exploit a bug? Please dismiss such frivolous thoughts, as the criteria for plunder will be determined autonomously by this system. Jiang Chen shrugged, feeling somewhat defeated. Initially, he had planned to coax Wang Daolin into a spar with his disciple, then intentionally lose, thereby activating the shameless plundering technique. What a delightful prospect that would have been. Alas, it was not to be. Upon reaching the wooden cabin, he was about to knock when the door swung open on its own, clearly indicating that Wang Daolin was already aware of his presence. Inside, Wang Daolin sat cross-legged at the table, and upon seeing Jiang Chen enter, he snorted, "Humph. What brings you here?" Despite his advanced age, Wang Daolin still exhibited a petulant demeanor akin to that of a spoiled elder, which elicited a suppressed chuckle from Jiang Chen. Still sulking, are we? Jiang Chen said with a grin as he settled down cross-legged, adding, I just brewed a pot. Do give it a taste, it's simply exquisite. Why would I deserve such a gesture from the esteemed Jiang Fengzhu? You should head back, Wang Daolin retorted, still irked. Noting Wang Daolin's continued annoyance, Jiang Chen playfully coaxed him. Offering an avenue for conversation, Wang Daolin relented, saying, Xiao Chun, I've watched you grow up. I once promised your master to look after you as best as I could. Your disciple's nature is ill-suited for Tingshu Peak. Oh, Elder Wang, your artistic talents are quite remarkable. Where did this come from? Jiang Chen deliberately diverted the topic, prompting a resigned sigh from Wang Daolin. Very well. I can only hope you can keep that girl in check. Though her temperament is indeed challenging, her talent is considerable. At such a young age, she has already grasped a hint of sword intent. If nurtured well, her future is boundless. Of course, one need only consider who my master is, Jiang Chen boasted, eliciting a disapproving glare from Wang Daolin. You lack spiritual power and cannot instruct that girl. Her understanding of sword intent has little to do with you. Though he thought this internally, Wang Daolin refrained from voicing it outright. Xiao Chun, I have already contacted Duan Mingyuan. Before this matter escalates, take that girl and let us visit Kongming Peak to resolve the conflict promptly. Chapter 16. The visit to Kongming Peak. Initially, Jiang Chen was reluctant to go. In his view, neither he nor Nan Xinyue had done anything wrong. However, out of respect for Wang Daolin's earnest intentions, he reluctantly agreed. After leaving the small courtyard, the two returned briefly to Tingshu Peak to fetch Nan Xinyue before setting off for Kongming Peak. Meanwhile, within a loft at Kongming Peak, the Peak Master, Duan Mingyuan, was engaged in conversation with Shen Xiaodian, while Shen Jingbing stood by. Peak Master, Elder Wang has arrived at the foot of the mountain, a disciple announced respectfully. Bring him to Jingwe Lake to await me, Duan Mingyuan instructed. Wang Daolin, what brings him here? Shen Xiaodian inquired, puzzled. Upon hearing this, Duan Mingyuan chuckled and replied. It is rather embarrassing to admit, but it is merely some minor troubles caused by the lack of proficiency among our disciples. He proceeded to recount the earlier events at the arena, as well as Wang Daolin's intention to mediate the situation. Upon learning the details, Shen Xiaodian shook his head in amusement, saying, Wang Daolin is as protective of Tingshu Peak as ever. Upon hearing that Wang Daolin was accompanied by Jiang Chen and his disciples, Shen Jingbing huffed, that Jiang Chen has the audacity to come to Kongming Peak. Just wait and see how I will teach him a lesson. Nonsense. It was already unacceptable for you to cause a ruckus at Tingshu Peak last time. You must not act recklessly again. Although Jiang Chen may be a waste, there are many old-timers in the sect who still remember the favor of Luo Tingshu. If you act out again, those old fellows will come looking for me to complain, Shen Xiaotian admonished. Father, I cannot stand that arrogant fellow. He clearly provoked you first. Shouldn't he be the one to apologize? Shen Jingbing retorted. Seemingly seeing through her thoughts, Shen Xiaotian replied with a knowing tone, Binger, I understand that you still harbor feelings for Jiang Chen. Even if he were to kneel and admit his mistakes, he would still be unwelcome in the Tianxian sect after the sect trials. It would be wise for you to relinquish any hopes. Father. Shen Jingbing was about to say more, but she noticed Shen Xiaotian wave his hand and rise. You haven't returned to Yujin Peak for some time. Come with me to see your mother. Upon hearing that Shen Xiaotian was leaving, Duan Mingyuan interjected. What? Peak Master Shen is not coming along. No. I do not get along with that old fellow Wang Daolin, he replied. After bidding farewell to Shen Xiaotian and his daughter, Duan Mingyuan called a few disciples and leisurely departed from the pavilion. By the banks of Jinghua Lake, Wang Daolin and Jiang Chen sat at a table, while Nan Xinyue stood beside Jiang Chen. After consuming 2 plates of snacks and waiting for a considerable time without seeing Duan Mingyuan, Jiang Chen turned to Wang Daolin. Do you see? This is a show of power against us. Wang Daolin understood the implication and sighed. Speak less when Duan Mingyuan arrives. Let everything be guided by my expressions. Do not provoke any trouble. All right. We shall see their attitude. If they genuinely wish to resolve the matter, I will certainly give you face. As the two conversed, a hearty laugh resonated in the air. Haha, what an unexpected guest. We've kept you waiting, Elder Wang. With a surge of spiritual energy, Duan Mingyuan and several disciples descended gracefully from the sky. Seeing this, Wang Daolin stood up with a smile to greet them. While noticing Jiang Chen still languidly slumped in his chair, he quickly signaled him. Jiang Chen shrugged and reluctantly got to his feet, casually clasping his fists in greeting. After a considerable time apart, Elder Wang appeared as vibrant as ever, suggesting that his cultivation had advanced significantly. You jest, sect leader Duan. I have been trapped in the spirit sovereign realm for several decades, unable to breach the barrier. It seems that hope for a breakthrough in this lifetime is but a distant dream. Although his strength did not compare to that of Duan Mingyuan, who had attained the harmonious spirit realm, Wang Daolin, as the elder of the law enforcement pavilion, commanded a certain respect, and thus Duan Mingyuan behaved with courtesy. As the two engaged in their customary pleasantries, Jiang Chen stifled a yawn, only to suddenly sense a pair of eyes fixed upon him. A quick glance revealed a few disciples behind Duan Mingyuan, among them Li Zhe, who was glaring at him with ill intent. Dismissing such trivial matters, Jiang Chen merely cast a fleeting glance before averting his gaze. Observing his nonchalance, Li Zhe scoffed derisively. The other disciples whispered amongst themselves, expressing their disdain. I thought Jiang Chen had some backbone. He was so arrogant before, yet now he must come crawling to apologize. Naturally, in the face of our Kongming Peak, Jiang Chen is nothing compared to the listening Snow Peak. I fear he might shift all the blame onto his disciple, absolving himself entirely. While the disciples were engrossed in their chatter, Duan Mingyuan and Wang Daolin finally addressed the matter at hand. Their intention in bringing Jiang Chen was to resolve the discord between Kongming Peak and Listening Snow Peak. This conflict had arisen from a minor skirmish during a tournament, and if left unresolved, it could jeopardize the camaraderie among their sections. Elder Wang makes a valid point. Had you not conveyed this matter earlier, I would have been unaware of its existence, Duan Mingyuan acknowledged. Then, his gaze fell upon Nan Xinyue, shimmering with a peculiar intensity, revealing his surprise. It appears that on the day of the sect entrance examination, we old bones misjudged the situation. With his strength at the harmonious spirit realm, he could discern the extraordinary qualities of Nan Xinyue at this moment. Sect leader Duan, how do you propose we resolve this? Wang Daolin inquired. After withdrawing his gaze, Duan Mingyuan responded with a genial smile. Since Elder Wang is stepping forward, Kongming Peak shall certainly honor this gesture. Let the girl from Listening Snow Peak come before my disciple to apologize, and we will leave the rest to the law enforcement pavilion. This matter shall be considered settled. What do you think, Elder Wang? Wang Daolin's fist clenched slightly beneath his sleeves, and his brows furrowed imperceptibly. He had anticipated that by intervening, a simple apology from Nan Xinyue would suffice to put the matter to rest. However, he did not expect Duan Mingyuan to insist on the involvement of the law enforcement pavilion. It was important to note that if Nan Xinyue was handed over to the law enforcement pavilion, the repercussions could be exceedingly severe. Noticing Wang Daolin's silence, Duan Mingyuan remained silent with a smile, turning his attention to Jiang Chen and continuing, Jiang Chen, what is your opinion? Yes, sect leader Duan is most reasonable. Jiang Chen replied casually, nodding. Beside him, Nan Xinyue maintained her usual icy demeanor, yet upon closer inspection, one could see her fingers quivering slightly at her side. Seeing Jiang Chen acquiesce so readily, Duan Mingyuan's smile widened. Meanwhile, Li Zhe and the other disciples from Kongming Peak wore smirks of disdain. Indeed, they have accurately guessed the situation. At this critical moment, Jiang Chen, this ineffectual individual, has undoubtedly shifted the burden of responsibility onto his disciples. Sighing deeply, Wang Daolin turned his gaze towards Nan Xinyue and inquired, "My dear girl, do you have any objections?" Just as Nan Xinyue was about to respond, Jiang Chen unexpectedly interjected. "Hold on, what about the earlier incident where the disciples of Kongming Peak provoked trouble at my Tingxue Peak? Oh, such an occurrence has transpired?" Duan Mingyuan feigned astonishment and then looked towards his own disciples, casually asking, who was responsible for this? As he spoke, Li Zhe felt a chill run down his spine, his complexion turning pale, yet he had no choice but to step forward, bracing himself. Reporting to the Peak Master, "It was indeed me." Chapter 17. A sudden table flip. With one hand, Li Zhe was in a state of panic, regretting his actions to the point of wishing he could slap himself. However, Duan Mingyuan merely offered some mild reprimands before instructing him to apologize to Jiang Chen. Li Zhe exhaled in relief, initially fearing he would be sent to the law enforcement hall like Nan Xinyue. Clearly, the Peak Master was still showing favoritism, merely mouthing off without imposing any real consequences. He then approached Jiang Chen, standing tall and straight, adopting a casual tone. "I was reckless before, I apologize." Jiang Chen, upon hearing this, cast a sidelong glance at Li Zhe and replied, "Are the disciples of Kongming Peak so lacking in upbringing? An apology must reflect sincerity. Say it again." "You." Seeing Jiang Chen truly adopting the demeanor of a Peak Master infuriated Li Zhe. Yet, upon catching a glimpse of Duan Mingyuan's expression, he suppressed his ire and continued. "Jiang Peak Master, I was indeed reckless before, I apologize. Your attitude lacks sincerity, standing so rigidly. Who are you trying to impress?" Observing this exchange, Duan Mingyuan's eyes flickered with a complex glint. He could see that Jiang Chen was not merely humiliating Li Zhe, he was deliberately slapping the face of Kongming Peak. Realizing that he had been outmaneuvered by a junior of diminished cultivation, Duan Mingyuan found it increasingly difficult to maintain his composure. "Jiang Chen, are you intentionally performing for the benefit of this Peak Master?" he said with displeasure. "Isn't it the case that you instructed him to apologize? Acknowledging one's mistakes and standing tall in the face of adversity, are we not resolving the issue here?" Duan Mingyuan thought that since Jiang Chen had verbally conceded, agreeing to hand Nan Xinyue over to the law enforcement hall, coupled with Wang Daolin acting as a mediator, he could afford to let his disciples acknowledge their faults to demonstrate his own grace. However, he was taken aback as Jiang Chen continued to escalate the situation. "My disciple has already apologized. What more do you desire?" Duan Mingyuan stated in a deep voice. "Why not have him bow?" Jiang Chen replied with a playful smile. With a sharp crack, the chair beneath Duan Mingyuan began to wobble precariously, and a subtle, yet formidable surge of spiritual energy began to brew within him. As Duan Mingyuan appeared on the verge of losing his temper, Wang Daolin, feeling a headache coming on, quickly cast a glance at Jiang Chen. Upon witnessing the scene, Jiang Chen shrugged his shoulders and replied, "It was merely a jest." "Very well, I forgive him." Standing aside, Li Zhe, who had been subjected to a series of humiliations, wore a grim expression, his fists clenched tightly. He had resolved that when it was Nan Xinyue's turn, he would repay the grievances he had suffered 100-fold. However, at that moment, Jiang Chen rose, stretched lazily, and glanced at Wang Daolin. "Since the matter has been resolved, we should take our leave." Noticing Jiang Chen's intention to depart, Duan Mingfeng furrowed his brow and said in a stern voice, "Jiang Chen, you may leave, but that girl must stay behind to apologize to the disciple she injured. Afterwards, I shall personally escort her to the law enforcement pavilion." At that moment, all the disciples of Kongming Peak, including Wang Daolin, turned their gazes toward Jiang Chen. With a heavy sigh, Wang Daolin reluctantly spoke, "Xiao Chen, you must." Before he could finish, Jiang Chen lazily interjected, "Duan Peak Master, it appears you are somewhat mistaken. I merely acknowledged your reasoning. I never agreed to your terms." The atmosphere fell into a profound silence. Wang Daolin's heart raced, and just as he opened his mouth, a loud bang echoed through the air. A surge of immense spiritual power erupted from Duan Mingfeng, shattering the wooden table before him into fine splinters. "Jiang Chen, are you toying with me?" Suddenly aware of the overwhelming spiritual pressure converging upon Jiang Chen, Nan Xinyue's delicate face changed, and she unsheathed her sword, positioning herself protectively in front of him. "Duan Peak Master, please remain calm." Wang Daolin swiftly appeared before Jiang Chen and Nan Xinyue, blocking the wave of spiritual pressure. Elder Wang, I have shown you considerable respect. What began as a minor dispute amongst disciples has escalated due to Jiang Chen's attitude, which has displeased me greatly. Seemingly taken aback by the situation's escalation, Wang Daolin looked at Jiang Chen with exasperation. Xiao Chen, do you still remember what you promised me before arriving? Of course. I remember, Jiang Chen replied, but I also stated that it was contingent upon Kongming Peak's sincere desire to resolve the issue. He then shifted his tone, shedding his usual playful demeanor, adopting a serious expression. However, to demand that my disciple apologize while intending to send her to the law enforcement pavilion. Whilst your disciple's provocation is dismissed with a mere few words, what kind of sincerity is that? Elder Wang, were it not for the respect I hold for you, I would not even be seated here today. Let me make this clear. The judgment of right or wrong regarding my disciple rests solely with me. The matter of the arena is solely a reflection of your Kongming Peak disciple's inadequacy in facing my student. Before encountering Nan Xinyue, Jiang Chen had considered enduring some grievances within the sect. Yet now, as the guardian on his disciple's path to divinity, he must stand resolute. As for the consequences, he had considered them. Ultimately, it would lead to a complete estrangement from Kongming Peak, a prospect he faced without fear. If pressed, he would not hesitate to unleash a torrent of swords. What are sect rules, if not a reflection of the might of one's fist? Notification, Master-Disciple Affinity increased by 10. A sudden system notification prompted Jiang Chen to instinctively turn toward Nan Xinyue. Although she maintained her usual cold demeanor, there were subtle ripples in her beautiful eyes. After a brief moment of shock, Duan Mingyuan's anger morphed into a mocking smile. Well, Jiang Chen, after enduring for so many years, do you now intend to use my Kongming Peak to assert your authority? Elder Wang, you have witnessed this. I must say, it is quite a dilemma. Before Wang Daolin could respond, Jiang Chen merely smirked. A dilemma? Then do not resolve it. With that, he elegantly swept the table aside with one hand. Jiang Chen, you are being outrageous. Duan Mingyuan was utterly provoked, his immense spiritual power causing the very ground beneath them to tremble. Xiao Chen, cease your insolence. Wang Daolin, now sweating profusely, regretted bringing Jiang Chen to Kongming Peak. The conflict remained unresolved and had only worsened. Elder Wang, I ask you this. If my disciple were to be a member of the Yujin Peak, do you think Kongming Peak would still be so aggressive? This statement rendered Wang Daolin speechless, though he already knew the answer in his heart. If it were Yujin Peak, even if someone were to injure a disciple of Kongming Peak, they would not dare utter a word of protest. Jiang Chen's voice was not loud, yet it darkened the expressions of Duan Mingyuan and the other disciples of Kongming Peak to the utmost degree. At that moment, the system's notification chimed once more. Ding. Task triggered. Assist disciple Nan Xinyue in defeating 50 cultivators of the same realm within 7 days. An additional reward will be granted upon the first completion of the task. Chapter 18. My disciple is invincible among peers. The system's first task had finally been activated. Although the catalyst for triggering the system's mission remained unclear, Jiang Chen's experience suggested that tasks issued by the system typically bore substantial rewards. Defeating 50 cultivators of the same realm within 7 days? Jiang Chen murmured thoughtfully to himself. And then, as inspiration struck, his eyes sparkled with a plan. If he were to rely solely on normal training, it would indeed be a challenge to find 50 cultivators of the same realm for his beloved disciple within 7 days. It seemed that igniting a fire under Kongming Peak was necessary. With this thought, he waved his hand dramatically and proclaimed, if Kongming Peak remains unconvinced, I offer you an opportunity. Starting tomorrow, within 7 days, restricted to those of the same realm. If any disciple of Kongming Peak can defeat my cherished disciple, I shall personally bow at the gates of Kongming Peak to apologize and grant you 10,000 premium spirit stones. With a beaming smile, Jiang Chen turned to Duan Mingyuan and continued, Master Duan, are you satisfied with this solution? Jiang Chen's overt challenge incited outrage among the disciples of Kongming Peak present. How absurd. Does he truly believe that the foul girl is invincible among her peers? They scoffed. Defeating just one of our mediocre disciples? He truly overestimates himself. Master, accept his challenge. My disciple will personally teach that foul girl a lesson. Indeed, our legacy at Kongming Peak spans a century. How could he, a solitary figure from the listening Snow Peak, be compared to anyone else? Initially, Duan Mingyuan had no intention of acquiescing. In his view, whether in terms of lineage or prowess, Jiang Chen lacked the qualification to negotiate with him. However, the clamor of the disciples behind him undeniably placed him in a predicament. To refuse would be tantamount to admitting that the heritage of his Kongming Peak was inferior to that of a desolate listening Snow Peak. Very well. The master of this peak shall grant Elder Wang a favor. After a moment's hesitation, He felt compelled to use the pretext of honoring Wang Daolin to concede. Oh, this is as it should be. We are all reasonable individuals. It is far better to maintain a harmonious atmosphere. Observing the swift change in Jiang Chen's expression, Duan Mingyuan felt a surge of irritation. I have other matters to attend to. You may proceed at your leisure. I shall take my leave. With this parting remark, Duan Mingyuan waved his sleeve and soared into the air. Alas, Xiao Chun, let us return, Wang Daolin called out, raising his hand to envelop Jiang Chen and Nan Xinyue in spiritual energy, lifting them into the sky. At the listening snow peak, Jiang Chen had initially wished to invite Wang Daolin to fish alongside him, but the latter had outright declined. Watching Wang Daolin's figure vanish into the horizon, Jiang Chen could only shrug in resignation. This old man is quite proud. Master, Nan Xinyue suddenly spoke. Yes, what is it, my dear disciple? Jiang Chen replied. Nan Xinyue tightened her delicate fist, her usually serene face betraying hints of confusion. Did I truly err, disciple? Sensing the emotional fluctuation in Nan Xinyue's tone, Jiang Chen felt a pang of sympathy. Although she was the daughter of fate in this realm, Nan Xinyue was still merely a girl of 16 or 17. Strangely enough, she was of a similar age to his own sister. The actions he had taken at Kongming Peak were not impulsive displays of bravado. He understood deeply that in this life, his destiny was intertwined with hers. Nan Xinyue's disposition was too aloof. One day, when she truly matured, mere strength would not suffice to sway her. Thus, Jiang Chen was acutely aware that to earn her unwavering loyalty as a disciple, he needed to do more than showcase his martial prowess from time to time. Most importantly, he must instill in her a sense of belonging. In other words, he had to embody both fatherly and maternal roles. Therefore, it was indeed essential to occasionally offer her a dose of heartfelt wisdom. No, you are not at fault. It is merely that I have been too low-key over the years. The Heavenly Xian sect has led everyone to believe that my listening snow peak is in decline, inviting all to trample upon it. But the situation is different now. You are my only disciple, the sole representative of listening snow peak. The trouble you have encountered was solely to uphold my honor. If I were to neglect you, would that not chill your heart? Do you remember what I said on the day you became my disciple? Once you enter my listening snow peak, you shall forever be family. At these words, Nan Xinyue's delicate frame trembled slightly. Family, Nan Xinyue murmured to herself, her serene visage suddenly flashing with a glimmer of murderous intent. She then gently closed her beautiful eyes. Yet her jade-like hands, which hung at her sides, had already clenched into fists. Master, I must continue my training. I beg your pardon. Upon reopening her eyes, Nan Xinyue reverted to her usual cold demeanor and turned to depart. Observing her gradually vanishing figure, Jiang Chen scratched his head in perplexity. What was the situation? His earlier words had been quite sentimental. It was one thing to not gain any intimacy points, but why did it seem that the girl was actually upset? The cliff of reflection. The moon hung high in the sparse, starry sky. Within her cave dwelling, Nan Xinyue sat cross-legged in meditation. Dozens of high-grade spirit stones on the ground exuded a rich aura of spiritual energy. As her slender fingers swiftly formed intricate seals, the surrounding spiritual energy appeared to be drawn towards her, swirling into a vortex, converging entirely upon her. After a few breaths, Nan Xinyue slowly opened her eyes, flipping her delicate wrist to reveal a ball of profound ice spiritual energy resting in her palm. She had already reached the 6th level of the spiritualist realm, yet it remained insufficient. Aware of the 7-day challenge set against Jiang Chen and the Kongming Peak, Nan Xinyue understood that she could not afford to lose. This was not merely a test of her abilities, but also a battle to uphold the dignity of the Tingshu Peak. If she could not establish a foothold within the Tianxian sect, how could she even contemplate revenge? Rising from her meditative state, she exited the cave. On the cliff, gazing at the distant night sky, she raised her hand and unsheathed her sword, mechanically repeating the motion of wielding it, unfaltering in her fatigue. Meanwhile, not far away, a figure stealthily lurked in the shadows, observing the somewhat solitary silhouette on the cliff. It was none other than Wang Yao. He touched the jade vial in his embrace, hesitating several times, yet lacking the courage to approach. Instead, he turned and walked to the entrance of the cave, setting down the vial and casting a glance at the enchanting figure in the dark before departing. The following day, a message spread among the disciples of the Tianxian sect. Nan Xinyue, a disciple of Tingshu Peak, was set to accept challenges from all disciples of the same realm at Kongming Peak within 7 days. Cultivators, being human, naturally indulged in gossip, especially upon hearing that numerous disciples from Kongming Peak had set up a competition arena in the sect's trial square. They gathered in droves. How dare Tingshu Peak challenge Kongming Peak? I heard it was that good-for-nothing Jiang Chen who boasted that his disciple was invincible among those of the same realm, claiming that if anyone from Kongming Peak could defeat his disciple, he would bow down and apologize. offering 1,000 high-grade spirit stones. I have insider information. It is said that sect leader Duan has issued a command. Anyone who can defeat Nan Xinyue will be rewarded with 1,000 high-grade spirit stones and a volume of earth-tier cultivation technique. Ridiculous. That Nan Xinyue merely relied on a 9th-grade spirit weapon to win against Song Shiji. Look, here come Nan Xinyue and Jiang Chen. Chapter 19. Oh no. Jiang Chen has truly stumbled upon a treasure. Outside the grand hall of the Tianxian sect lay a vast plaza, dotted with various competition arenas. Connecting the plaza to the mountain gate were stone steps, upon which 2 figures approached leisurely. Jiang Chen, clad in white robes, had his hands clasped behind his back, occasionally stifling a yawn, exuding an air of utter relaxation. Beside her, Nan Xinyue maintained her signature frigid demeanor upon her exquisite visage. Has master not rested well? I can manage on my own. Your presence is unnecessary, she remarked. Since becoming a disciple, Nan Xinyue had discerned Jiang Chen's habits, notably his need to sleep until noon and wake naturally. On their way here, she had observed him yawning incessantly, clearly having not rested adequately. This is your battle to establish authority within the sect. Of course, master must be present to lend support, Jiang Chen replied. As their conversation unfolded, they arrived at the square. An elder from the sect, tasked with overseeing the arena, briefly elucidated the rules before vacating the stage. The disciples from Kongming Peak, eagerly poised and visibly excited, were ready for action. You, wretched girl from Xiefeng, prepare to meet your demise, boomed a brawny male disciple, who leapt onto the stage with fervor. Master, I shall take my leave, Nan Xinyue whispered softly. My dear disciple, remember my words from before. A single punch shall suffice to avert 100, Jiang Chen advised. Nodding in acknowledgement, Nan Xinyue gracefully ascended the stage, her steps as delicate as a lotus. As the two faced off, the male disciple from Kongming Peak trembled, his spiritual energy surging forth, revealing he was at the 8th level of the spirit realm. Wretched girl, today I shall teach you a lesson, he proclaimed, intending to assert his dominance. However, to his surprise, Nan Xinyue swiftly drew her sword, unleashing a single strike. You lack martial virtue, he shouted in outrage, yet he was compelled to respond, channeling his energy into a punch aimed at her. In the blink of an eye, he was sent careening off the stage, his anguished cry echoing as he fell unconscious, his head tilting at an odd angle. Next, Nan Xinyue declared, sword in hand, her tone devoid of any emotion. The spectators below exchanged incredulous glances. Hadn't Nan Xinyue only been at the 4th level of the spirit realm last time? In just a few days, she had ascended to the 6th level? It was evident that Jiang Chen had once again resorted to administering pills to her. To put it plainly, she was relying on that 9th-grade spiritual weapon in her possession, with both pills and a 9th-grade spiritual artifact at her disposal. Jiang Chen was truly investing heavily to ensure her success, displaying a lack of shame. Hearing the envious remarks from the onlookers, Jiang Chen merely shrugged. Not satisfied? Then let your masters administer pills to you too, and procure yourselves 9th-grade spiritual weapons. His retort silenced the crowd, while simultaneously inciting their ire. Come on, Kongming Peak. Can you not muster any strength? You can't even handle a girl at the spirit realm. The disciples from Kongming Peak grew increasingly disheartened at the taunts. Humph. Zhao Ergu from Kongming Peak, here to challenge. Another disciple leapt onto the stage. With a swift motion, Nan Xinyue raised her sword and sent him flying. Next. This is outrageous. Qian'ermatzi from Kongming Peak, let's see what you've got. Bang. Next. Sun Sampang, step forward. Bang. One after another. Disciples from the Kongming Peak leaped onto the arena, each possessing a minimum strength of the 7th realm of spirit practitioners, with several even at the 9th realm. Yet, not one could withstand a single strike from Nan Xinyue. The onlookers grew increasingly silent, while Jiang Chen wore a persistent smile. Ding. Disciple Nan Xinyue has defeated Zhao Ergu, absorbing insights into cultivation. Ding. Disciple Nan Xinyue has defeated Qian'ermatzi, absorbing insights into cultivation. Ding. Disciple Nan Xinyue has defeated Sun Sampang, absorbing insights into cultivation. Ding. Disciple Nan Xinyue has defeated Li Sipong, absorbing insights into cultivation. With each successive system notification, an unending stream of spiritual power surged into Jiang Chen's limbs and bones. After Nan Xinyue's victory over Song Shiji, the shameless plundering technique had propelled him from an incapable wastrel to the 7th realm of spirit practitioners. Now, feeling the abundant spiritual energy within him, Jiang Chen had undoubtedly reached the pinnacle of the spirit practitioner realm. He promptly opened the system panel. Host, Jiang Chen, realm, pinnacle of spirit practitioner, skills, 10,000 swords return to origin, other skills sealed. Disciple, Nan Xinyue, realm, 6th realm of spirit practitioners, physique, Xianbing sacred body, awakening pending. 70 restored, cultivation method, 10,000 flower ice decision, heaven tier intermediate, master disciple affinity, 1225, fleeting encounter. Though he had attained the pinnacle of the spirit practitioner realm, Jiang Chen could still only employ the 10,000 swords return to origin. The other 7 skills remained sealed, and even the 10-day cooldown period had not diminished. He then opened the system store, only to find that the interface still offered nothing but a lucky spin feature, with the exchange list entirely blank. In other words, his power had increased in vain, serving little purpose. System, are you jesting with me? I am now at the pinnacle of the spirit practitioner realm, and yet receive no rewards whatsoever? This system aims to nurture the daughter of fortune. The host's strength is merely a secondary enhancement. Should the host wish to elevate their own power, aside from activating the shameless plundering technique, they may utilize the lucky spin in the system store for a chance at random prizes. Lucky spin? What rewards does it offer? Although he had accumulated some affinity points, Jiang Chen was reluctant to gamble. He intended to save the affinity for when other features of the store were unlocked, allowing him to redeem treasures for his obedient disciple in bulk. However, the system suggested that a spin might yield interesting results. This system cannot disclose information. Please attempt it yourself. Jiang Chen, what nonsense. Meanwhile, on the arena, bang. After sending another disciple from Kongming Peak flying with a single stroke, Nan Xinyue stood resolutely, her icy gaze sweeping toward the remaining disciples of Kongming Peak. Next, at this moment, the faces of all Kongming Peak disciples were shrouded in deep gloom. The crowd beneath the stage had grown considerably quieter. Astonishingly, 10 consecutive challengers, ranging from the 7th to the 9th level of the spirit realm, had failed to withstand a single strike from Nan Xinyue. Could it be that even with a 9th-grade spiritual weapon, such an outcome seemed utterly absurd? Was it possible she had grasped a fragment of the sword's essence? This could spell trouble. Would Jiang Chen, that useless fellow, truly stumble upon a treasure? As whispers filled the air, a man stepped forward from the direction of the Kongming Peak, striding confidently onto the arena. The previously listless disciples of Kongming Peak instantly regained their vigor. Finally, Brother Feng had decided to make his move. This battle was secured. Brother Feng, let that girl witness the might of Kongming Peak. Observing the faith of the disciples in their so-called Brother Feng, the onlookers began to speculate about his identity. Who is that man? Is he a new disciple of Kongming Peak? Oh, I remember. He is Feng Haoshuan, the prodigy who ascended the 80th level of the celestial stairway. So it is him. It is said that his talent is exceptionally remarkable by the time of the initiation ceremony. He was already at the 8th level of the spirit realm, and now he must have achieved the pinnacle of the spirit realm, right? His overall strength would certainly place him among the top 30 of this year's new disciples. Nan Xinyue is bound to lose. Listening to the crowd's chatter, Jiang Chen lazily lifted his gaze to survey Feng Haoshuan on the stage. Merely a clumsy foul, not even 1/10,000th of my disciple's caliber. Jiang Chen merely stated a truth, yet the disciples of Kongming Peak reacted as if their tails had been stepped on. Jiang Chen, do not be so arrogant. Brother Feng is a genius. Do you truly believe that winning against a few minor challengers means no one can contend with her? Senior brother. Who do you refer to as minor challengers? Do not dwell on the details. Regardless, with Brother Feng in action, this battle is a guaranteed victory. Indeed, if that girl can last 10 rounds against Brother Feng, I will kneel and lick your shoes, both of you. On the stage, Feng Haoshuan regarded Nan Xinyue with a gentle demeanor. Miss Xinyue, I am Feng Haoshuan. Were it not for our opposing stances, I would genuinely hesitate to confront such a captivating beauty as yourself. Before Feng Haoshuan could finish his sentence, Nan Xinyue raised her hand and unleashed a fierce sword strike. Buzz. Sensing the sharpness of the sword's aura, Feng Haoshuan chuckled nonchalantly, feigning a sigh. Alas, Miss Xinyue, to employ the same technique is to underestimate me. With that, a surge of spiritual energy erupted from within him, and he raised his hand to counter. Boom. In a resounding clash, the sword's aura that had previously obliterated numerous disciples of Kongming Peak was forcefully dispersed. The disciples below the stage erupted in cheers, eager to vent their prior frustrations. Seemingly relishing the spotlight, Feng Haoshuan casually brushed off his shoulder. I take great delight in befriending exquisite individuals like Miss Nan Xinyue. Perhaps it would be best for her to descend from the arena, thus sparing me the need to resort to force. Upon receiving my strike, Nan Xinyue displayed no sign of distress, nor did she harbor any sense of underestimation. My dear disciple, remember, even when hunting a rabbit, a lion must exert its full strength. She held every word of Jiang Chen's teachings close to her heart. With her sword poised defensively before her, a blue, ethereal ice energy emanated from within, enveloping the blade. Initially, Feng Haoshuan maintained a cheerful demeanor, but upon sensing the peculiarity of Nan Xinyue's energy, he dared not underestimate her. In an instant, Nan Xinyue transformed into a fleeting shadow, accompanied by the sound of air being cleaved. Within moments, she was locked in combat with Feng Haoshuan. Before this confrontation, many believed that Nan Xinyue relied solely on the might of her ninth-grade spirit weapon. Yet, the prowess she exhibited on the stage left the spectators in silent awe. Those who gained entry into the heavenly profound sect were typically individuals of considerable talent, possessing discerning eyes that could see beyond mere appearances. Beyond the ninth-grade spirit weapon, it became evident that Nan Xinyue's personal strength was formidable enough to even suppress Feng Haoshuan, who had reached the pinnacle of the spirit realm. As the battle wore on, Feng Haoshuan found himself increasingly alarmed, his earlier composure evaporating. How could Nan Xinyue's strength be so formidable? Like many others, he had assumed her capabilities were limited to the influence of her spirit weapon, estimating her true power to be around the 7th level of the spirit realm. However, the relentless barrage of her attacks, coupled with the chilling energy she wielded, became overwhelming for him. Regret began to seep into his thoughts for having placed himself in this precarious position. After merely 9 exchanges, Feng Haoshuan was drenched in sweat, barely managing to evade a strike and retreating repeatedly. Facing the sword-wielding Nan Xinyue, whose expression was one of cold indifference, he felt a twitch at the corner of his mouth. Should he concede? He murmured to himself, yet he felt that surrender would be too humiliating. Continuing the fight, however, seemed unsustainable. Suddenly, a piercing sword intent surged forth, causing Feng Haoshuan to feel a chill run down his spine. Observing Nan Xinyue's delicate fingers forming a seal, the blue ice energy surrounding her intensified, converging violently into her sword. The same deliberate motion appeared slow, yet this strike sent a shiver through Feng Haoshuan's very core. It was utterly absurd. Was it truly sword intent? What was the point of continuing this fight? No, Miss Xinyue, I concede. Before Feng Haoshuan could finish uttering his surrender, Nan Xinyue unleashed her sword. A torrent of chilling energy intertwined with an unparalleled sword intent turned Feng Haoshuan pale, his voice becoming shrill. Elder, save me. No sooner had he spoken than an elder responsible for oversight appeared before him in a flash. With a resounding clap, the elder deflected the fierce sword light, though he himself took a step back. In this battle, Nan Xinyue emerged victorious. The elder spoke calmly, yet his gaze towards her was tinged with a hint of trepidation, as he discreetly retracted his trembling hand into the folds of his robe. Observing this, Feng Haoshuan hastily descended from the arena, slipping away in a matter of moments. Having put on such a grand show earlier, he could only endure 9 rounds under Nan Xinyue's prowess. He had no face left to remain. On the stage, Nan Xinyue retrieved a jade vial from her bosom and ingested a pill. After engaging in so many battles, her spiritual energy had significantly diminished. Once she had regained some strength, her icy gaze swept towards the disciples of Kongming Peak, her thin lips pursed. Next, these 3 words, reminiscent of a death warrant, plunged the Kongming Peak disciples into silence, their expressions akin to those witnessing a dramatic performance, utterly captivating. Given the rules of this arena battle required competitors to be of the same realm, the disciples sent forth by Kongming Peak were all at the spiritualist realm, with Feng Haoshuan being the strongest among them. If even he had succumbed, who among them would dare challenge Nan Xinyue? In an instant, the disciples of Kongming Peak wilted, their heads drooping like frostbitten eggplants. Meanwhile, the other onlookers from various spiritual peaks were equally astonished by Nan Xinyue's display of strength. Could it be? If even Feng Haoshuan had lost, Nan Xinyue was truly formidable? It was hard to believe that such power could stem from mere pills. Was it, as Jiang Chen had claimed, that his disciple was invincible among her peers? Noticing the reluctance of the Kongming Peak disciples to ascend the stage, Jiang Chen raised an eyebrow. Ding! Disciple Nan Xinyue has defeated Feng Haoshuan, gaining insights into cultivation. Although she had bested Feng Haoshuan, who had attained the pinnacle of the spiritualist realm, Jiang Chen's own cultivation remained at that same level, albeit with replenished spiritual energy. Sighing, he lamented the lack of worthy challengers. Well, let us conclude for today. My obedient disciple, we shall take our leave. Jiang Chen shook his head, rising to his feet. Upon hearing this, Nan Xinyue sheathed her sword and gracefully descended from the arena, making her way towards Jiang Chen. As the master and disciple passed through the crowd, people instinctively parted to create a path. In that moment, all eyes were fixed upon Nan Xinyue and Jiang Chen, especially when they beheld Jiang Chen's self-satisfied posture. Hands clasped behind his back, striding with an air of confidence, many wore expressions of disdain. How could he take credit? It was Nan Xinyue's prowess that shone, not his own ineffectuality as a master. After exiting the throng, Jiang Chen abruptly halted and turned to address the disciples of Kongming Peak. By the way, please convey a message to Master Duan. Have him send someone competent. I reiterate, within the same realm, my disciple is invincible. and you may come at your leisure. Seeing the disciples of Kongming Peak reddening with indignation, Jiang Chen turned away, satisfied. Although his demeanor was rather ostentatious, he had intentionally stoked the flames. One could only say that his obedient disciple had been a touch too ruthless. He feared she might leave a psychological scar on the disciples of Kongming Peak. Do not stoke the flames. What will happen to the system's tasks if Kongming Peak ceases its challenges? Chapter 21. Just how powerful is my master? Jiang Chen never anticipated that his greatest concern would come to fruition. Just 2 or 3 days prior, the disciples of Kongming Peak appeared invigorated, even boasting several who had reached the pinnacle of the spirit realm, surpassing Feng Haoshuan in overall strength. Yet none could withstand even 10 exchanges against Nan Xinyue. For 4 consecutive days, Nan Xinyue dominated the disciples of Kongming Peak with overwhelming prowess. Her ethereal beauty, coupled with her ruthless lethality, striking only when necessary, soon earned her the moniker of the Ice Mountain Demoness within the sect. Notification: Disciple Nan Xinyue has defeated Wu Goxing. Absorbing insights into cultivation. Inside the chamber, Jiang Chen reclined in a chair, feeling only a slight surge of spiritual energy within him, and sighed in resignation. It was not that his own strength remained at the pinnacle of the spirit realm, but rather that the progress of the system's tasks had become increasingly sluggish. It was already the 5th day, with 12 more to go. Alas, it seemed unlikely that anyone in the spirit realm would dare to expose themselves any longer. Notification: Disciple Nan Xinyue has reached the pinnacle of the spirit realm. Please assist her in breaking through to the Spirit King realm within 1 day. The system's prompt echoed unexpectedly. Compared to the initial task, facilitating Nan Xinyue's ascension to the Spirit King realm seemed considerably simpler. Should she truly achieve that breakthrough, the pressure on her would undoubtedly intensify. While he pondered this, Nan Xinyue entered the room. Master. Seeing her, Jiang Chen stood up with a warm smile and greeting. Master, I intend to break through to the Spirit King realm tonight. My dear disciple, you must consider this carefully. With only 2 days remaining in the arena battle, as long as you do not advance, Kongming Peak cannot dispatch any Spirit King disciples to contend with you. However, once you break through. Though Jiang Chen did not articulate his thoughts explicitly, Nan Xinyue comprehended his meaning. The opponents within the spirit realm no longer provide significant enhancement to my skills. I wish to test my mettle against the true prodigies within our sect. Very well, prepare for your breakthrough tonight. Nan Xinyue nodded in agreement and replied, Rest assured, Master. Should I truly be defeated, I will humbly visit Kongming Peak to express my apologies and will not implicate you. Observing Nan Xinyue's distant silhouette, Jiang Chen couldn't help but feel a mix of amusement and exasperation. This girl genuinely believes I would bow and apologize at Kongming Peak. At the cliff of reflection, within her cave dwelling, Nan Xinyue sat cross-legged, facing nearly a dozen high-grade spirit stones. Continuously depleting Master S spirit stones was not a sustainable approach. After breaking through to the Spirit King realm, she would need to devise a means to acquire her own spirit stones. Nan Xinyue understood her own constitution well. Although her cultivation speed far exceeded that of ordinary individuals, her consumption of spirit stones was equally immense. She did not wish to perpetually rely on Jiang Chen's generosity for her training. After adjusting her state to its peak, she swiftly formed seals with her slender, snow-white fingers, entering a meditative state. In less than half an hour, when she opened her eyes again, she gently inhaled, absorbing all the spiritual energy into her body, causing her aura to surge dramatically. Half-step Spirit King realm. First level of the Spirit King realm. Second level of the Spirit King realm. Once the tumultuous spiritual force subsided, Nan Xinyue's aura finally stabilized. With a flick of her wrist, azure icy spiritual energy hovered in her palm. At last, she had reached the Spirit King realm. After the arena battle, it was time to refine her meridians with the frost essence, preparing for the 3rd transformation of the azure ice spiritual energy. Upon leaving her cave dwelling, she caught a glimpse of a jade vial placed on the ground. Bending down to pick it up, a complex expression crossed Nan Xinyue's face. These past few days, after each training session, someone had left this vial of restorative pills outside her cave. She had not anticipated that her master, though seemingly carefree, would be so attentive to her needs. Inside the wooden cabin, Jiang Chen, reclining in a chair, suddenly sneezed. And immediately a notification from the system echoed in his mind. Ding! Disciple Nan Xinyue has broken through to the 2nd level of the Spirit King realm. The task is complete, and rewards are being dispatched. Ding! Obtained 3 drops of ancient ice phoenix blood. Ancient ice phoenix blood? Jiang Chen's eyes sparkled. Although he appeared to be napping, he had been contemplating ways to assist Nan Xinyue in cultivating her azure ice spiritual energy. As a bearer of the azure ice sacred body, utilizing this ancient ice phoenix blood to refine her meridians was most appropriate. Just as he reveled in his thoughts, Nan Xinyue entered the room. Master, I have broken through, she announced. My dear disciple, you have arrived at the perfect moment. I have been deep in thought and finally discovered how to elevate your azure ice spiritual energy further, Jiang Chen replied. A flicker of excitement crossed Nan Xinyue's usually calm eyes. Please enlighten me, master. Keep these 3 drops of blood for now. After this arena battle, use them to refine your meridians. The moment the jade vial landed in her palm, Nan Xinyue's expression shifted dramatically as she sensed a terrifying chill emanating from it, causing even her azure ice sacred body to feel as though her inner spiritual power was on the verge of freezing. What a terrifying chill. What is this? Oh, it's merely the blood of the ancient ice phoenix. Jiang Chen's nonchalant remark sent a tremor through Nan Xinyue's delicate figure, her usually composed face now reflecting shock. The ancient ice phoenix. That is a 9th-tier beast rivaling the sacred spirit realm. Fear gripped Nan Xinyue's heart as she tightly clutched the jade vial, her hands trembling slightly. As the possessor of the azure ice sacred body, she was acutely aware of what the ancient ice phoenix blood signified for her. Master, how did you acquire these 3 drops of blood? Despite her efforts to maintain composure, a trace of trepidation lingered in her voice. My dear disciple, there is no need to be so alarmed. It's merely a 9th-tier beast, Jiang Chen said, adopting a lofty demeanor, effortlessly weaving his words. After witnessing Jiang Chen's astonishing sword strike, Nan Xinyue realized the formidable strength of her master. However, she had never anticipated that her master was capable of such terrifying power. Master, just how strong are you? Nan Xinyue found herself in a state of disbelief. For that was a 9th-tier demon beast, an existence comparable to the pinnacle of the sacred spirit realm. It stood as a towering presence throughout the entire Tianling Continent. Could it be that her master was indeed a powerful figure at the apex of the sacred spirit realm on the Tianling Continent? Ding. Master-disciple intimacy value. 20 ding. Master-disciple intimacy value. 20. The system's notification brought great joy to Jiang Chen. Indeed, compared to the sentimental encouragement and motivational speeches for his dear disciple, the direct intimidation of martial prowess proved far more effective. You will come to understand the extent of my strength in due time. However, I am a person who values modesty. Do not speak of it to outsiders, understood? Jiang Chen instructed. Master, you truly are too low-key. After leaving the wooden cabin, Nan Xinyue returned to her own room. Feeling the chilling power emanating from the jade vial, her expression grew complex, and she couldn't help but clench her delicate fists. Her yearning for strength made her long to refine the 3 drops of essence blood immediately, yet after a moment of contemplation, she decided against it. Her master was right. It would be wise to wait until the competition on the arena concluded before attempting to refine it. The following day, news of Nan Xinyue's breakthrough to the Spirit King realm spread throughout the sect. The disciples marveled at her astonishingly rapid cultivation and grew increasingly anticipatory. Nan Xinyue's ascension to the Spirit King realm also signified that the core disciples of Kongming Peak, including the true disciples, could now challenge her. Chapter 22. Men only affect the speed of cultivation on the 6th day of the arena battles, considering that Nan Xinyue was facing opponents of the Spirit King realm. Jiang Chen decided to accompany her. He had expected Kongming Peak to dispatch some true disciples, yet to his surprise, the strongest among them was merely at the 5th level of the Spirit King realm. Ding. Disciple Nan Xinyue defeats Zhang San. Ding. Disciple Nan Xinyue defeats Li Si. Ding. Ding. Observing the Kongming Peak disciples being sent flying from the arena by Nan Xinyue, Jiang Chen yawned out of sheer boredom. An unending stream of spiritual energy surged into his limbs and bones. 1st level of the Spirit King realm. 2nd level of the Spirit King realm. 3rd level of the Spirit King realm. His strength escalated to the 6th level of the Spirit King realm before he finally came to a halt. At that moment, Jiang Chen felt quite helpless. The main objective was to assist his dear disciple in growing stronger, yet here he was, effortlessly advancing his own cultivation while reclining. After the last disciple, who was at the 4th level of the Spirit King realm, was knocked off the arena, another system notification echoed in his mind. Ding. Disciple Nan Xinyue defeats Zhao Wu, acquiring insights into cultivation. Ding. Disciple Nan Xinyue has cumulatively defeated 50 opponents of the same realm. Task complete. Ding. Reward. Super Gathering Spirit Array. Cultivating within this array allows for a 10-fold absorption speed. Ding. The initial task completion reward is the Advanced Holy Technique, Xianbingju, which can be comprehended at the Spirit Sea realm. Additionally, the system announces an extra reward for the host's assistance, a shielding aura that conceals the host's cultivation level. Unless the host chooses to reveal it, no one, regardless of their realm, may pry into it. Listening to the rewards bestowed by the system, Jiang Chen nodded repeatedly. A super gathering spirit array and an ice attribute advanced holy technique perfectly align with Nan Xinyue's current needs. Furthermore, the shielding aura seems tailor-made for him, allowing him to hide his true strength without fear of exposure. Meanwhile, the spectators below the arena were once again awestruck by Nan Xinyue's prowess. Her cultivation speed is astonishing. Has she truly reached the second level of the Spirit King realm? It seems that aside from the chief disciple and a few true disciples, no one from the Kongming Peak stands a chance against her. Rumor has it that the chief disciple of Kongming Peak is in seclusion, preparing for the sect's trial in a few months, while the other true disciples are out on expeditions. Jiang Chen and his disciple have certainly seized the opportunity. Hearing the discussions around him, Jiang Chen stood up, losing interest in watching the fight. My dear disciple, I shall take my leave now. Finish your battle and return early. With a casual wave, he turned and strolled away. In contrast, the disciples of Kongming Peak gritted their teeth in frustration, feeling utterly powerless. The Spirit Realm disciples could not match Nan Xinyue's strength, and neither could those at the Spirit King realm. At that moment, the words of Jiang Chen echoed in the minds of the crowd. In the same realm, my disciple is invincible. You are free to do as you wish. At the listening Snow Peak, Jiang Chen intended to study the super gathering spirit array. Unexpectedly, Wang Daolin descended from above. Xiao Chun, I feel remarkably in tune today. Shall we fish for a couple of rods? By the pond, Jiang Chen and Wang Daolin sat on the ground, each holding a fishing rod. I never expected that girl to break through to the Spirit King realm so swiftly. I heard she didn't even pass the Tantian Stone Step assessment initially. Now I suspect you might have given her some sort of drug, Wang Daolin remarked. Indeed, it was merely a 9th grade elixir, Jiang Chen replied nonchalantly. You can boast in front of others, but not before me. Do you think 9th grade elixirs are like candy, that you can just hand them out? Wang Daolin continued. Previously, I noticed that girl's spiritual energy was rather peculiar. She must possess a unique constitution. During the Tantian Stone Step assessment, she probably had not yet awakened this special physique. Who would have thought that a prodigy overlooked by the 9 spiritual peaks would be discovered by you? As the two conversed, a graceful figure approached. Master, Nan Xinyue greeted. My dear disciple, you've worked hard. I have something good for you later. You should rest for now. Just endure one more day, and this matter will conclude. No need, Master. The elder from Kongming Peak asked me to convey a message. The arena matter is over. Jiang Chen was taken aback. What is going on? Elder Wang, however, was not overly surprised. Recently, a secret realm has opened in the northern region, and many disciples from various sects have gone to seize opportunities. Though Duan Mingfeng harbors a desire for retribution, he possesses the discernment to distinguish between trivialities and matters of significance, likely wishing not to divert the focus of his disciples. Since Kongming Peak has effectively conceded, let us put this matter to rest, Xiao Chun. Jiang Chen harbored no objections. His sole purpose had been to fulfill the system's task, with no intention of engaging in a futile contest with Kongming Peak. Well done, my obedient disciple. You have indeed vindicated the honor of our listening Snow Peak this time. The disciple dares not take credit. Without Master providing the revitalizing spirit pills daily, I could never have achieved such ease. Revitalizing spirit pills? Jiang Chen was taken aback. He had prepared some pills to restore spiritual energy, but upon witnessing Nan Xinyue produce pills on the arena, he assumed she had come prepared on her own. What revitalizing spirit pills? Aren't they from Master? Nan Xinyue raised an elegant brow and retrieved a jade vial from her bosom. Upon seeing the vial in her palm, Jiang Chen couldn't help but smile, while Wang Daolin's lips twitched in irritation. Ah, my obedient disciple, those revitalizing spirit pills were not bestowed by me. It seems some lovesick fool must have secretly given them to you. How delightful. They are indeed high-grade second-tier revitalizing spirit pills. Wang Daolin, meanwhile, was fuming. That scoundrel. I knew several vials from my collection had inexplicably vanished. My dear disciple, it appears those revitalizing spirit pills were stealthily given to you by Wang Yao, that foolish lad. Upon learning the truth, Nan Xinyue gradually lowered the jade vial, her exquisite features cloaked in a chill. It turns out, the one clandestinely delivering revitalizing spirit pills outside the cave each night was not her master, but rather Wang Chonglao. Your precious grandson seems to harbor feelings for my disciple. What say you? Humph. Borrowing his grandfather's possessions to woo a lady. Just wait until I return to teach him a lesson. As the two conversed, Nan Xinyue, who had remained silent, coldly interjected, I implore Master to refrain from such jesting. The disciple must continue her cultivation. Excuse me. Matters of romantic entanglement were never within Nan Xinyue's realm of consideration. Men would only serve to hinder her pace of advancement. Watching her retreating figure, Wang Daolin let out a soft sigh. Ah, Xiao Chun, Yaoer tends to heed your counsel. If the opportunity arises, kindly persuade him to relinquish his infatuation. This girl cannot be swayed by the ordinary. I do not wish for him to become further ensnared. Upon returning to her chamber, Nan Xinyue sat cross-legged, casting a glance at the jade vial in her palm. With a crisp sound, she crushed the vial and carelessly discarded it, before closing her eyes in deep concentration. Now that the battle on the arena had concluded, it was time to refine the blood essence of the ancient Ice Phoenix. Chapter 23. Refining the Ice Phoenix blood essence. Although Nan Xinyue's strength had escalated remarkably, it was still insufficient for her aspirations. Gazing at the jade vial that resonated with chilling power in her palm, she inhaled deeply. I must become even stronger. Despite her overwhelming dominance in the recent arena battle, she could unmistakably sense that the prowess of the disciples from Kongming Peak should not be underestimated. If the true disciples of Kongming Peak, including the chief disciple, were to take action, she knew she would not cope so easily. Moreover, this was merely one peak. There were still 8 other spiritual peaks, along with the mightiest. Yujin Peak. After leaving her chamber, she proceeded to the Cliff of Reflection, intending to refine within the cave. To her surprise, upon arrival, she discerned a strange, flickering light emanating from within the cave, and she faintly sensed an extraordinarily pure spiritual energy. Master? Upon seeing the figure emerging, Nan Xinyue could not help but exclaim, "Oh, you arrived just in time. Come, see the gift I have prepared for you." Jiang Chen greeted her with a cheerful smile. Inside the cave, as Nan Xinyue stepped in, she felt the surrounding spiritual energy becoming exceedingly dense, prompting her to instinctively look up. Above her, intricate and esoteric runes intertwined in a dense array, flowing and shifting, forming a formation that enveloped the entire cave. "Is this a formation?" Nan Xinyue remarked, astonished. "Indeed. I call it the Super Spirit Gathering Array. Within this formation, the speed of cultivation can be enhanced tenfold." Tenfold cultivation speed? Nan Xinyue's beautiful eyes widened in astonishment, seemingly in disbelief as she quietly circulated her internal energy. In an instant, she felt the speed of her internal energy circulation multiply several times over. Gazing at the formation before her, Nan Xinyue's heart remained in turmoil as she stared blankly at Jiang Chen. Spirit weapons, elixirs, unlimited supplies of superior spirit stones, profound sword intent, and now, this intricate formation. How many more secrets did her master conceal? Seeing Nan Xinyue's astonished expression, Jiang Chen felt quite satisfied. "My dear disciple, are you pleased with this gift?" "Thank you, Master," Nan Xinyue replied, her tone regaining composure. "Perfect. You may refine the Ice Phoenix's essence blood within this spirit gathering array. I will remain outside, so call for me if needed." As Jiang Chen approached the cave's entrance, he suddenly recalled something and turned back to offer a final reminder. "Oh, remember not to be greedy. Given your current condition, refining just 1 drop for now will suffice." Once Jiang Chen departed the cave, Nan Xinyue sat cross-legged, revealing her delicate wrist to carefully extract a drop of Ice Phoenix essence blood, enveloping it gently with her spiritual energy. Even with the barrier of her energy, she could still feel the terrifying chill emanating from the essence blood. After adjusting her state to its peak, she hesitated not a moment longer, parting her lips to draw the essence blood into her body. In an instant, the fearsome chill, accompanied by a torrent of spiritual energy, surged through her meridians. The tearing pain coursing through her veins made Nan Xinyue grit her teeth as she exerted all her strength to envelop the essence blood with her profound ice energy, gradually refining it. Outside the cave, Jiang Chen found a shaded spot beneath a tree and casually reclined. The Super Gathering Spirit Array, while it significantly enhances the speed of cultivation, demands an exorbitant consumption of spirit stones. The mere arrangement and activation of the array consumed a staggering 4,000 high-grade spirit stones. Furthermore, with her obedient disciples Xianbing's sacred body, which is akin to a bottomless pit, the consumption of spirit stones escalates at an alarming rate. Once she refines the blood of the Ice Phoenix, it will be time to lead her down the mountain. Jiang Chen contemplated his future plans. Regarding the sect trial in 5 months, he was not overly concerned. For him, the greatest significance of this sect trial lay in allowing Nan Xinyue to compete with the true prodigies within the sect, serving as a means to assess his disciples' cultivation achievements. As for his position as the peak master, as long as he wished to remain in the Tianxian sect, no one could displace him. Not even someone like Shin Shaodian, let alone any celestial figure, would escape his formidable technique. 10,000 swords returned to the sect. Suddenly, while Jiang Chen pondered the subsequent training for Nan Xinyue, he sensed a surge of chaotic spiritual energy within the cave. Ding! Disciple Nan Xinyue has successfully broken through to the 3rd level of the Spirit King realm. Ding! Disciple Nan Xinyue has successfully broken through to the 4th level of the Spirit King realm. Host assistance has been acknowledged. Reward received. Encyclopedia of the Heavenly Spirit Continent. What a paltry effect from the Ice Phoenix's blood, just 2 minor realms. Jiang Chen grumbled in dissatisfaction, but upon reflection, he could comprehend that the primary function of the Ice Phoenix's blood was to refine her meridians. And given the immense spiritual energy required for the Xianbing's sacred body to break through, achieving 2 minor realms was indeed commendable. As for the reward, Jiang Chen felt quite satisfied. Although he had the experience of 8 past lives, his understanding of the heavenly spirit continent and its cultivation system remained somewhat limited. Shifting into a more comfortable position, he eagerly delved into the encyclopedia. Meanwhile, within the cave, Nan Xinyue slowly opened her beautiful eyes. Had she truly broken through 2 minor realms? As expected of the Ice Phoenix's blood, the resilience of her meridians had surpassed her previous limits, which should suffice for the 3rd stage of cultivating Xianbing's spiritual energy. Yet, was this enough for her? As her master had articulated, the top disciples from other spiritual peaks had long since reached the 9th level of the Spirit King realm. In 5 months, some might even break through to the Spirit Sea realm. Nan Xinyue clenched her delicate fists, feeling the abundant spiritual energy within her, quietly murmuring to herself, "This level is still insufficient." Casting a glance at the jade vial hovering before her, Nan Xinyue flicked her finger, and 2 droplets of Ice Phoenix blood floated gently, enveloped in spiritual energy. After a brief moment of contemplation with her eyes closed, she opened them again, her expression returning to its usual cold demeanor. With a slight parting of her lips, she swallowed both droplets of Ice Phoenix blood entirely. Boom! Almost instantaneously upon the blood entering her body, an overwhelmingly fearsome chill surged forth, accompanied by a torrent of chaotic spiritual energy that rampaged within her. In just a few breaths, a delicate layer of frost enveloped her body. Despite her desperate efforts to channel the profound, icy energy, she felt as though her very soul was on the verge of freezing. The excruciating pain elicited a low, anguished moan from Nan Xinyue's cherry lips. Meanwhile, outside the cave, Jiang Chen, engrossed in an encyclopedia, suddenly turned his head toward the cave's direction. What is going on with that girl? Why hasn't she emerged yet? Due to the barrier of the ceiling formation, he was unaware of the turmoil within the cave. Yet, inexplicably, a sense of discomfort gnawed at him, prompting him to rise and dismantle the ceiling formation. "My dear disciple, why are you still in there?" As Jiang Chen stepped into the cave, an overwhelming chill enveloped him, causing him to shudder involuntarily. Upon witnessing the scene inside, his expression shifted dramatically. Chapter 24. With a master present, you shall remain unscathed within the spirit gathering array. Nan Xinyue sat cross-legged, her body cloaked in a visible layer of frost. Jiang Chen, perplexed, wondered how an ice sculpture had suddenly appeared. Upon closer inspection, he was astonished to realize that it was indeed his beloved disciple. The chilling energy within the cave was extraordinarily potent, particularly the blue profound icy energy emanating from Nan Xinyue, which had frozen the ground within several meters, deepening its hue. Noticing the empty jade vial on the ground, Jiang Chen's realization struck him like lightning. This girl had actually refined all 3 drops of her essence blood in one go. What reckless madness! He felt an unusual surge of agitation. "My dear disciple, can you hear me?" He hurried forward, calling out several times. The seemingly ice-encased Nan Xinyue had her long eyelashes flutter slightly, and then her expression abruptly contorted in sheer agony. A series of cracking sounds reverberated as the frost enveloping her body began to shatter, accompanied by the rupturing of her skin, with the blood that flowed out being frozen instantaneously by the chilling energy. At this moment, Nan Xinyue's internal state was a chaotic mess. Numerous meridians had been frozen by the cold force. Clearly, the chilling energy and violent spiritual essence contained within those 2 drops of Ice Phoenix essence blood had far exceeded her capacity to endure. This scenario suggested one of 2 possibilities. Either a formidable entity had forcibly extracted the unrefined Ice Phoenix essence blood from Nan Xinyue's body, or an alchemist, proficient in commanding formidable spiritual fire, was assisting her from the outside, forcibly refining and absorbing the essence blood. What vexed Jiang Chen, however, was his own cultivation level, which was merely that of a 6th-tier spirit king, far from a master alchemist and lacking any spiritual fire. To summarize, he found himself utterly helpless. As Jiang Chen's frown deepened while he contemplated a strategy, an urgent system notification echoed in his mind. Ding! It has been detected that disciple Nan Xinyue is in peril, triggering a mission to assist her through this crisis. Time limit, 1 day. Sighing deeply, Jiang Chen felt a throbbing headache. He never anticipated that Nan Xinyue would be so relentless, not only toward others, but even more so toward herself. That was indeed the essence of a 9-tiered demonic beast, and he had consumed it entirely in one gulp. Though he harbored complaints, Jiang Chen could not afford to stand idly by as Nan Xinyue faced potential peril. Suddenly, He recalled having seen a similar scenario in an encyclopedia and hastily began to search through its pages. He found it. Did it require a fire attribute core from a 7-tiered demonic beast? Jiang Chen raised an eyebrow, contemplating for a moment before producing a communication talisman to summon Wang Daolin to the listening snow peak without delay. Just as he was about to depart the cave, a feeble voice emerged from behind him. Master. He turned to see Nan Xinyue struggling to partially open her eyes, her voice laced with unmistakable pain and weakness. My dear disciple, I have devised a method to save you. With me here, you shall not come to harm. Master, I can. Nan Xinyue laboriously lifted her frostbitten arms, slowly forming intricate seals, only to suddenly stifle a groan, blood seeping from the corner of her mouth and freezing almost instantly. Hearing her words, Jiang Chen's lips twitched in frustration. I shall return shortly. Observing Nan Xinyue's pitiful state, he could not bring himself to scold her and thus exited the cave. Before long, Wang Daolin soared from the horizon. Xiao Chun, you summon me in haste. Is there an issue? Elder Wang, I require your assistance with a matter. Jiang Chen unsealed the protective array and ushered Wang Daolin into the cave. Upon witnessing the spirit-gathering array and the nearly frozen Nan Xinyue seated upon the ground, Wang Daolin's expression shifted dramatically. Is this the girl, Xinyue? What has transpired? It's merely a minor issue, Jiang Chen replied. Wang Daolin was momentarily stunned. Minor issue? I sense her meridians are completely frozen. Such a terrifying chill. Elder Wang, what is the situation? I will explain later. Do you have a way to alleviate her symptoms? Wang Daolin's countenance turned grave. I shall attempt it. With that, a formidable surge of spiritual power erupted from Wang Daolin's body. He advanced a few steps, concentrating his energy at his fingertips before pressing it against Nan Xinyue's forehead. As he felt the chilling force within her, Wang Daolin instinctively inhaled sharply. Xiao Chun, brace yourself. There resides a terrifying cold force within her. I can only sustain her for half a day at most. If we cannot resolve this in time, your disciple may not survive. Half a day should suffice. I must descend the mountain. Until my return, I entrust my dear disciple to you, Elder Wang. With that, Jiang Chen turned and left the cave, while Wang Daolin sighed heavily. The situation concerning Nan Xinyue was unprecedented even for him, leaving him at a loss, while Jiang Chen, devoid of spiritual power, could do little to assist. After departing from Listening Snow Peak, Jiang Chen journeyed northward, eventually leaving the jurisdiction of the Tianxian sect. Qingshui town was the closest settlement to the sect. Listen well, newcomers. Our objective this time is to hunt the 4th-tier demon beast, the Swift Shadow Wolf. Regardless of your sect or family background, once we enter the ghostly forest, you shall all heed my commands. Do you understand? Within the inn, a one-eyed man was addressing a few individuals sternly. Qingshui town has always been a hub for many sects and noble families, and among them, several competent wandering cultivators have formed bounty teams, relying on tasks that involve hunting demon beasts for their livelihood. The one-eyed man, named Sang Biao, is somewhat renowned among the wandering cultivators due to his 8th-tier cultivation in the Spirit Sea realm. After issuing a few instructions, the group departed from the inn. Among them, one man donned a wide-brimmed hat and a veil, rendering his features obscure and enigmatic. Soon, they arrived at the outskirts of the ghostly forest and ventured deeper. Along the way, the veiled man discreetly lifted a corner of his veil to surreptitiously observe his surroundings. His eyes unmistakably belonged to Jiang Chen. After leaving the Listening Snow Peak, he had first inquired within the sect's Grand Hall. Although there were some 7th-tier demon beast cores available, none possessed the fire attribute. Subsequently, he learned in Qingshui town of a 7th-tier fire attribute demon beast lurking within the ghostly forest. Furthermore, as Sang Biao was actively recruiting members, Jiang Chen showcased his 6th-tier cultivation in the Spirit King realm and successfully joined the team. While he could operate on the periphery of the ghostly forest without issue, delving deeper posed considerable risks. Sang Biao, being an 8th-tier Spirit Sea cultivator, along with other capable team members, provided a degree of safety for him. Let us set up traps here. Be attentive and do not act recklessly without my command. I have heard that a 7th-tier fire demon ape has recently been spotted moving close to this area. A creature on par with the top-tier beasts of the transformation spirit realm. If we provoke it, we shall all be doomed. Upon hearing the name of the fire demon ape, Jiang Chen's eyes gleamed with interest. Brother, we are disciples of the Yujian Peak from the Tianxian sect. May I inquire which sect you belong to? As Jiang Chen contemplated how to lure out the fire demon ape, a fellow disciple clad in Tianxian sect attire approached him. I am unaffiliated, Jiang Chen replied languidly. Sensing Jiang Chen's aloof demeanor, the Yujian Peak disciple awkwardly pursed his lips and wisely chose not to engage further. Soon, the group had successfully set up the traps. Brother Biao, how do we lure out the Swift Shadow Wolf? One team member inquired. Do not worry, I have my methods, Sang Biao assured, producing a vial from his robe and carefully pouring its contents onto the ground. The scent of this substance will attract the swift shadow wolf. When the time comes, those of you in the Spirit Sea realm will assist me in the attack. As for the Spirit King cultivators, ensure the perimeter is secured. We cannot allow that beast to escape. We must strike swiftly. If we alert other demon beasts, it will become quite troublesome. Jiang Chen, however, was secretly calculating that once these individuals engaged with the swift shadow wolf, he would seize the opportunity to slip away. They were already quite close to the depths of the phantom forest, and the fire demon ape should be nearby. After giving a few more instructions, Sang Biao urged everyone to conceal themselves. The act of hunting demonic beasts inherently requires patience. After nearly an hour, the swift shadow wolf still had not appeared. However, for Sang Biao and his companions, such delays were commonplace, and they exhibited no signs of impatience. In contrast, the disciples from Yujian Peak grew increasingly restless. Behind a thicket, Jiang Chen and several disciples from Yujian Peak concealed themselves. Sang Biao, despite being at the 8th level of the Spirit Sea realm, is rather timid. I believe we should directly confront the swift shadow wolf and overwhelm it. What do you think, brother? One of the disciples remarked, attempting to engage Jiang Chen in conversation. Jiang Chen, however, was disinclined to respond, focusing instead on observing the surrounding terrain. His beloved disciple awaited his return for rescue, leaving him little time to squander. Hey, are you deaf? Didn't you hear my senior brother speaking to you? Another disciple from Yujian Peak, growing increasingly irritable at Jiang Chen's aloof demeanor, snapped back. In terms of strength, Jiang Chen was the weakest among them, a solitary cultivator without an affiliation, and thus seemed overly proud. Jiang Chen had never held Yujian Peak in high regard, and the mounting irritation prompted him to retort. Do the people of Yujian Peak always chatter so incessantly? How dare you insult Yujian Peak? Several disciples' expressions darkened. Just then, a sharp wolf howl pierced the air from a distance. The beast is coming. Everyone, stay alert. Sang Biao whispered urgently. Upon hearing this, everyone immediately took their positions, and the Yujian Peak disciples shot Jiang Chen a disdainful glare. Consider yourself fortunate. Once we deal with the beast, we shall teach you a lesson. Yujian Peak is not a place for lowly scoundrels to defile. Suddenly, a series of piercing sounds echoed through the air. From the nearby woods, a menacing wolf, towering at 2 to 3 meters high, burst forth, its dark fur gleaming ominously. It was the 4th-tier demonic beast, the swift shadow wolf. After cautiously surveying its surroundings, the wolf's nose twitched as it lowered its head to sniff the ground. As a 4th-tier demonic beast, it possessed a degree of intelligence, allowing it to sense a hint of danger. Yet, the scent in the air exhilarated it. With a thunderous crash, its massive paw struck the ground, triggering a hidden explosive talisman buried by Sang Biao. The explosion resounded with a deafening boom. A woo! The shadow wolf let out a horrified howl, its colossal form recoiling as it instinctively turned to flee. Attack! Sang Biao's furious shout erupted from the thicket. Leading the charge, 6 Spirit Sea Realm members unleashed their spiritual energy without hesitation, a dazzling array of colors flashing as they hurled a barrage of flamboyant attacks toward the swift shadow wolf. Bang! 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 The ranking of demon beasts differs from that of cultivators, classified into 10 tiers. Once a demon beast awakens its intelligence, it immediately transcends the chi refinement stage. Thus, even the weakest 1st-tier demon beast is equivalent to a spirit realm practitioner. This 4th-tier swift shadow wolf, although comparable to the spirit ruins realm, has evidently only recently transitioned into the 4th tier. Coupled with the seamless cooperation of Sang Biao and his companions, it soon found itself battered and bruised. Meanwhile, Jiang Chen and his companions, including several disciples from Yujian Peak in the Spirit King realm, were stationed around the area. Observing the swift shadow wolf being pushed back relentlessly, a disciple from Yujian Peak scoffed. Is that all a 4th-tier demon beast amounts to? Why should we be the ones to guard it, senior brother? Shouldn't we join in? If Sang Biao claims we contributed less when the spirit stones are distributed, we might end up shortchanged. As if to validate his point, before the disciple could finish speaking, Sang Biao's furious voice echoed. That beast is trying to flee. Stop it. With a howl, the swift shadow wolf, its green eyes ablaze with madness, charged towards the periphery. Humph. Just in time, several disciples from Yujian Peak rushed forward, only to be met with a burst of green light from the wolf's mouth, sending them crashing back, coughing up blood. Damn it. What a useless bunch from Yujian Peak. Seeing that his companions couldn't even withstand a single strike from the severely wounded swift shadow wolf, Sang Biao cursed in frustration, hastily leading the others to surround the wolf once more. The chaos of the scene intensified, and taking advantage of the distraction, Jiang Chen made his escape. After a fierce battle, the swift shadow wolf let out a final, anguished cry before collapsing lifelessly to the ground. After a brief respite, Sang Biao began to tally the casualties. Huh, why is one missing? Where's that guy with the straw hat? Noticing Jiang Chen's absence, the heavily injured disciples from Yujian Peak were incensed. That coward must have fled. First, he insulted Yujian Peak, and now he abandons us in battle. How disgraceful. We fought valiantly against that beast while he ran away. Unbelievable. Biao Gu. What should we do? Should we go after him? Fleeing in the face of danger is among the most contemptible acts in the bounty team circle. Forget it. Let's rest first, then take the beast's corpse and leave this place as quickly as possible. After Sang Biao and his group dealt with the swift shadow wolf's body, an unexpected rustling sound broke the silence of the surrounding woods. Something's amiss. Everyone, stay alert. Sang Biao barked, and his companions quickly fell into a defensive stance. The once tranquil forest began to echo with low, ominous howls, pairs of green eyes flickering from the shadows. 1, 10, 50. Before them emerged a tide of swift shadow wolves. Predominantly second and third tier, yet their numbers exceeded 100. The sight of such a dense gathering sent shivers down the spines of the onlookers. The disciples of Yujian Peak clutched their swords, their hands trembling and their calves quaking. At that moment, Sang Biao's expression was dark and foreboding. Damn it! This is the vengeful spawn of that beast. With that, he unsheathed his blade and extracted the inner core of the swift shadow wolf, flinging his weapon aside. Stay close. We must charge out. The wolf pack roared in unison, surging towards Sang Biao and his companions. Yet, just as they prepared to confront the oncoming threat, the wolves ignored them and dashed toward the forest's edge, displaying unmistakable signs of panic. Biao Gu, what is happening? These creatures seem to be fleeing for their lives. Sang Biao, equally perplexed, noted the wolves' unmistakable terror. Suddenly, his countenance shifted dramatically, as if a realization struck him. His voice turned sharp. Quick, we must leave this place. At that moment, a thunderous roar erupted from the depths of the forest, accompanied by an extraordinary surge of violent spiritual energy that uprooted countless trees. Run. Sang Biao's face drained of color as he called out, ready to flee. But the very next second, a shadow, resembling a small mountain, erupted from the forest. With a resounding crash that shook the earth, fissures began to form beneath their feet. As the smoke cleared, a colossal figure, entirely crimson, loomed before them. Meanwhile, not far from their location, within the confines of the forest, Jiang Chen removed his hat, furrowing his brow in confusion. What is going on? Wasn't he supposed to be nearby? Suddenly, a roar echoed from a distance, accompanied by a wave of scorching heat. Jiang Chen's eyes lit up as he glimpsed the source of the disturbance. This must be it. Chapter 26. Watch closely, this move will be magnificent. In the deeper regions of the ghostly spirit forest, Sang Biao gazed upon the giant creature before him, akin to a small mountain, his face drained of color. With a clatter, a disciple from Yujian Peak dropped his sword, collapsing to the ground in a heap. Fire, fire, fire. The fire demon ape. The expressions of the others mirrored his terror. Before them stood the fire demon ape, towering at 10 meters, its body resembling a small mountain. With crimson fur and eyes that glimmered with a fierce, scarlet light. A 7th-tier demon beast, the fire demon ape was equivalent to a cultivator at the spirit transformation stage. The violent aura emanating from its mountainous form sent shivers through the beasts within a radius of several dozen miles. Damn it! We are truly cursed. Sang Biao cursed vehemently, yet discreetly signaled to his companions. If it were any other demon beast, perhaps they could have put up a fight, but against the fire demon ape, their only choice was to flee. Beasts of this caliber possessed a high degree of intelligence, and as it surveyed the pitiful human ants before it, its crimson eyes sparkled with menace. I do not wish to perish. I do not wish to perish. The disciple of Yujian Peak, previously paralyzed by fear, frantically crawled away using both hands and feet. Witnessing this, Sang Biao erupted in anger. What a fool. Sure enough, the disciple had scarcely made it a few meters when the mighty hand of the fire demon ape came crashing down. Bang! In an instant, that disciple, who was at the 7th level of the Spirit King realm, was reduced to a mere puddle of flesh. Run! Sang Biao shouted, unleashing all his spiritual energy. And without looking back, he fled in the opposite direction, prompting the others to scatter in terror. Upon seeing this, the fire demon ape's eyes blazed with crimson fury as it pounded the ground with its fists, causing the earth to tremble violently. The scorching and tumultuous aura instantly caused the ground within 100 meters to collapse. Sang Biao and his companions were struck by the searing spiritual force erupting from the ground, sending them hurtling through the air. In a single blow, Sang Biao's team suffered heavy losses, with most of them either gravely injured or unable to rise, blood spilling from their mouths. Damn it! Are we really going to perish here? Sang Biao's expression turned increasingly desperate. as he gazed at the colossal fists of the fire demon ape being raised. All present had closed their eyes in despair, unable to conceive any means of survival against such a formidable beast, one that could rival those in the transformation realm. Wait. Suddenly, a voice pierced through the gloom. Everyone turned in astonishment to see a figure clad in a bamboo hat and veil slowly emerging from the forest. Gasping for breath, Jiang Chen leaned against a tree trunk. He was not at the spirit ruins realm and could not fly. He had run here on foot. Although he had attained the 7th level of the Spirit King realm, he was utterly exhausted. Seeing this, Sang Biao could not bear to watch Jiang Chen walk to his doom and quickly urged, "Little brother, run. That is a 7th-tier beast, the fire demon ape." To his surprise, Jiang Chen disregarded the warning and took slow steps towards the fire demon ape. The beast, noticing the diminutive figure before it, exhibited a flicker of ferocity in its crimson eyes. "Hey, you should be able to understand my words," Jiang Chen said calmly. As a 7th-tier beast with high intelligence, the fire demon ape, upon seeing Jiang Chen was merely a Spirit King realm cultivator, pounded its chest and roared at the sky. "I have come to borrow something from you." Pausing for emphasis, Jiang Chen pointed to his own chest and stated, "Your inner core, hand it over to me." His words plunged everyone, including the fire demon ape, into stunned silence. This foolish boy has lost his mind. "Brother Biao, let us take advantage of this madman's insanity to escape." Several team members, dragging their severely injured bodies, stumbled to their feet. As for Jiang Chen, he was regarded as a complete lunatic, daring to covet the inner core of the fire demon ape despite being merely at the Spirit King realm. However, Sang Biao's expression grew complex upon hearing Jiang Chen's words. "I understand now. This little brother is sacrificing himself to buy us time to flee. He is a remarkable figure. Brothers, retreat." Sang Biao and his companions supported each other, intending to seize the moment and flee. At that moment, the fire demon ape, regaining its senses, was incensed to find such a seemingly insignificant human daring to covet its inner core. Its crimson eyes burned with an intensified ferocity. With a deafening roar, the fire demon ape's fiery red fur shimmered with a dazzling glow, evidently provoked by Jiang Chen's words. It seemed that I must take matters into my own hands. Despite the overwhelming presence of the fire demon ape before him, Jiang Chen remained composed. "Alas, it is a pity that my obedient disciple is not present, otherwise I could showcase my prowess splendidly once more," Jiang Chen murmured to himself, slowly closing his eyes and holding his breath in deep focus. Boom. When he reopened his eyes, his aura had undergone a remarkable transformation. A terrifying sword intent emanated from him, soaring into the sky. Sang Biao and the others, preoccupied with their escape, suddenly felt a chilling pressure emanating from behind them. Instinctively, they turned to see the diminutive figure of Jiang Chen standing before the fire demon ape, resembling an unparalleled imperial weapon. What an overwhelming pressure. Is this the aura of that young man? Why can I no longer sense his cultivation level? I can't even feel his spiritual energy. Who exactly is he? In contrast to the shock of the other team members, the disciple from Yujin Peak, who had previously boasted about teaching Jiang Chen a lesson, looked utterly astounded, his mouth agape. The essence of sword intent. This is the sword's realm of understanding. How could it possibly surpass even the pressure of the Peak Masteress realm? Even the fire demon ape, upon sensing the terrifying intent radiating from Jiang Chen, exhibited a flicker of fear in its eyes. Yet, as a top-tier beast, its instincts forbade it from fleeing. Roar. After thumping its chest ferociously, the fire demon ape's fur bristled, and its already massive form swelled even further, transforming into a true ancient beast of terror. Roar. The crimson light erupting from the fire demon ape coalesced into a pillar shooting toward the heavens, and it clenched its fists, preparing to unleash a devastating blow upon the diminutive Jiang Chen. Sensing the overwhelming aura of destruction, Jiang Chen remained unperturbed, forming his hand into a sword-like gesture before him. "Hey," the one called Sang Biao. Sang Biao, in a daze, suddenly noticed Jiang Chen looking his way. "Huh," he replied, bewildered. "You all must pay attention." "To what?" "This move will be quite impressive." Roar. The fire demon ape's colossal fists descended like meteorites with tremendous force. All swords returned to their origin. Jiang Chen uttered softly, his sword gesture descending gracefully. As his finger touched down, the ground beneath him cracked inch by inch, revealing a towering silhouette behind him, a colossal sword, measuring dozens of meters in length, radiant and shimmering with ethereal light. As they gazed upon the colossal sword piercing the heavens, Sang Biao and his companions were struck with terror, their mouths agape and bodies trembling uncontrollably. The overwhelming pressure emanating from the sword caused their internal energy to stagnate. With a thud, they all fell to their knees, quaking in fear. With a fearsome roar, the sword had yet to descend. Yet the terrifying intent it projected was already causing the fire demon ape's remarkably tough skin to begin cracking. With a thunderous clash, the moment the two immense pressures collided, it felt as if the very fabric of this world was on the verge of shattering. The fire demon ape roared defiantly, yet its massive form was swiftly engulfed by the vast shadow of the sword. The residual force of the explosion swept over Sang Biao and his companions, sending them flying, many collapsing unconscious upon impact. Coughing violently, Sang Biao struggled to clear his vision, catching a glimpse of Jiang Chen's conical hat blown away by the fierce wind, revealing his calm eyes. After a few futile struggles, he slumped over, losing consciousness entirely. Once the explosive aftermath subsided, Jiang Chen felt a wave of weakness wash over him. He bent down to retrieve his hat, and, observing the chaos and scattered flesh around him, he patted his thigh vigorously. Damn, did I exert too much force? I hope my inner core isn't shattered. He hurriedly searched the ground and finally uncovered a crimson inner core beneath the debris. After stowing it away in his storage ring, he wasted no time and turned to leave. His beloved disciple awaited his rescue. Moreover, the commotion had been far too loud. It might attract nearby sections. As for Sang Biao and the others, he could only pray that fortune favored them and they would not be found by the beast. Shortly after Jiang Chen's departure, Sang Biao and the others gradually regained consciousness. Damn it, I almost thought we were done for, Sang Biao muttered, rubbing his arms, the sensation of survival filling him with dread. Brother Biao, what is that? One of the team members, pale with fear, pointed behind them, prompting Sang Biao to instinctively turn around. Upon turning, Sang Biao's expression morphed into one of horror, mirroring the shock of a surviving disciple from Yujin Peak, who weakly sank to the ground. Before them lay a chasm several dozen yards wide, stretching for hundreds of miles, unfathomably deep. From within that gaping maw emerged a chilling aura of sword intent. Sang Biao swallowed hard, wiping the cold sweat from his brow, and gazed into the abyss. A seventh-tier fire demon ape, killed in a single strike. This is absurd. The disciple from Yujin Peak turned pale, muttering, It's over, it's over. Just moments ago, he had boasted about teaching Jiang Chen a lesson. Now, he realized that such a formidable being could easily extinguish his life with a mere breath. Brother Biao, shall we retreat? Indeed, let us withdraw. Sang Biao nodded, supporting his team as he prepared to depart, when suddenly he felt an overwhelming pressure of spiritual force emanating from the distant horizon. His countenance shifted dramatically before he could fully comprehend the situation. Two figures materialized above the ravine. They stood in midair, devoid of any discernible fluctuations of spiritual energy. Yet Sang Biao's expression grew exceedingly grave as he recognized their identities. Chun Xian, the vice master of Tianxian sect, and Shun Xiaotian, the master of Jade Sword Peak. Sensing the residual might of the sword path emanating from the ravine below, both Chun Xian and Shun Xiaotian wore somber expressions. Judging by the signs of battle, it was undoubtedly the fire demon ape that had been defeated. As for the other individual, I could not perceive his presence within my range of divine awareness. The aura of the fire demon ape had vanished, likely having been vanquished by this enigmatic figure. While they conversed, a disciple from Jade Sword Peak hurriedly called out, Master, Master, oh, what splendid fortune. I thought I would never see you again. Noticing the disciple's attire, Shun Xiaotian raised an eyebrow. In an instant, they appeared before Sang Biao and the others. What transpired here? Shun Xiaotian inquired. Upon hearing this, Sang Biao felt no inclination to conceal any details and recounted the events truthfully. As he learned the account, Chen Xian's brow furrowed slightly. You mean to say that this person wielded his fingers as swords and slayed the fire demon ape in a single strike? Indeed, Master Chun. Every word I speak is the unembellished truth, Sang Biao affirmed. It was now Shun Xiaotian's turn to be unsettled. Master Shun, how does this individual's swordsmanship compare to yours? In response to Chun Xian's inquiry, Shun Xiaotian inhaled deeply. A hint of self-deprecation in his tone as he replied, far superior to mine. Do you know what realm this person has attained? Several years ago, I engaged in combat with the fire demon ape. While I could inflict injury, slaying it required considerable effort. This individual's strength is likely on par with mine, at least at the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm or its consummation. Upon hearing this, Shun Xiaotian's expression turned grave as he glanced back at the ravine that nearly cleaved the spirit ghost forest in two. Such a formidable presence has suddenly emerged in the northern domain. Should we dispatch someone to ascertain his identity? Never mind, Chun Xian replied. Since this individual chooses to conceal his true appearance, it stands to reason that he wishes to remain unidentified. An impulsive investigation may provoke unnecessary misunderstandings. Instruct the disciples of the sect to steer clear of this area during their future excursions into the spirit ghost forest, remaining at the periphery. At Tianxian sect, Panting heavily, Jiang Chen arrived at the mountain gate, removing his conical hat and carelessly tossing it into his spatial ring, appearing somewhat disheveled. After catching his breath, he hurried toward the direction of Listening Snow Peak. Just then, Xunji Xian and Shun Xiaotian, returning from the spirit ghost forest, soared across the sky. Spotting Jiang Chen below, Xunji Xian couldn't help but shake his head and chuckle. I heard about your encounter with him during the master-apprentice ceremony, he remarked. Are you, too, seeking to intercede for this lad, Vice Master? Shin Xiaotian asked. Xunji Xian merely smiled and shook his head. It is not so. For had the sect leader not explicitly promised before entering seclusion, I would never have allowed one incapable of cultivation to assume the position of the Spirit Peak Master, even at the risk of offending those old geezers. With the sect leader still in seclusion as the deputy sect master, I must prioritize the reputation and interests of the sect. Having said that, he glanced at Jiang Chen below and continued. I am aware of your grievances with the Listening Snow Peak, but we are, after all, of the same sect. After the sect trials, find a suitable place in the mundane world to ensure Jiang Chen's well-being, so that he may live without worry, which would also honor Luo Tingshui. Since this is the deputy sect master's wish, I naturally have no objections. After a final glance at Jiang Chen, their figures gradually vanished into the horizon. Listening Snow Peak. The Cliff of Reflection. Within the cave, Wang Daolin was still struggling, sweat streaming down his forehead. Why hasn't Xiaochen returned yet? This is truly taxing my old bones. Just as he muttered his complaint, he noticed Nan Xinyue's frost-covered skin crackling once again. Witnessing this, Wang Daolin's expression changed drastically. He shouted and summoned his spiritual power, desperately trying to suppress the chilling force within Nan Xinyue. Elder Wang. Nan Xinyue's eyelashes fluttered. Her already pale skin, now even more ghostly. She could distinctly feel the chilling force surging from the blood of the ice phoenix, freezing every bit of vitality within her. She had no regrets. To grow stronger, one must pay a price. Yet she never expected that this time, the cost would be her own life. The only regret was that she had yet to fulfill her promise to Jiang Chen. Please tell the master, the disciple is incompetent and cannot complete the agreement. Little girl, do not speak. Focus all your energy on protecting your heart pulse. Realizing the rapid decline of Nan Xinyue's life force, Wang Daolin panicked, channeling all his strength. Nan Xinyue gradually lowered her gaze, despairing as she realized she could not escape her fate after such a long struggle. As her vision blurred, she saw a figure rushing into the cave in a haze. In a moment of clarity, she thought she heard a familiar call. Good disciple, your master has returned. Chapter 28. Of course, it's mouth to mouth. You brat, if you return any later, be prepared to collect the corpses of both me and that girl. Seeing Wang Daolin drenched in sweat and looking pale and weak, Jiang Chen couldn't help but chuckle awkwardly. I apologize, Elder Wang. I was delayed on the way. After obtaining the fire demon ape's core, I intended to return to Listening Snow Peak immediately. However, who would have thought that upon reaching the outskirts of the ghostly forest, I encountered the offspring of the swift shadow wolf, which delayed me quite a bit. I did my best, but alas, this girl. Wang Daolin sighed deeply. A look of regret on his face. Jiang Chen exclaimed, regret? She is not dead yet. Upon seeing Jiang Chen take out the core from his storage ring, Wang Daolin's eyes brightened. Such a violent surge of scorching spiritual power. Is this the core of a high-tier beast? Perhaps it could be of use to this girl. Where did you acquire this? With no time to spare for idle chatter, Jiang Chen quickly assisted Nan Xinyue into a seated position, leaning her against himself. After a considerable struggle, he found it impossible to place the inner core into her mouth. Beside them, Wang Daolin, witnessing the distressing scene, was equally frantic. This girl's muscles and bones have already frozen. This approach is futile. What should we do then? Jiang Chen replied. Wang Daolin, exasperated, pressed his forehead. Of course. You must administer it mouth to mouth. Jiang Chen protested. Isn't that inappropriate? I'm not that kind of person. Seeing this, Wang Daolin stamped his feet in frustration. When a life is at stake, why are you hesitating? Step aside and let me handle it. Get away, you old man. Have some shame. After casting a disapproving glance at Wang Daolin, Jiang Chen took a deep breath, hesitated for a moment, then placed the inner core in his mouth and bent down to deliver it. He vowed to himself that he harbored no ulterior motives. He merely intended to transfer the inner core to Nan Xinyue before hastily retreating. As a top-tier fire attribute beast of the 7th rank, the inner core of the fire demon ape possessed formidable capabilities to counteract the frigid forces. With a sizzling sound, once the inner core entered her body, it was not long before a series of sounds emanated from Nan Xinyue's exterior, with the delicate layer of frost showing signs of melting. Gradually regaining consciousness amidst her slumber, Nan Xinyue felt the contrasting waves of cold and heat within her, causing her to furrow her brows in discomfort. Good disciple, can you hear my voice? Quickly circulate your spiritual energy to refine the cold forces within you as much as possible. Although Nan Xinyue could not respond verbally, her senses remained intact. Upon hearing Jiang Chen's words, she struggled to raise her hand and formed a seal to channel her spiritual energy. Thanks to the support from the fire demon ape's inner core, the cold forces within her were indeed being refined significantly. However, the overwhelming cold forces generated by the 2 drops of ice phoenix blood were far too immense to be entirely eradicated. As a new layer of fine frost began to appear on Nan Xinyue's surface once more, Jiang Chen surmised the situation within her. For those that cannot be refined, force them all into the inner core. Upon hearing Jiang Chen's command, Nan Xinyue acted without a moment's hesitation, exerting her spiritual energy to compel the cold forces lingering throughout her body into one concentrated area. Noticing Nan Xinyue's condition improving, both Jiang Chen and Wang Daolin exhaled in relief. It seemed that the girl's life was indeed preserved. Wang Daolin sat down on the ground, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and then looked at Jiang Chen, asking, "Xiao Chen, where did you acquire this high-grade inner core?" "I found it in a crevice," Jiang Chen replied. Wang Daolin retorted, "You never speak a word of truth." Just as the two were conversing, they suddenly sensed a dramatic surge in Nan Xinyue's aura behind them. 4th level of Spirit King Realm. Full circle 5th level of Spirit King Realm 6th level of Spirit King Realm 7th level of Spirit King Realm. The aura surged without pause, propelling her directly to the pinnacle of the Spirit King Realm. Jiang Chen's brows furrowed upon witnessing this. At this moment, Nan Xinyue seemed to sense something, her delicate fingers laboriously forming a seal. The previously burgeoning aura began to recede forcefully, stabilizing at the 7th level of the Spirit King Realm. Observing this transformation, Jiang Chen's furrowed brow finally relaxed. As the spiritual energy dissipated, Nan Xinyue struggled to open her eyes, gazing at Jiang Chen before her. "Master," she softly called, only to be overwhelmed by a wave of intense dizziness, her body succumbing to weakness and collapsing. Wang Daolin stepped forward to examine her, then spoke, "It's nothing serious. She is merely too weak and has fainted from exhaustion." Witnessing Nan Xinyue overcome her crisis, Jiang Chen let out a long sigh of relief. After lifting her, he hurriedly departed from the cliff of reflection. Outside the wooden cottage, after settling Nan Xinyue, Jiang Chen had scarcely stepped out when he encountered Wang Daolin approaching. "Xiao Chen, be honest with me. The 9th grade spirit tool you gave that girl, the peculiar formation in your cave, and the inner core of that demonic beast, were they gifts from your master? What do you think?" Jiang Chen replied coolly. Upon hearing this, Wang Daolin's lips moved, but ultimately, he sighed deeply. "Perhaps this is fate. Your master sacrificed everything to protect you, and you, in turn, are willing to give everything to safeguard her. Oh, the whims of destiny." With a resigned sigh, Wang Daolin turned to leave. In his eyes, Luo Tingxue had bequeathed so many precious treasures to Jiang Chen, who should have been a bit more selfish and kept them for himself. Yet, he had chosen to offer them all for the sake of his disciple. Having seen through the perils of the cultivation world, Wang Daolin deemed Jiang Chen's actions ill-advised, yet he respected the latter's choice. As Wang Daolin departed, the system's notification sound suddenly echoed. "Ding! Disciple Nan Xinyue has overcome her crisis. Congratulations to the host for receiving a reward, Super Fishing Rod." A burst of light flashed, and as Jiang Chen beheld the fishing rod that had materialized in his hands, his lips twitched involuntarily, feeling utterly defeated. "A super fishing rod? Damn system. Did you truly think I came here to slack off and fish? What use is this pathetic rod? Can't you offer something more substantial? Please remain calm, host. The super fishing rod is an extraordinary reward tailored to your preferences. Anything caught with it will possess special attributes." "Oh, special attributes? That sounds intriguing. Let me try it out." Jiang Chen, clutching the fishing rod, eagerly rushed towards the pond. During the days of Nan Xinyue's unconsciousness, Jiang Chen found himself quite at leisure. He slept until he naturally awoke, took care of his obedient disciple, and in the afternoons, fished with his super fishing rod. Whenever he grew tired, he would rest his head on little fascia and peruse an encyclopedia or take a short nap. 10 days later, Nan Xinyue finally regained consciousness. Thanks to the refinement from the blood of the ice phoenix, not only had her cultivation improved, but the resilience of her meridians had also significantly increased, enabling her to withstand the cultivation of the Xianbing's spiritual energy up to the 5th transformation. "Master, I wish to descend the mountain for some training," Nan Xinyue declared, truly embodying the title of cultivation fanatic, as her first thought upon awakening was to seek out experience beyond the mountain. "Indeed, my intention was to take you down the mountain after the competition, having stayed at the listening snow peak for quite some time. It's time for us to descend and stretch our legs. Let us prepare, and we shall set forth tomorrow." Chapter 29. Within 3 breaths. Do not roll, kill. At the base of Listening Snow Peak, upon learning that Jiang Chen and his disciple were departing, Wang Daolin made a special visit. Observing Wang Daolin with his hands empty, Jiang Chen let out a gentle sigh. You come here without bringing anything at all. Even 100 or 80 bottles of revival pills would suffice. Young rascal, spare me your lamentations of poverty. Wang Daolin retorted with a chuckle, realizing Jiang Chen's concern for his cherished revival pills. During their conversation, Wang Daolin could not help but steer the topic towards Nan Xinyue. Your disciple has gained quite a reputation. The disciples of Kongming Peak have been significantly affected. I've heard even that Ice Girl has chosen to retreat into the sect's secret realm, awaiting her chance to vent her frustrations during the sect's trial. Still, I maintain that my disciple is invincible. Let them be, Jiang Chen declared with a commanding wave of his hand. Seeing this, Wang Daolin shook his head and laughed, replying, while others support their disciples, you seem to be the exception, my boy. As they strolled along a narrow path, Wang Daolin added, by the way, Xiao Chun, should you venture into the ghostly forest upon descending, be wary of the Star Mist sect. The Northern Domain's secret realm is not far from the ghostly forest, and many disciples from various sects will be active in that vicinity. Our Tianxian sect has always had a strained relationship with the Star Mist sect. Rest assured, I have never been one to instigate trouble. As the hour grew late, Jiang Chen addressed Elder Wang. This is where I shall take my leave. Wang Daolin nodded in agreement, then turned to Nan Xinyue. Child, during this descent, you must heed your masteress' words. Especially concerning your cultivation, do not be impulsive. Last time, your life was hanging by a thread. If your master hadn't administered the inner core to you directly, the consequences would have been dire. Directly? Nan Xinyue paused, having never heard her master mention this before. So that inner core was administered by her master. As this thought crossed her mind, a faint ripple passed through her otherwise tranquil eyes, which quickly returned to calmness. Jiang Chen, however, felt a flush rise to his cheeks and shot a fierce glare at Wang Daolin. This old man truly lacks discretion. He speaks without restraint. Ah, well then. It is getting late. Dear disciple, let us be on our way. With that, Jiang Chen strode forward confidently, with Nan Xinyue closely following. Once they had exited the jurisdiction of Tianxian sect, Jiang Chen finally halted, taking a deep breath, relishing the freedom. Master, where are we headed? Nan Xinyue inquired. With a flourish of his sleeve, Jiang Chen advanced purposefully. Fear not, dear disciple, we shall first journey to Qingshui town. Master, why do we not fly there? Nan Xinyue asked. Jiang Chen's face reddened as he cleared his throat. Why not fly, you ask? Well, it is simply because I cannot. My dear disciple, you must understand. This is about experiencing nature. It is a form of returning to simplicity in our cultivation. And so they proceeded towards Qingshui town. Jiang Chen and Nan Xinyue walked side by side down the bustling street. Master, why don't we proceed directly to the ghostly forest? For Nan Xinyue, a fervent cultivator, any moment not spent in training was a meaningless waste of time. Jiang Chen casually explored the roadside stalls, replying nonchalantly, Dear disciple, do not tighten your strings so much. Enjoy your meals, embrace life, and cultivate well. This is the principle we uphold at Xingshu Peak. In this vibrant marketplace, Nan Xinyue, with her frigid demeanor, appeared somewhat out of place. Yet, her stunning beauty and ethereal grace were undeniably striking. Vendors dared to steal glances, indulging their curiosity, while passing cultivators were inevitably swayed by desire. A handsome cultivator approached her, initiating conversation, but before he could finish, Nan Xinyue coldly uttered a single word, leave. The cultivator's face flushed crimson at her words, yet undeterred, he approached again. Miss, you too are a cultivator? I am from the Hunyuan Xingyi sect. Before he could complete his sentence, the sound of a sword's resonance pierced the air. Boom. As he gazed at the shattered ground beneath him, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He sensed that Nan Xinyue's cultivation far surpassed his own. Leave within 3 breaths. Or die, she stated with an icy detachment that sent a shiver down his spine. He merely sought to strike up a conversation. Was such a fierce reaction truly warranted? 3 breaths had passed. Just as the cultivator hesitated, Nan Xinyue's chilling voice sounded once more, and the sword's resonance echoed again. Witnessing this, the cultivator's face paled, and he turned to flee. Many cultivators nearby, who had initially considered approaching her, were deterred by the display of her ruthless strength. Jiang Chen sighed softly at the scene. This girl, why has her demeanor grown increasingly frigid? He had intended to leisurely stroll and unwind, yet Nan Xinyue's beauty brought about such inconveniences. Along the way, several had attempted to engage her, and Jiang Chen had no doubt that had he not intervened, she might have unleashed a massacre. As dusk crept in, he decided it was best to find an inn for the night. Dear disciple, let us rest here for the night. We shall reach the ghostly forest tomorrow. In their guest room, Jiang Chen reclined on the wooden bed, closing his eyes to cultivate a sense of drowsiness while secretly contemplating his future plans. Nan Xinyue was eager to grow stronger, and he too felt the urgency to fulfill his final task in this life. During this descent from the mountain, he must ensure that Nan Xinyue breaks through to the spirit sea realm, allowing her to cultivate the sacred technique, the Xianbing Ju. As for how to fully restore her Xianbing sacred body, or even awaken it, he had yet to devise a strategy. After pondering these thoughts for a long while, he eventually drifted into a deep slumber. The following day, for the first time, Jiang Chen awoke without the benefit of a natural sunrise. Before venturing into the ghostly forest, there remains a myriad of preparations to undertake. After a brief inquiry with the innkeeper, Jiang Chen escorted Nan Xinyue to an auction house. Touted as the largest in Qingshui town, a venue that seamlessly combines auctions and free exchanges. Outside the auction house, Nan Xinyue inquired, "Master, what brings us here?" "This trip may prolong our stay within the ghostly forest, necessitating some medicinal elixirs. Additionally, your internal injuries must be addressed. Although the inner core of the fire demon ape absorbed much of the chilling energy, a complete resolution is essential." With that, Jiang Chen produced a white veil from his robes for Nan Xinyue to wear. There was no alternative. The allure of her visage was simply too potent. Inside the auction house, the first floor resembled a bustling market with stalls for free exchanges, while the second floor was designated for auctions. After wandering the first floor for a while, Jiang Chen acquired some elixirs for restoring spiritual energy and treating daily wounds. At one stall, he noticed a fourth-tier fire attribute beast core. Though it paled in comparison to that of the fire demon ape, it would serve as a useful reserve. "Oh, if it isn't the esteemed leader of the Jiang family, what brings you to this humble place instead of languishing at your Xiefeng peak?" A mocking voice echoed from a short distance away, and soon a group approached Jiang Chen. Before him stood several disciples from the Yujian peak of Tianxin sect. Remarkably, the leader was a familiar figure, one Jiang Chen had encountered during his hunt for the fire demon ape. A disciple who had previously engaged in a verbal spat with him and had been left trembling on the ground. Jiang Chen was somewhat astonished. He had surmised that those, like this individual, would have fallen prey to the beasts, yet here he was, alive and well. Returning his focus, Jiang Chen chose to disregard the petty provocations. Gesturing towards the beast core and addressing the stall owner, "What is the price for this core?" 800 spirit stones, or a volume of earth-tier profound technique. The owner replied. While Jiang Chen was not lacking in spirit stones, he was mindful of his expenditure, especially considering that the Super Gathering Spirit Array and Nan Xinyue were both voracious consumers of spirit stones. Observing Jiang Chen's silence, the disciple from Yujian Peak could not resist taunting him further. "Surely the esteemed leader of Lingfeng can spare a mere handful of spirit stones? Ah, I forget. Xiefeng Peak has dwindled to nothing but a mere hill." Laughter erupted from the group, and upon hearing their derision, a glint of cold fury flashed in Nan Xinyue's serene eyes as her delicate hand instinctively grasped the hilt of her sword. This subtle movement caught the attention of the disciple named Gao Ning. "Ah, so you are the infamous Ice Mountain demonist that has been the talk of the sect?" After appraising Nan Xinyue with a disdainful glance, Gao Ning sneered, "The worthless lot from Kongming Peak cannot even manage a mere girl like you." As Jiang Chen pondered the true value of the beast core, he found himself increasingly irritable, akin to a fly buzzing incessantly near his ear. Is it customary for the people of Jade Sword Peak to be so talkative? Upon hearing this, Gao Ning's expression suddenly turned peculiar, as he felt an inexplicable familiarity in Jiang Chen's tone. In a moment of realization, his demeanor shifted dramatically, yet he shook his head repeatedly, deeming his thoughts too absurd. Murmuring to himself, "Impossible. How could this useless one be that formidable figure? If it were true, I would have been dead long ago." As he mumbled, Jiang Chen, despite the pain, handed over 800 spirit stones to the proprietor. While somewhat pricey, it was worth every coin spent on his beloved disciple. Upon calculation, he found himself with merely over 90,000 spirit stones, feeling an overwhelming sense of poverty. Witnessing Jiang Chen produce 800 spirit stones in one breath, several disciples of Jade Sword Peak expressed their astonishment. "Ah, what grandiosity from the Peak Master Jiang. Surely, these 800 spirit stones cannot represent the entirety of his wealth?" "Peak Master Jiang, has your mind slipped? 800 spirit stones for such a mediocre fourth-grade inner pill?" Sighing, they continued. "Who would have thought our Peak Master Jiang is not only a useless cultivator, but also lacking in judgment?" As they jested, consistently referring to Jiang Chen as Peak Master, the cold glint of killing intent flickered in Nan Xinyue's icy gaze. In that fleeting moment, as the steel blade 0.1 was drawn, she recalled Jiang Chen's earlier instructions and turned her gaze towards him. "Beloved disciple, we are of the same sect. Do take it easy," Jiang Chen casually remarked. Within the sect, He might have advised Nan Xinyue to temper her actions to spare Wang Daolin some discomfort. However, outside of the heavenly profound sect, would he allow a few insignificant characters to prance before him? Having received Jiang Chen's approval, Nan Xinyue was about to make her move when an unexpected disturbance arose. A shrill voice pierced the air. I wondered what that foul stench was from afar. Turns out it emanates from the people of the heavenly profound sect. Following the source of the voice, several cultivators approached, led by a man with an effeminate appearance, indistinguishable in gender, covering his nose with his fingers and regarding Gao Ning and the others with disdain. The appearance of this effeminate man caused Gao Ning and his companions to scowl, unwilling to back down as they retaliated verbally. I thought it was someone significant. Turns out it is the two-faced man of Xinglan's sect, Qin Langtian. Were you not attending the Northern Domain's secret realm? Ah, right. I heard that during the quest for opportunities, you were pursued for days by our Jade Sword Peak's chief disciple, ultimately being forced to withdraw. No wonder you have the time to wander here. His words struck a nerve, and a flash of murderous intent crossed Qin Longtian's delicate features. You seeking death? Sensing the overwhelming spiritual energy within Qin Langtian, Gao Ning felt a twinge of fear. While they could jest, in true combat, they would be no match for him. Observing Gao Ning's retreat, Qin Langtian scoffed and strode confidently to the stall. Do you have a 4th-grade fire attribute in her pill? Qin Langtian inquired. Recognizing Qin Longtian's identity, the proprietor responded courteously, indeed. We do have such an item. However, it is unfortunate that it has already been purchased by that young gentleman. Jiang Chen surveyed his surroundings, finding nothing of interest, and called out to Nan Xinyue, intending to depart. Stop. Suddenly, the voice of Qin Langtian emerged from behind. Upon hearing this, Jiang Chen halted, glanced back, and replied. Is there something you need? I want the 4th-tier fire attribute inner core in your possession. Name your price. Jiang Chen chuckled, nodding in agreement. Sure, 8,000 spirit stones. Qin Longtian's lips twitched, his delicate features darkening. Kid, you bought it for 800 spirit stones, and you expect me to pay 8,000? Without spirit stones. Your words are meaningless. Disregarding Qin Langtian entirely, Jiang Chen turned to leave. 1,000 spirit stones, give me the inner core. This is your final chance, Qin Langtian said. Retrieving spirit stones from his storage ring, his tone heavy with malice. As Qin Langtian directed his hostility towards Jiang Chen, the onlooker Gao Ning fanned the flames. Chief Jiang, you are the master of the Listening Snow Peak in our Tianxin sect. Can you not display some of that master's authority? Don't embarrass our sect. Upon learning Jiang Chen's identity, Qin Longtian's expression morphed into something peculiar as he scrutinized Jiang Chen. Listening Snow Peak? So, you are that useless Jiang Chen. After a disdainful chuckle, Qin Langtian put away the spirit stones. Since you are also from the Tianxin sect, I have changed my mind. Hand over the spirit stones. And then kneel and slap yourself 10 times. I will allow you to leave. Jiang Chen's expression turned strange, his gaze fixed on Qin Langtian, before he uttered, a foolish, mediocre man. Qin Langtian, unable to comprehend, sensed the disdain in Jiang Chen's eyes and tone, knowing it was far from a compliment. My dear disciple, let us go. After beckoning to Nan Xinyue, Jiang Chen turned to leave. Kid, leave the item behind. Qin Langtian snorted coldly, advancing swiftly. His palm arched like a claw aimed directly at Jiang Chen's back. Gao Ning and the others hurriedly retreated, fearful of being caught in the fray. Buzz. The sound of a sword echoed as Nan Xinyue's figure instantly appeared before Jiang Chen, her sword blocking Qin Longtian's strike. Little girl, are you seeking death? Qin Longtian's delicate features twisted into a snarl as he retaliated with a palm aimed at Nan Xinyue's face. Boom. In an instant, Nan Xinyue gathered her profound ice spiritual energy in her palm, clashing with Qin Longtian's strike. Though she managed to block the attack, a muffled groan escaped her lips beneath her veil as she staggered back several steps. In contrast, Qin Langtian remained unperturbed, an undeniable excitement gleaming in his eyes as he beheld the layer of fine frost on his palm, trembling with exhilaration. His gaze towards Nan Xinyue akin to that of a predator eyeing its prey, filled with desire. Jiang Chen's expression darkened upon witnessing this. To bully his beloved disciple before his eyes? This was intolerable. If he did not deliver a comprehensive retribution upon this insipid dandy, he would feel unworthy to continue as her master.